Chapter 1 Pure Love God of War, ye bone worry too much. In the middle of the night, the kingdom of Nyorake is full of flames. The crisp sound of clashing fine iron, the sound of shouting and killing, and the sound of wailing broke the inherent tranquility of the night. A group of more than 100 pirates is advancing towards the palace of Nyorake Kingdom. The kingdom soldiers who came to stop them were slashed and killed by them. Little ones, work harder, the palace is right in front of us. As long as we kill them all the treasures in the kingdom's treasury will be ours. Wearing a blue captain's costume and holding a big knife, the pirate yelled at the hundreds of crew members around him. With this shout, the morale of the crew members soared like chicken blood, and they raised their weapons and shouted, "Treasure! Treasure! Kill them all! Come on!" Seeing the high morale of his men, the captain also had an excited smile on his face. Attacking the kingdom, this is really a crazy move? If it were before, they would not even dare to think about it. After all, there are more than 100 people, and they are no more than the kingdom's teeth. But this time is different. They have internal support, or it is more appropriate to have the support of former royal family members. Sure enough, it's much easier to attack according to the route given by Van Jins. According to this progress, we will soon be able to break into the palace. The treasury's treasure will soon be mine. Saying so, the captain quickened his pace and followed the attacking team. At the same time, in the palace, a young man wearing a crown and gorgeous clothes was standing in front of the window, looking at the place where the battle took place. Has my brother not appeared yet? Hearing this, the young people are behind. A middle-aged man with a fat body suddenly said with a flattering face, "Van Jins, I think he has been frightened out of his wits. Once the old king dies, he will lose his protection. How dare he appear in front of you now?" Hearing the middle-aged man's words, a smile appeared on the young man's face. His eyes turned to the place where the battle took place again. It's a pity. Fortunately, I specially prepared a big gift for him. If he doesn't show up, it will be boring. With that said, the young man turned his head to look at the middle-aged man behind him, and said lightly, "Let the ambushing soldiers go out, those despicable pirates are really disgusting." "Yes." The middle-aged man responded and stepped back quickly. At the same time, in a house in the town, Van Jins, or Zhangzhe, is standing by the window at the moment, admiring the fires in the city. Beside him stood a young man with a long knife on his back. At the rear, there stood a man and a woman, and 2 guards in armor. A series of prompts from the system kept echoing in Zhangzhe's mind. Ding! Congratulations to host for getting +2 combat value. Ding! Congratulations to host for gaining combat value +5. Ding! Congratulations to host for getting +1 combat value. Host Zhangzhe. Battle value, 147. Ability, Armament Haki, top. Observation Haki, top. Conqueror's Haki, top. Skills, Swordsmanship, Advanced. Physical Art, Advanced. Item, none. Warrior, Yuguyutai, to obtain the Blessing of the Battle. Blessing of Conquest, the strength is enhanced, and the top-level armed color and top-level knowledge color are mastered. Lottery entrance. It was also when Zhangzhe was looking at his own property panel. The guard named Darth standing behind him suddenly spoke persuasively. "Your Highness, let's evacuate quickly. His Highness Tryon has almost controlled the entire kingdom. With our current strength, we cannot defeat him." Hearing this, the female guard named Erica also echoed. "Yes, Your Highness, the most important thing is that you are alive, and Princess Elsa's painstaking efforts cannot be wasted." Hearing the persuasion of the 2 guards, Zhangzhe turned his head calmly. "Don't call me Your Highness anymore, the king has already expelled me from the royal family. And, I even gave myself a new name, called Zhangzhe, isn't it nice?" Zhangzhe, that was his name before time travel. But when the 2 guards heard this, their pupils shrank in fright, and they exclaimed in surprise, "His Royal Highness Van Jinsi? This is not acceptable. How can you give up on yourself? You acted too impulsively, His Majesty the King wanted to protect you. It's imperative to do so." Zhangzhe frowned, glanced at the 2 noisy guards, and didn't bother to talk to them anymore. A few months ago, he traveled across to this world of pirates that he is all too familiar with. Became the eldest prince of Nyorake Kingdom, Van Jinsi Nyorake. There is also a brother and a sister. The younger brother is called Tryon Nyorake, and the younger sister is Elsa Nyorake. Tryon and Vankins have been vying for the crown prince position. As the eldest son, Van Jins has a natural advantage, but Tryon's voice is not small. Both of them are vying for and calculating each other openly and secretly. After Zhangzhe came to this world and took over Van Jin's body, the situation began to change drastically. Zhangzhe broke Vankins' original cautious style of acting, and became freewheeling. And this was also seized by Tryon, who repeatedly calculated Zhangzhe. Although Zhangzhe is not interested in the position of crown prince, being calculated all the time also makes him a little annoyed. Zhangzhe, who was busy collecting information and confirming the world, had no time to deal with Tryon's mess. And this also caused the people of the Tryon faction to become more and more rampant. Even people from the Fanjins faction defected to Tryon's men because of this. It was nothing. After all, Zhangzhe didn't care if these people went or stayed. Until the arrival of a banquet, Zhangzhe, who had not made any obvious movements, was regarded as a paper tiger by the ministers of the Tryon faction. Even with the status of the eldest prince, they still dare to openly ridicule Zhangzhe. If it were Van Jins, maybe he would have to endure it. After all, Tryon was stronger than others, and Vankins could not take advantage of it, and he might be caught if he was not careful. If you want the throne of the king, you have to be patient, and you can't be arrogant. But Zhang Jie, who doesn't care about the throne himself, is different. Being so blatantly ridiculed, how could he be so angry? He drew his sword and chopped off the heads of 4 or 5 ministers on the spot. If it wasn't for being stopped by the guards, all those ministers who were nagging would have been hacked to death by Zhang Jie. As for the consequences of killing the minister, it was Zhang Jie who was accused and scolded by many ministers, and then the king was furious and expelled Zhang Jie from the royal family to calm down. In the battle between the two for the crown prince position, Tryon finally declared victory. This is not over yet. After Zhang Jie was expelled from the royal family, Tryon started to act secretly again. And within a month, they sent people one after another, trying to kill Zhang Jie secretly. But unfortunately, the people sent by Tryon were not only killed by Zhang Jie and his guards. It also allowed Zhang Jie to obtain a large number of conquest points and the top conqueror's haki, and at the same time summoned a conqueror from all worlds, the pure love god of war Yi Gu Yutai. Tryon saw that the dark power could not kill Zhang Jie, so he murdered the king and put the blame on Zhang Jie. It is said that Zhang Jie had a grudge and assassinated the king. Then he clearly dispatched troops to chase and kill Zhang Jie. As soon as the news of the king's death came out this morning, Tryon simultaneously closed the ports he entered and exited, restricting all ships from leaving. And there is a curfew in the whole city. No one can go out at night until Zhang Jie is caught. Chapter 2 Conqueror. Seeing that Zhang Jie was indifferent to persuasion, Erica turned her attention to Yi Gu Yutai, who was beside Zhang Jie. Hey, you also say a few words to persuade your highness. Yi Gia, who was lying on the gun suddenly, was too stunned, as if he couldn't react. Then he pointed to himself, and confirmed to Erica with some doubts. Seeing that it was at this juncture, Yi Giaota still looked like he didn't understand the situation. Erica suddenly became even more annoyed. Who else could it be if it wasn't you? I really don't understand. How did you come to his highness's side, and how could his highness take a fancy to such a fool like you? Listening to Erica's complaints, Yi Giaota was not angry, but just smiled awkwardly. I don't know what to say, and I think, don't you need to run? You. Erica panicked. But before she finished speaking, Zhang Jie interrupted in a cold voice. Give me some peace. Erica gritted her teeth, and finally could only wave her hands angrily. As for Zhang Jie, he looked sideways at Yi Gu Yutai and reminded him. It's not good for you to look harmless to humans and animals. It will make people think you are easy to bully. Yi Gu Yutai was slightly taken aback, somewhat puzzled. It's easy to bully? No one will bully me, right? Zhang Jie looked at Yi Gu Yutai in silence. Oh, well, I was worrying too much. Your heart is bigger than the sky. Sighing silently in his heart, Zhang Jie looked back at the town full of flames. After hearing Zhang Jie's words, Erica in the rear almost vomited blood. What is bullying? When did you bully that kid? And this guy who has only been here for less than a month, what is he? Why can you get his highness's favor? How long has he been here? His highness is protecting him everywhere. My protection for 7 or 8 years can't compare to this kid's few words of slander. Thinking of this, Erica was even more dissatisfied. Your highness, please forgive me, you don't really want to use those pirates to bring down his highness Tryon, do you? Not to mention how weak those despicable pirates are. How could they be able to defeat the kingdom's army with more than 100 of them? Just sending out a night order by the way is enough to wipe out all these pirates. Listening to Erica, who was still chattering, Zhang Jie was obviously a little upset. But seeing that she had been faithfully serving him during the past few months of his arrival, Zhang Jie still held back the idea of shutting her up completely. The pirate group of more than 100 people really has an indistinct relationship with Zhang Jie, because he was the one who encouraged those pirates to attack the palace. But it would be wrong to say that Zhang Jie wanted to rely on their strength. Zhang Jie and the pirates are obviously allies. But in fact, Zhang Jie didn't take them seriously at all. In Zhang Jie's eyes, these pirates were not even cannon fodder. The reason why they were encouraged to attack the palace was just because of Zhang Jie's whim and wanted to see the outbreak of war. All of this is out of interest. If Zhang Jie has any capital to be so rampant, then his own strength is his capital, and the top conqueror's haki is his capital. Yi Gu Yutai is his capital? In the past few months in Nyorake, Zhang Jie has long been clear about the level of the kingdom's strength. In the huge kingdom, there is not even a single person who has mastered haki. Not to mention that Yi Gu is too worried. Even Zhang Jie has enough strength and confidence to destroy this entire country. In the face of absolute strength, no matter how many soldiers and horses there are, it is just a number. Just at this time, the system prompt that had been echoing in Zhang Jie's mind suddenly disappeared. Zhang Jie immediately understood that the pirate group of more than 100 people was probably killed by the army of the kingdom. A smile appeared on his face, and Zhang Jie checked his attribute panel again. At this time, the battle value has exceeded 200, reaching 213. It took more than 100 people to produce this combat value. They are weak enough. Zhang Jie murmured to himself. The more intense the battle and the stronger the enemy, the more battle points the system will give back. Zhang Jie has already figured out this point. However, although both the pirates and the kingdom are weak, at least they have produced a little bit of value. More than 200 battle points, just enough for him to draw a prize once. Entering the lottery page of the system, Zhang Jie decisively started the lottery draw. Ding! Battle value -200. Ding! Congratulations to host for summoning the conqueror from Hokage world, Uchiha Obito. Ding! Congratulations to host for obtaining the ability of conqueror, Kamui space. Host Zhangzhe. Battle value, 13. Ability, Armament Haki, top, Observation Haki, top, Conqueror's Haki, top. Skills, Swordsmanship, Advanced, Physical Art, Advanced. Item, none. Conqueror, Obito Yuta, Uchiha Obito. Lottery entrance. Chapter 3 White Mask, Obito is here? Hearing the series of prompts from the system, a smile appeared on Zhangzhe's face. Although one of the abilities of the conqueror can be obtained, it is within Zhangzhe's expectation. But it was undoubtedly a big surprise to get the Kamui space. Coupled with Yu Guyutai's reversal technique, Zhangzhe has mastered 2 heaven-defying abilities. There are also 2 powerful fighters, Obito and Yuta. Even if you face one of the 4 emperors, even if you can't beat the opponent's entire group, it's completely useless. Now that the group of pirates can no longer fight, it's time for them to leave. Put an end to this matter. In the kingdom of Norarake, the delay has been too long. During this time, Zhangzhe has not left Norarake. One is because Tryon has not been killed yet, and the other is because of bad taste. He wanted Tryon to feel the joy that the victory was right in front of him, the throne was right in front of him, and the mountain top was right in front of him. Then, destroy his joy and hope together. He stepped on Tryon, who was about to reach the top of the mountain, and plunged into the abyss. Presumably at that time, Tryon's expression should be very interesting, right? Thoughts fluctuate in my heart. A playful smile appeared on Zhangzhe's face. Let's go, it's time for us to play. Zhangzhe turned around slowly and walked out of the room. Seeing this, Yi Guyutai followed immediately. But Erika and Das on the side were stunned. Walk? Appearance? Where is this going? With doubts in his mind, Das asked quickly. Your Highness? Where are you going? Erika on the side also wanted to ask. But before she could speak, Zhangzhe's flat voice came over. The royal palace? Go and meet my filial brother. Hearing this, both Erika and Das were stunned for a moment, wondering if they heard it wrong. But when they saw Zhangzhe open the door and walk towards the palace, they reacted immediately, and they heard correctly. Thinking of Zhangzhe going to the palace like this, both Erika and Darth were so frightened that their hearts jumped into their throats. Don't care too much anymore, the two hurriedly followed up and persuaded. Your Highness? No, if you go to the palace now, you are going to die. Yes, Your Highness? His Highness Tryon has been looking for you. If you appear in the palace, he will definitely not let you go. Don't forget, you are still charged with patricide. What you should do now is to leave Norarake, and then look for opportunities to prove your innocence, expose the truth of the matter, and bring down Tryon. Listening to the chattering words of Erika and Das, the impatient Zhangzhe stopped walking towards the palace, looked back at the two of them sideways and said indifferently, You don't have to follow me anymore. From now on, you are free. Hearing this, Erika and Darth's expressions changed. In the next second, both of them raised their hands and beat their chests together, and retorted firmly, We don't need freedom. We are His Highness's people by birth, and His Highness's ghosts when we die. It doesn't matter if we die, but Your Highness, you can't do anything. Looking at the look of the two of them dying, Yi Guyutai scratched his face in embarrassment, and said, Actually, it's just that Otoko Yuta hasn't finished talking yet. Erika snorted. Shut up? Is that the Highness you bewitched? I'll kill you right now. After saying that, Erika was about to pull out the long sword hanging from her waist. Clang. Yi Guyutai also changed his face at this moment, and said hastily, Rika, don't come here. It's okay, I'll take care of it. Also at the same moment, Erika felt a chill run down her spine, but in the next second, it disappeared again. Otoko Yuta also breathed a sigh of relief at this moment. But Erika, who didn't know why, still wanted to make the next move. Zhangzhe, who discovered this, immediately said in a cold voice, Stop it, Erika. Seeing that even at such a time, Zhangzhe still has to protect Yi Guyutai and stop himself, Erika suddenly shouted with grievances in her heart, Your Highness. However, Zhangzhe's face remained calm. Don't make me repeat. If you want to follow, you have to obey me. You are not allowed to act without my order. If you want to leave, feel free, I won't stop you. Seeing that the atmosphere was not quite right, Das gently tugged on Erika and called out, Erika, calm down. Glancing sideways at Darth, Erika gritted her teeth, finally put down her sword, and lowered her head in disappointment. It is also at this time. In the dark alleyway beside him, there was a sudden sound of gentle footsteps. Da-da-da. Hearing the movement, Erika and Darth were both startled. In the next second, Erika ran to Zhangzhe's side with a long sword in hand, and reminded him with a vigilant expression, Your Highness, be careful, someone is coming this way. Right now is the time of curfew in the whole city. According to the order issued by Tryon, no one is allowed to go out at night. At this time, there are still footsteps and people wandering around, so it is probably not a good person. However, the person who heard the sound of footsteps has not yet arrived. Zhangzhe opened his mouth to explain. Don't be so nervous, it's one of your own. Erika froze for a moment, a little unresponsive. But in the alley, a person walked out at this moment. The man was wearing a white mask and a light blue long windbreaker. Under the mask, His right eye was bright red with hooks, and his left eye was lavender with circles of black wheel patterns. And this person is Uchiha Obito? Those red and purple pupils are also Sharingan and Rinnegan? Chapter 4 Where are you going? Seeing Erika so nervous, Obito raised his hand to say hello, and said in a calm voice, "Relax, I'm not the enemy." However, even Obito will explain. But Erika still didn't let go of her vigilance, her brows were tightly furrowed, and Erika was a little surprised and uncertain. Perhaps because of the mask on Obito's face, Erika instinctively felt that this person in front of her was not a good thing. At the same time, because Obito is somewhat mysterious, Erika's intuition is warning, telling her that this person in front of her is very dangerous. Where did this guy come from? I've been by your highness's side for so long, but I never remember when your highness came into contact with this kind of guy. Is it because of him? Thinking so in her heart, Erika subconsciously looked at Otoko Yuta at the side. With that look, Yiguyutai couldn't help being stunned for a moment, a little embarrassed. Although I found the vigilance and puzzlement in Erika's heart. But Zhang Jie doesn't have the heart to explain anything now. Well, here we are. Go, I've been here long enough. As he said that, Zhang Jie ignored him and walked towards the palace. Yugi Ota and Obito didn't say much, just followed Zhang Jie's pace. But Erika and Das were stunned after hearing Zhang Jie's words. Is everyone here? Only 5? Just go to the palace like this? To meet Tryon who controls the army of the entire kingdom. Isn't this going to die? Thinking of this, Das swallowed subconsciously, approached Erika and whispered, "Alas, is your highness really crazy? There are only 5 people in total? Going to challenge his highness Tryon? This is clearly going to die." From the moment Zhang Jie said he was going to the palace, Das felt that Zhang Jie was crazy. But after thinking about it, he might have something behind him. But right now, it doesn't look like that. Just 5 people going to challenge the army of the entire kingdom will definitely die? It seemed that he had sensed Darth's worry. Erika subconsciously turned her head to look at the back of Zhang Jie and others leaving. The 3 of them walked forward in such an unhurried manner, as if they didn't care about whether they and Darth would stay or stay. Seeing that Erika hadn't made a sound for a long time, Das couldn't help calling out again. "Hey, Erika, say something?" This time, Erika interrupted directly before Das finished speaking. I'm going to follow your highness. Even if his highness is going to die, I will not leave, let alone let him die before me. What you want is up to you." Erika watched Zhang Jie's back, her words were extremely firm. He didn't say anything more to Das, and started to catch up with Zhang Jie and the others. Seeing Erika like this, Das had no choice but to grit his teeth and shout, and quickly followed. "Hey, wait for me." Under the leadership of Zhang Jie, the team of 5 headed towards the palace. Just when Zhang Jie and others had been walking for half an hour, from the corner of his eye, Zhang Jie suddenly caught a glimpse of 3 figures running quickly at the intersection of an alley not far from the main street. With just one glance, Zhang Jie recognized the 3 men in black who flashed by. But Zhang Jie didn't say hello, but continued to move towards the palace as if he didn't see it. Same moment, the leader of the 3-person team galloped past the fork in the alley, and suddenly stopped running at this moment. Subconsciously, he turned his head and looked in the direction of Zhang Jie and others. As the leader stopped, the men in black who followed on both sides also stopped, and asked in a puzzled way, "What's wrong?" The inquiries from the men in black on both sides did not receive an immediate reply. The leading man in black stared in the direction of Zhang Jie and the others, thinking for a moment in silence. After a while, he smiled and shook his head and replied, "No, it's nothing, let's continue on our way." Saying that, the leading man in black started to run again. But the group of people and figures she saw just now are still lingering in her mind. Suddenly, when the 3 of them ran a distance of about 100 meters, the figure of a young man suddenly appeared in the mind of the leading man in black. And this also caused the pupils of the leading man in black to contract sharply uncontrollably. Immediately afterwards, she turned around without warning, ran back, and ran out towards the main street. The 2 men in black who followed her were also shocked when they saw this scene, and shouted in a hurry, "Where are you going?" However, the leading man in black didn't answer them. Instead, he ran to the street, tore off the hat he was wearing, and shouted at Zhang Jie and his group who were going further and further away. "Where are you going? Big brother." Chapter 5 Children will have nightmares when they read it. Hearing this familiar voice, Erika and Darth, who were walking at the end of the line, were both taken aback. This voice is Princess Elsa. Erika was startled and turned her head quickly. Immediately afterwards, she saw Elsa wearing night clothes and standing on the main street. The 2 guards following Elsa. After hearing Elsa yell out the words brother and lord, she couldn't help being stunned. Brother? That's His Royal Highness Fankins. Why is he here? That direction is heading for the palace, right? Shouldn't he be going to the port and leaving New Rake? The 2 guards were a little surprised. Elsa stared closely at the back of Zhang Jie who was rushing towards the palace. "I can't be wrong. I can't admit my mistake. That figure from the back is my brother." Elsa affirmed it over and over again in her heart, at the same time waiting for Zhang Jie's return. It's a pity that Elsa who was waiting didn't get a response from Zhang Jie. Zhang Jie didn't even stop to look back at Elsa even once. His pace is not slowing down, and his goal is clear, only the palace. Seeing that Zhang Jie didn't stop for a long time, Das was also a little anxious, and hurried forward to remind him. Your Highness, it's Princess Elsa. Princess Elsa is calling for you. I know. Zhang Jie responded lightly without even looking at Das. How could Zhang Jie not know what they all knew? At the fork in the alley, Zhang Jie had already recognized Elsa. Didn't say hello, just didn't want to meet her. Because once they meet, things will become troublesome, and noisy persuasion will definitely chatter. Zhang Jie didn't want to listen to these troublesome nagging. Right now, he just wants to kill Tryon, end the affairs of Nyorake's palace, and then go to sea. As for the king or something, Zhang Jie doesn't care at all. Seeing that Zhang Jie didn't intend to stop, Das didn't dare to say anything more. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and follow Zhang Jie's pace obediently. From the rear, seeing Zhang Jie did not respond to himself, Elsa was in a hurry immediately. Regardless of what was exposed or not, Elsa took a step and chased after Zhang Jie. Wait for me, brother. Sensing that Elsa was chasing after him, Zhang Jie had a headache. Although I don't have any affection for this cheap little sister, but that girl is really kind to her. After she was expelled from the royal family by the king, she provided almost all of her food, clothing, housing, and transportation, and she would tell herself immediately if there was any disturbance in the palace. And give yourself an idea on how to make the king happy and return to the royal family. Although, Zhang Jie didn't bother about how to make the king happy at all. But as soon as the king died, she rushed to her residence in person without stopping, rearranged a hiding place for himself, and set about arranging a ship to leave the kingdom. Because she understood that after Tryon attacked the king, she would definitely be the next one. When she left in the morning, she did not forget to tell herself not to go out, and to be careful of the patrolling guards, so as not to be spotted by them. Before this day came, she came to look for herself again. You can guess without thinking, it must be that she has not received the news of her evacuation for a long time. She was worried and rushed over. It seems to have seen Zhang Jie's troubles. Obito on the side looked at it, and then asked in a flat tone, should I stop them? Zhang Jie was lost in thought. After a while, he sighed softly. No, just let her nag for the last time. Obito stopped talking nonsense after hearing this. Elsa's shouts also moved from far to near under the passage of time. Brother, wait for me. When Elsa arrived at Zhang Jie's side, she was exhausted and out of breath. But Zhang Jie didn't stop or slow down because of this. Where are you going? Now the whole kingdom is under the control of the second brother. He has been looking for you and wants to kill you to stabilize his throne, Elsa said urgently. The meaning is obvious, it is to tell Zhang Jie that the whole country is under the control of Tryon, and now Norley is very dangerous, especially for him. However, Zhang Jie didn't care about it, and asked Elsa back. Tryon and I, who are you helping? Elsa is in a hurry. Going to see the second brother now will only lead to death in vain? Now that the army is under the control of the second brother, he will definitely not let you go. With a smile on Zhang Jie's face, he looked sideways at Elsa. So, you helped me. Elsa was about to cry, and her eyes immediately became moist. Don't be self-willed at this time, okay? Listen to me, leave Nyorake. As long as you leave here, you will be safe. Zhang Jie withdrew his gaze and said in a flat tone. Go back. Once you sleep, everything will be over. The next thing, children will have nightmares. Chapter 6 Let go of my worries? I'm not a child, I've grown up. I'm no longer the little girl who needed my elder brother to protect me. Elsa strongly refuted Zhang Jie's words. But Zhang Jie didn't care about it. Seeing that Zhang Jie didn't take in the oil and salt, and just refused to listen to persuasion, Elsa became even more anxious. I won't just stand by and watch you send me off. But this time, Zhang Jie hadn't waited for Elsa to finish speaking. Then she raised her hand to interrupt what she was about to say, and said leisurely, Give it up, Elsa. You can't persuade me, and you can't stop me. Zhang Jie's words are firm and unquestionable. This also made Elsa stunned for a moment, and she was about to cry. Why, brother, why can't you listen to my advice? If you go to the palace, you will really die. Second brother will not let you go. Just as Elsa's voice fell, a burst of dense footsteps suddenly came from the end of the main street. Da-da-da-da. This sudden change surprised Elsa, and she didn't bother to persuade Zhang Jie. Not good. It must be the patrolling guards coming this way. Let's leave quickly. With that said, Elsa was about to pull Zhang Jie away. But the moment when Elsa's hand touched Zhang Jie, Elsa's hand passed directly through Zhang Jie's. Seeing this sudden scene, Elsa's pupils couldn't help shrinking slightly for a while. Then he raised his head abruptly, looked at Zhang Jie in surprise and said, Brother. Zhang Jie's forward pace finally stopped at this moment. In front, about 20 or 30 patrolling guards wearing armor also spotted Zhang Jie and others at this moment. The leader was wearing a gold-plated armor with a knight's long sword on his waist. And this gold-plated armor is enough to show that he has an extraordinary status. Before Zhang Jie could speak, after discovering Zhang Jie, the knight in gold-plated armor, there was a burst of excited laughter. Ha ha ha, Fan Jins, you are here. Ha ha ha, this is really great. I am still wondering where to find you. I didn't expect you to come to the door yourself. While speaking, the leader had already pulled out the long sword at his waist. Seeing the appearance of the man who drew the sword clearly, Elsa's face also changed slightly. Tracy. Zhang Jie looked sideways at Elsa and asked, You know him? Your man. Elsa looked sideways at Zhang Jie, a little suspicious that Zhang Jie was joking with herself. Don't be kidding. He is one of the 3 most powerful fighters under the second brother. Even if his strength is in the entire kingdom, he can still be ranked. It was also the moment when Elsa's voice fell. Erika and Das immediately ran in front of Zhangzhe. Your Highness, you and the princess retreat first, and we will break the queen for you. Elsa also looked at her 2 guards. Lorna, Heidi. The 2 female guards took a step forward upon hearing this. Leave it to us. At this time, Zhangzhe also greeted calmly. Since they are from Tryon, there is no need to keep them, let's kill them all. Hearing this, Yi Guyutai, who was standing beside Zhangzhe, responded immediately. Clear. This answer made Obito, who was about to make a move, pause for a moment. Looking at Obito Yuta, who was removing the sword from his back, Obito thought about it and proposed. Why don't you let me end this battle directly? Yi Guyutai heard the words, waved his hand politely, and declined politely with a smile. No, don't bother you to do it, I will deal with them. Don't worry, it will be soon, just wait a moment. Yi Guyutai had a smile on his face, and he untied the long knife that had been carrying behind his back, and held it in his hand. Glancing at Tracy, Yi Gia strode forward. Even if the opponent has 20 or 30 people, he is not afraid at all. Clang. The long knife was unsheathed, and there was a pleasant trembling sound. However, Otoko Yuta hadn't taken a few steps when he was suddenly grabbed by Erika. Huh. Yi Gyauta looked at Erika with some doubts. But Erika looked at Yu Guyuta with a serious face, and said in a cold voice. This is not something you can handle, brat? Take your highness away now, and if something happens to your highness, I will be the first to let you go. Hearing Erika's words, Yi Guyutai blinked, and was a little dazed for a while, not knowing what to say. What are you still doing in a daze? Take your highness away. Erika yelled at Yi Gia too lowly. Although she finds Yi Guyutai very unpleasant, but she understood that Zhangzhe valued Yi Guyutai very much. Now Zhangzhe is unwilling to leave obediently. Erika can only ask Yi Guyutai to take Zhangzhe away, and hopes that Zhangzhe can leave. Watching Erika and Yi Gyauta have a dispute, Tracy was overjoyed. Ha ha ha, it seems that there is still a little conflict among you. This time, Tracy was only halfway through her words. A black shadow suddenly flashed past him. Shua. In the next second, Tracy's body was instantly divided into 4 or 5 sections, and the stumps and arms fell off the ground. Puff. Patter. The dark red blood sprayed out like a spring. The sticky lump of meat fell heavily to the ground. Ahem. Tracy coughed up blood. He looked at his stumped limbs and broken arms, and was a little absent-minded for a while. When he reacted, his face instantly became extremely terrified, and his pupils trembled violently like an earthquake. My body? My body. No, no, no. On the other side, Erika and the others also noticed the movement on Tracy's side. But before they turned their heads to look, a hoarse voice with boundless killing intent came leisurely. What are you doing? Let go of my Yoda. Chapter 8. No one was spared, the only one survived. This aura is very powerful. Obito rubbed his chin, observed Sato who appeared, and secretly weighed in his heart. With such a huge body, agility is not low at all, and its strength is surprisingly strong. What an amazing guy, Obito said leisurely while staring at Lixiang. There was a smile on the face under the white mask, and the hand rubbing his chin was slowly put down. On the side, besides Obito, Zhangzhe was also observing Lixiang. Unlike Obito, though, he's not concerned with Rika's strength, but why she's angry. Is it because Erika targeted Otoko Yuta intentionally or unintentionally that made Sadoka angry? Is it because of something else? Jealousy? Jealousy? Hate? These don't seem to make sense. It was also between Zhangzhe's wild thoughts. Otoko Yuta has successfully calmed Lixiang's emotions and made Lixiang quiet down. It was also at the same moment when Lixiang became quiet. Elsa tugged at the corner of Zhangzhe's clothes, and called out in a timid voice. Brother. Big brother? That monster. Zhangzhe turned his head slightly, looked at Elsa and said. Her name is Lixiang. Elsa froze for a moment. Lixiang. Zhangzhe nodded in affirmation. At this time, Lixiang retreated into the darkness again, and Otoko Yuta walked back towards Zhangzhe again. Looking at the figure of Otoko Yuta, Elsa felt a little sympathetic. Has he been with the monster? Lixiang all the time? Zhangzhe responded calmly, yes. Elsa, to control such a terrible monster, he must be very tired and in pain. Zhangzhe smiled and corrected, you are a bit rash, Elsa. Among them, there is no control over those messy things. The two of them are pure love. Elsa was stunned for a moment, and looked at Otoko Yuta who was walking towards this side in disbelief. Pure love. Without continuing the discourse, Zhangzhe turned to ask Elsa, ever wanted to be the king of Nurake? When Elsa heard this, her pupils suddenly shrank uncontrollably. All kinds of guesses and ideas fluctuated in her mind, so that Elsa was stunned in place. In the end, there was only one thought that kept circling in his mind. Why did brother ask this question? Is he jealous of me? Thinking that I also want to compete with him for the position of king. It seems to have seen through the thoughts in Elsa's mind. Zhangzhe explained in a calm tone. Tomorrow morning, I will leave Nurake. If you want to be the king of Nurake, then when the sun rises tomorrow, you will be the new king of Nurake. Of course, you can also choose to be an ordinary person, or keep the status quo. I have been kicked out of the royal family by the old king, and I am no longer your former brother. Maybe after tonight, you will have no one to rely on. let you be free to choose your own life, and be careful and bold to do what you want to do. Before I leave, I can give you the last gift. With that said, Zhang Jie stepped forward and walked out without waiting for Elsa to reply. Don't rush to answer me right away, I will go all the way to the palace along the main street. If you ever figure it out, you want to become the king of the Nyorake kingdom, come to me along the main street. If you don't want to, then don't follow. Thinking of Erika and Das, Zhang Jie turned his head to look at Erdeo again. You don't have to follow me anymore. From now on, you stay by Elsa's side, and protect her well. After that, Zhang Jie went straight to the palace. Yu Guida and Obito also glanced at Elsa and the others, then turned and followed Zhang Jie's pace. Quiet. An eerie silence. Elsa and the others were all in a daze. Beneath that dazed expression was a heart that had already set off a turbulent sea. What did I hear? His Royal Highness, you actually want Princess Elsa to be the queen of the kingdom of Nyorake. Is this serious? He doesn't want the position of king anymore. I'm not dreaming, are I? Both Rona and Heidi were shocked physically and mentally, but Elsa, who reacted, didn't even think about it, and chased after Zhang Jie directly. However, her purpose is not to be a king. Instead, first ask clearly, what does Zhang Jie mean by these words, and what does he want to do? What does it mean that as long as you think about it, you are the next king of Nyorake kingdom? What do you mean he's leaving Nyorake tomorrow? What would Nyorake do if he left? What should I do by myself? Wait for me? Brother, what do you want to do? What do those words mean? Elsa was calling and chasing after her. Erika, Darth, Lorna, and Heidi were also relieved by Elsa's shouts, chased towards Zhang Jie, Elsa, and others. But when Elsa caught up with Zhang Jie didn't give Elsa the answer she wanted to know. Instead, he said calmly as usual, no need to ask, no need to say, just follow and watch. Dead people are inevitable things on your way forward. What Zhang Jie said made Elsa hold back everything she wanted to say in her heart. Everyone walked along the main street, all the way to the palace. It seems that Li Xiang made a big commotion earlier, so many of the patrolling guards rushed over in this direction. But what awaited them and greeted them was nothing but despair. The guards came in groups, and died in groups. No one was spared, only one survived. Chapter 9 Ant-like guys. Slap. Slap. Gilu. Flesh and limbs fell off, and warm red blood gushed out. On the huge main street, there were corpses all over the floor, and even the stone brick floor on the street was stained red by blood. So much so that the whole area was filled with a strong and disgusting smell of blood. Elsa didn't say anything yet. It was Erika, Darth, Lorna, and Heidi, the 4 guards who had seen blood and killed people. After seeing such a bloody and cruel scene in front of him, his face was completely pale. I have a strong fear of Zhang Jie. At the same time, in the palace, as Zhang Jie's commotion grew louder and louder, Trian's side also got the news of his appearance smoothly. At this moment, Trian's face was full of excitement and excitement. Finally can't help it. Fan Jins, are you finally willing to come out? I have been looking for you for a long time, my dear brother. With a hideous face, Trian turned his head to look at the guard on the side. Go, get my armor, I will meet him myself. The guards didn't dare to be negligent when they heard the words, and turned around to get Trian's armor. But at this time, a knight commander came out and said, Your Majesty, I'm afraid it's not good for you to go in person. After all, since Van Jins dared to show up in a big way, it proves that he has something to rely on. Although the news from the front is a bit vague, it's not difficult to judge. Van Jins should have defeated several teams of patrolling guards one after another. Hearing that the knight commander was reasoning, Trian smiled indifferently. Of course I know that he has something to rely on, but so what? Now all the power in the kingdom is in my hands. He is just a Vangans. Even if he finds a bunch of pirates to act as thugs, he can't help me. What? This time, I will not only destroy all his hopes, but also cut off his head with my own hands. After that, Trian strode out. The knight commander at the side was silent for a moment and followed Trian's pace without saying anything, because he also felt that what Trian said made sense. With royal status and support, Vankins was no match for Trian. Not to mention that Vankins has no royal status now. A mere Van Jins, in front of Trian who holds a heavy army and controls the Nyorake kingdom, can't make any big waves. When Trian put on his armor, matched his sword, and came outside the palace, a large number of soldiers have already gathered outside. Seeing Trian approaching, the knight commander immediately greeted him. The men, horses, and soldiers have all been assembled. Trian glanced ahead, and the neatly lined soldiers nodded in satisfaction. With that said, Trian walked towards the front of the soldiers' array, towards the temporary podium. Looking at the densely packed soldiers below, Trian cleared his throat and spoke loudly. I believe you already know the current situation of the kingdom. That's right, the rebellious prince who killed His Majesty the King, Vankins, Nyorake is back. He didn't come back alone, he came back with the despicable pirates and the war. I came back for the king's crown. If this kind of person who kills his father and relatives becomes the king of Nyorake kingdom, it won't be long before the people of the kingdom will live in a fiery hell. Soldiers, tell me, would you like to see your family and friends suffer and suffer? As soon as these words came out, tens of thousands of soldiers present roared in unison. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. Trian nodded in satisfaction, and at the same time raised his hand to press down to show silence. Tens of thousands of soldiers also fell silent in an instant. Tryon also continued to speak. I don't want to see you suffer, and I don't want to see the people of New Rake suffer, and I don't want to see war. Because once there is a war, there will be bloodshed, and people will die. I don't want to see your family, your friends, crying because of your sacrifice. But, I can't help it. Vengeance came back with full hostility and war. If we don't resist, what awaits us will be a hellish life. Soldiers, tell me, are you willing to live in an area controlled by vengeance? Are you afraid of sacrifice? Don't want to. Don't be afraid. Don't want to. Don't be afraid. The soldiers shouted in unison. Tryon struck while the iron was hot, continued to boost morale, and shouted. Very good. You are warriors, the pride of the kingdom, and mine. Your bravery will be remembered. Your long spear will definitely be able to defeat Vanjin's ambition. Soldiers, fight. Soldiers, forward. In the name of the kingdom of New Rake, initiate a trial against the Vanjin's rebel army. Tryon raised his head to the sky and roared angrily. However, it was also the moment when his shout fell. A loud noise suddenly came from one side. Boom, boom. The wall surrounding the palace suddenly collapsed at this moment. Even a wall that was several meters long was thrown several meters away by the whole piece, and fell heavily not far from the army. Boom. At this moment, the earth trembled slightly. Thick smoke and dust rose up. On the podium, Tryon froze in place. What happened? The wall collapsed. Tryon murmured in disbelief. The knight commander and a group of guards who reacted around him immediately protected Tryon behind him. Someone is coming. From the looks of it, it seems that the person who came is not good. The knight commander reminded with a solemn face. It was also at this moment that several figures appeared in the thick dust and mist. A flat voice also came out from the dust and mist. It's really a grand scene. I can hear your voices from a long distance away. As the sound came out, it was very fast. The figure of Zhangzhe came out slowly from the dust and mist. The moment he saw the person coming, it turned out to be Vanjin's. Tryon's pupils suddenly contracted uncontrollably. He exclaimed in disbelief. Vanjin's? Why are you here? How did you come here? There was a faint smile on Zhangzhe's face. He glanced at the soldiers gathered at the scene. It was densely packed, at least tens of thousands of people, and they were all staring at themselves. When Tryon said that he was Vankin's, a bit of cold light flashed in their eyes more or less. Obviously, Tryon should have instilled a lot of things in them, making them hate him. However, even so, Zhangzhe was not afraid at all. A sinister smile appeared on his face. Zhangzhe looked at Tryon on the podium, and even the tens of thousands of soldiers assembled here, and joked. Didn't you say you were going to judge me? I'm standing here now, come if you have the ability. Ant-like guys. Dada. Zhangzhe's voice just fell. The figures of Obito Yuta and Uchiha Obito came out from the dust at the same time. Stand still on the left and right sides of Zhangzhe, facing the tens of thousands of soldiers assembled in front of you. Chapter 10. Dare to talk to me like that? Is your mother a wholesaler? In the rear, along with Otoko Yuta and Uchiha Obito walked out of the dust and fog. Elsa and the others also came out of the dust cloud one after another. But when they just walked out of the dust and mist, they saw the scene in front of them, and saw the tens of thousands of soldiers who were watching them. The bodies of Elsa and the others froze in place on the spot. The pupils trembled violently like an earthquake. Here, where is it? Are we in the wrong place? Heidi looked around and her voice trembled a little. Thinking of what Zhangzhe just said, their bodies suddenly trembled violently like chaff, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Die. Why are there so many soldiers here? In the palace, when did there suddenly appear a training ground? And His Royal Highness Fankins. Did he not see it, or is he crazy? He said that kind of thing. There are tens of thousands of people here, each spit can drown us, how dare he provoke them like this? Lorna looked at Zhangzhe's back, and swallowed in fear. At the same time, she leaned slightly towards Elsa. At such a close distance, they could naturally hear what Zhangzhe said earlier. The visible line of sight was obstructed by the dense dust and mist, so much so that they didn't see the scene outside the dust mist immediately. So at the beginning, they didn't react too much, and even ignored it automatically. But when they saw so many soldiers in front of them, they couldn't ignore them even if they wanted to. The other side. After hearing Zhangzhe's words, Tryon was not angry either. In his opinion, what Zhangzhe was doing was nothing more than a moment of quick talk, which was meaningless at all. I hold an army of tens of thousands in my hands, and it is right in front of me. The advantage is mine. Thinking of this, Tryon became more calm and composed. When I heard that you defeated several teams of patrolling guards one after another, I thought that you brought a lot of troops. But now it seems that I think highly of you. Zhangzhe asked back with a playful face. To deal with you, you still need to summon troops. You don't take yourself too seriously, do you? Tryon frowned, his tone a little displeased. Fanjins? After being kicked out of the royal family by the father, you were beaten stupid, are you out of your mind? What kind of life have you lived during this period of time, and what is your own strength? Don't you know it yourself? Zhangzhe smiled, and walked directly towards Tryon. Elsa on the side was startled when she saw this, and hurried forward to hold Zhangzhe. Brother, cold. However, before Elsa got close to Zhangzhe, Obito stopped in front of Elsa, and said lightly, it's better for you to be a little quiet and don't get in the way. Your Highness. Elsa was a little annoyed when she saw this. you guy. But Obito didn't care about that. It was also at this time that Tryon looked at Dan Elsa, narrowed his eyes and said coldly, Elsa, you are becoming more and more disobedient? I told you that you are not allowed to leave the palace? But now it seems that you have not only left the palace, but also secretly helped Van Jins during this time. You make me sad. After this incident, you should get married, and someone should take good care of you. As soon as Tryon said this, Elsa shivered immediately, and her body trembled unconsciously. But after Tryon finished speaking, he stopped paying attention to Elsa. Turning his eyes back to Zhangzhe who was walking slowly, Tryon ordered coldly, hurry up and get rid of him. The knight commander at the side nodded immediately when he heard the words, and strode towards Zhangzhe. It's really boring. I would actually mobilize so many people because of such an incompetent person. Looking at the knight commander walking towards Zhangzhe, Tryon said lightly, but after he finished speaking, he couldn't help but glance sideways at the many soldiers gathered at the side. After thinking for a while, a smile appeared on his face again. Anyway, this time is still very beneficial to me. Although I don't have the opportunity to mobilize the army to win a battle, the previous speeches have finally achieved my goal. Clang. The long sword buzzed. The knight commander in armor drew out his long sword and approached Zhangzhe with heavy steps. Click, click, click. With the heavy armor, there were crisp sounds as the knight commander stepped forward. The knight commander stared at Zhangzhe with a cold voice. Your Highness, no. Fankins? Surrender, you have already lost this struggle. You know my strength, the strongest knight commander in the court? You will not be my opponent. It's about the friendship between you and me. I don't want to kill you. But if you are stubborn, then I can only chop off your head. This is my last advice, I advise you not to. The voice of the knight commander has not yet fallen. The figure of Yu Guyutai disappeared in the same place in an instant. Buzz. When he reappeared, he was already beside the knight commander. Facing this sudden scene, the knight commander was terrified, and his pupils shrank uncontrollably. Damn. When? While the knight leader was thinking up and down, Otoko Yuda's cold voice came slowly. What are you talking about? At the same time as the words came out, Yu Guyutai took a horizontal shot with a long knife in his hand, and threw it towards the knight commander's face. The knight commander was startled, and he raised his long sword to block it. But the speed was still a step slower after all. Boom. Accompanied by a loud beating sound. The knight commander screamed in pain when he was slapped by Yi Gyauta with a horizontal knife, and flew upside down and hit the wall on one side heavily. Ugh. Call out. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, thick smoke billowed up from the surrounding area, and the knight commander's body was directly embedded in the wall. And Otoko Yuda stood where the knight commander was standing before, quietly watching the knight commander embedded in the wall. Quiet. For a moment, the entire area fell into an eerie silence. Tryon's eyes widened even more, his face full of disbelief. Knight Commander. Chapter 11 Come out, Gadu statue? It is Elsa and Lorna and others. After seeing the knight commander was blown away by Yi Gyauta, the expression of shock was not unstoppable. Are you kidding me? He actually beat Leopold away. Elsa covered her mouth in surprise. At the back, Lorna felt even more turbulent waves in her heart at this moment. It was basically the hand of the monster hiding in the dark who came all the way. She alone was able to easily sweep away so many patrolling guards. The formidable strength she displayed was enough to surprise Lorna. But right now, that guy named Yu Guyutai has also shown such a powerful strength. Are you crazy? That is the court knight of the kingdom of New Rake, a man who was praised by the old king as the strongest knight in the kingdom? Now he was blown away with one move. Am I dreaming? Lorna murmured to herself in confusion. And among this group of people, Erika was the one who was hit the hardest. The strength that Yu Guyuta showed right now, just the hand that knocked Leopold into the air, is enough to prove the gap in strength between the two sides. She couldn't even see Otoko Yuda's movements clearly just now, not to mention how to take this blow. It turns out, is his strength so powerful? Then I have been. Erika's murmurs gradually died down, and her eyes turned to Zhangzhe who was walking towards Tryon. At this moment, she had mixed feelings in her heart, and there was an indescribable complex emotion. And the other side. Seeing that Admiral, his subordinate, was blown away in a single encounter, Tryon's face suddenly became gloomy. Looking at Zhangzhe who was still striding forward, Tryon took 2 steps back and looked at the several guards behind him at the same time. Several guards understood immediately, and raised their hands to greet the army assembled here. Boom. As the guards waved, many soldiers immediately turned around. Point the weapons and spearheads in your hands at Zhangzhe. Tryon settled down for a while, and at the same time shouted in the direction where Leopold flew upside down. Leopold? Don't tell me, you only have this level? Don't tell me, you can no longer fight. With Tryon's shout came out. In the billowing dust and fog, Leopold, who had been slowed down from Otoko Yuda's blow, covered his face with bursts of stinging pain. Walking down the wall with difficulty, the voice responded hoarsely. Don't worry, Your Highness. I was just careless just now, and I can fight again. Hearing Leopold's words, Yi Guyuta's expression turned cold. Tryon, who received Leopold's response, also showed a smile at this moment. That's good. Hurry up, relieve. At the same time when Tryon's voice sounded, Otoko Yuda made a move again. Different from before, this time he is faster. Whoosh. Almost instantly, Otoko Yuda appeared in front of Leopold again. The dust and mist surrounding it were all torn apart on the spot by the strong wind blown by Yigu Yutai's galloping speed. Buzz. No words. Under Leopold's astonished gaze, Yigu Yutai took a sudden step, reaching out with one hand and grabbing Leopold's forehead. Immediately without hesitation, it suddenly hit the ground. Shua. Boom. The stone tile floor shattered. Boom. The huge impact force caused the entire ground to collapse, opening cracks like spider webs. Boom. Rich smoke and dust again. Seeing this scene, Tryon was no longer calm. Any fool could understand that Leopold couldn't stop that young man. Moreover, it is not difficult to judge from what the young man just said. Even if the next Leopold can fight, he will only be disabled. Even in his heyday, he was no match for that young man, let alone after he was injured. Damn it, where did Van Jins find this helper, so powerful? While cursing secretly, Tryon also understood that he couldn't wait any longer. Now the closer Zhang Jie got, the more uneasy he felt, always feeling that there was a change. He must be killed immediately. Thoughts arose, Tryon waved his hand and ordered. Take them down. Except for Her Royal Highness, if there is any resistance, I will kill them without mercy. Hearing this, Lorna, Erica and the others were all shocked. His face immediately became a little ugly. Oops, now, I'm in big trouble. Erica gritted her teeth. Heidi, protect Princess Elsa. Das, hey, 8 people against tens of thousands? This is not good. Tisk, is it a fatal situation? Lorna clenched her teeth, subconsciously looking at the man in the white mask. Her intuition was telling her that this person who had never shot before might be able to save this crisis. Hope? It can only be pinned on him. Rona thought so in her heart. And Obito, wearing a white mask, after seeing the enemy's army move. Under the white mask, he couldn't help revealing a smile and said with emotion, is it finally my turn to join the battle? I haven't exercised for a long time. Along the way, he wanted to deal with those patrolling guards a few times, to exercise his muscles a little. However, he was preempted every time, which also made him a little helpless. Now that there are tens of thousands of troops here, there is no need to worry about not mobilizing the tibia. Thinking so, Obito formed a mudra with one hand, and slowly raised his hand. Come out, Gadu statue. Chapter 12 Terror of the Top Conquerors? Buzz. The chirping sound echoed in the void. Behind Obito, ripples appeared in the space. However, it was also at this moment when Obito's spell was not yet formed. A powerful aura suddenly erupted from Zhang Zhe's body. Boom. The oppressive feeling that was as heavy as a mountain immediately enveloped the entire kingdom. Everyone, after feeling this strong and terrifying aura, their faces changed, and they were shocked. Instinctive, fearful expressions enveloped the bodies and minds of everyone present. So much so that their bodies began to tremble uncontrollably. Even Erica, Lorna, and the others shrank their pupils at this moment, and suddenly raised their heads to look at Zhang Jie. This breath? Your Highness. Erica was horrified. Lorna's eyes widened even more at this moment. Am I dreaming? This feeling of oppression that seems to be suffocating is His Royal Highness. At the same moment, Zhang Zhe's steps fell, and the top conqueror's haki unfolded in an instant. Buzz. Powerful and terrifying power surged out from Zhang Zhe's body. Even the stone brick floor under Zhang Zhe's feet collapsed layer by layer because they couldn't bear the powerful force at this moment. Boom, 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 boom. The top conqueror's haki also turned into a gust of wind at this moment. With Zhang Zhe as the center, it spreads out in all directions. A strong wind blows past. The tens of thousands of soldiers who were acting in response to the order suddenly stopped after the strong wind blew. Immediately afterwards, their expressions became dull. Even the surroundings became quiet because of the cessation of their actions. Tryon, who hadn't reacted yet, was still terrified by the anger just now, but at this moment, he is obviously more concerned about the movements of the soldiers. Seeing that his soldiers stopped, but Zhang Jie was still moving forward, Tryon shouted anxiously. What are you doing? Take them down quickly. It was also at the moment when Tryon's voice fell. Tens of thousands of soldiers rolled their eyes at the same time, passed out on the spot, and fell heavily to the ground. Plop, plop, plop. Boom, boom. In just one breath, the army was still standing proudly on the front line. At this moment, no one was standing, and they were all lying on the ground like corpses. Obito, who was originally planning to summon the Gadu statue, also terminated the spell, and said with emotion, it seems that I still don't have the part to participate in the battle this time. This terrifying aura, like a mountain, is really amazing. While speaking, Obito couldn't help looking at Zhang Zhe's figure. On the other side, Elsa, Erica, Lorna, and others. After seeing tens of thousands of soldiers being dealt with in an instant by Zhang Zhe, his face was filled with unbelievable shock. The pupils were shrinking sharply. Elsa turned her head stiffly like a machine, and looked at Heidi whose body was trembling and her pupils were shaking. This, my brother. At this moment, Elsa couldn't even speak clearly. Heidi was also greatly impacted by this scene. So much so that now she didn't notice Elsa at all, let alone hear what Elsa said. She just looked at the tens of thousands of people who fell down like that, and whispered with a trembling voice. Cheat. A lie? Solved an army of tens of thousands of people in an instant. On the side, Rona's body was also shaking violently like chaff. Is this really His Royal Highness I know? Could it be, is this His Royal Highness' real strength and appearance? destroying tens of thousands of people in an instant. This kind of terrifying strength has far surpassed ours, and it is not even at the same level as ours. Rona murmured with disbelief on her face. The pupils were also shrinking uncontrollably and trembling. At this time, she was horrified by Zhang Zhe's strength. It can kill tens of thousands of people in an instant. This kind of terrifying strength has far exceeded Lorna's cognition. It is not an exaggeration to say that Zhang is a monster. Erica and Darth were also hit hard. They stared at Zhang Zhe in a daze, their expressions filled with disbelief. Is His Highness so strong? The other side. Tryon stared blankly at the scene in front of him. Looking at the tens of thousands of soldiers who were still imposing 1 second and fell to the ground the next, their pupils trembled violently like an earthquake. At this moment, his face was full of unbelievable astonishment. Why? Why are you all down? Why? Useless things, the battle hasn't started yet. Why are you all down? Answer me, you BD. At the end of the sentence, Tryon yelled almost hysterically. You cannot deceive yourself. His greatest reliance is the king's army. But before the battle started, all the army fell, and all his subordinates also fell. There were originally tens of thousands of people, but only myself was left in an instant. But the number of people on Vankin's side has not decreased. How can I fight this? Seeing Tryon, who was out of control and no longer calm before, Zhang Zhe had a playful smile on his face and said, Tao Can. How is it? How does it feel to be sure of winning 1 second, and losing the next second? It's not bad, isn't it? Chapter 13 Set Sail. Vankins. Tryon gritted his teeth, his voice full of anger. In the next second, Tryon pulled out the long sword from his waist, and the tip of the sword pointed directly at Zhang Zhe's path. Let's have a duel. Just the two of us, let's have an upright contest. Seeing Tryon's appearance, Zhang Zhe raised his hand and greeted him contemptuously. Come on, let me teach you how to be a man. Tryon's eyes were wide open, and he ran towards Zhang Zhe without saying a word, holding the long sword. Seeing this scene, Zhang Zhe also reached out and grabbed the handle of the knife at his waist. Clang. The pleasant sound of the long knife unsheathing echoed. Accompanied by a flash of cold light, the bright red blood splashed out immediately. Shoo. Puff. A miserable howl resounded in all directions. Ugh. Tryon clutched his arm that was spurting blood crazily, rolling back and forth on the ground in pain. Zhang Zhe, on the other hand, stood still. He held the blood-stained long knife in his right hand, and held Tryon's right arm and wrist in his left hand. At this time, Tryon's right arm, which had been cut off in its entirety, was still holding the long sword tightly. The right arm held by Zhang Zhe's left hand was drooping, and blood continued to flow out from the cut. Zhang Zhe didn't mind it at all. Elsa's pupils contracted slightly after witnessing this scene. Brother's swordsmanship, better. On the side, Lorna swallowed with some difficulty, looked at Elsa, feeling terrified. Your Highness, it's not just the sword skills that are more exquisite, it's just a big step up. His Highness's swordsmanship was very good before, and he could last more than a dozen rounds in their hands. Now, let alone a dozen rounds. I'm afraid it doesn't take 3 rounds to kill myself. Not to mention Tryon's swordsmanship, just Zhang Zhe's strike just now, even if he went up, his arm would only be chopped off in the face of that blow. She didn't even see the movement clearly, let alone pick it up. Thinking of this, Lorna felt inexplicably cold, and then rubbed her right arm for a while. Yeah, still there. Shua. Zhang Zhe held the long knife and flicked it slightly to remove the blood from the knife. Immediately, he turned his head to look at Tryon, who fell to the ground and howled. For a long time, you have never surpassed me in swordsmanship. What makes you think that you can defeat me this time? Is it selective amnesia? Zhang Zhe's tone was indifferent, and after discarding Tryon's severed arm, he walked slowly towards Tryon. At this time, Tryon subconsciously stopped howling. The instinct of fear prompted him to keep moving backwards, trying to keep a distance from Zhang Zhe. However, how could he be faster than Zhang Zhe? Coming in front of Tryon, Zhang Zhe stepped on Tryon's body, and at the same time held the long knife behind his back, stabbing it into the ground next to Tryon's neck. Gilo. Tryon swallowed with difficulty. The fear of death enveloped his body and mind at this moment, causing him to shed 2 lines of tears. With an expression full of pleading, Tryon looked at Zhang Zhe and spoke hoarsely. Brother. Big brother? I don't want the throne anymore, I don't fight for it. I know that what I have done to you during this time is too much. I am willing to leave the royal family, leave Nurek, and never come back. I just ask you to forgive me and let me live. Listening to Tryon's crying pleading words, Zhang Zhe couldn't help falling into silence. After all, he is also his younger brother, so he should not kill him so cruelly. How should I put it? You are also my younger brother. As an elder brother, you should be kinder. After finishing speaking, Zhang Zhe held the handle of the knife and slowly pressed it down obliquely. Bah! The sharp knife cut the flesh of Tryon's neck, and the bright red blood flowed out. This time, the fear in Tryon's heart was assured. Struggling, howling in pain. Brother grows up. Before Tryon finished speaking, Zhang Zhe made a silent gesture with a gentle smile. SHH, don't make noise, don't struggle. If you accidentally cut yourself, you will die. Tryon froze when he heard this. At this moment, he didn't struggle anymore. He just looked at Zhang Zhe like that, and shed 2 lines of tears in gratitude. Thank you, I will definitely leave Nurek, and I will leave tonight and never come back. Nurek will definitely be more prosperous with you as a brother. Zhang Jie didn't answer, but smiled faintly. As the long knife penetrated deeper into Trion's neck, a large amount of viscous and bright red blood also gushed out. Puff. Trion's body began to twitch uncontrollably. He widened his eyes and stared at Zhang Jie, a look of astonishment and disbelief. You. Only this time, Trion couldn't get his words out. Zhang Jie cut off his head completely. Even before Trion was about to die, he still felt that he had hope of living. After watching Trion's death, he still maintained his astonished head. Zhang Jie couldn't help feeling emotional. Is there still a bit of the virgin in the bones? It's just that we have been together for a few months, and we have become kind to him. I'm really speechless. Thank you for thinking about where to put him after making him a human pig. Slandering a few words in his heart, Zhang Jie raised his head and looked at Elsa. At this time, Elsa was obviously frightened after seeing Zhang Jie kill Trion, and her face was a little pale. Seeing this, Zhang Jie narrowed his eyes with a smile. Maybe. I'm afraid to scare this girl. Putting aside the thoughts in his head, Zhang Jie looked at Elsa and ordered. Go help me prepare a boat, I'll sail tomorrow morning. It doesn't matter whether Elsa agrees or not, Zhang Jie said, turning his head to look outside the palace. Yo-Yo whispered with a smile on her face. Now, it's time to find those ministers who have broken their mouths and talk about old times. The next day, the sky was misty. New Rake Kingdom Port. The three men walked slowly towards a medium-sized ship. Walking ahead, the leading youth yawned lazily. Speaking of which, we are about to set sail. What is the name of the pirate group? Do you two have any suggestions? Zhang Jie glanced sideways, looking at Obito Yuta and Uchiha Obito. Chapter 14 New Crew. Obito immediately fell into thinking when he heard this. This is a serious question. The name of the pirate group will always be with them. Once it spreads, it will become very troublesome if they want to change it later. Yigu Yutai at the side was also lost in thought. At the same time, the system's notification sound came into Zhang Jie's mind. Ding! Congratulations to host for getting plus 700 combat value. Listening to the notification tone broadcast by the system, Zhang Jie's mood was a little complicated. After a big battle, he only got 700 battle points, which is really pitifully small. However, less is less, mosquito legs are also meat. No matter what, it was enough to draw the last prize. Without any hesitation, Zhang Jie opened the lottery page. A lottery was conducted directly. Ding! Battle value minus 400. Ding! Congratulations to host for summoning the Conqueror from One Punch World, Hungry Wolf. Ding! Congratulations to the Conqueror Hungry Wolf for winning the battle blessing. Ding! Congratulations to the Conqueror Hungry Wolf for winning the top observation haki. Ding! Congratulations to the Conqueror Hungry Wolf for obtaining the top armament haki. Ding! Congratulations to host, successfully extracted the ability of the Conqueror Hungry Wolf. A series of notification sounds from the system fell. Zhang Jie suddenly felt something in his heart, and turned his head to look behind. In a dark alley, Obito Yuta and Obito at the side also seemed to have noticed something. All of them stopped walking towards the ship, turned their heads and looked at the alley behind. Da-da-da. There was a sound of unhurried footsteps. The hungry wolf with short silver-white hair and a strong figure also came out slowly from the alley. Yigu Yutai looked at Hungry Wolf, and subconsciously looked at Obito who was beside him. New member. Obito looked at Yigu Yuta upon hearing the sound, and then looked at Hungry Wolf Road. Certainly. At the same time, in the palace. Boom boom boom. There was a slightly dull knock on the door. In the room, Elsa who was curled up on the big bed slowly raised her head. At this time, her eyes were a little red and swollen, obviously she had cried. Who? A hoarse and crying voice came from Elsa's mouth. There was a moment of silence outside the room before a female voice came. It's me. Your Highness Fangency is leaving. Are you really not going to see him off? Elsa buried her head in her knees without making a sound. Rona, who was outside the room, heard that Elsa hadn't responded for a long time, so she could only sigh, turned, and left. Boarded the ready ship. Zhang Jie, who was already tired, greeted Yigu Yutai and the others. I'll leave the rest to you. I'll find a place to sleep first. After finishing speaking, Zhang Jie walked into the cabin under the astonished eyes of Yigu Yuta, Obito and Hungry Wolf, and went to sleep in a room. The three stood on the deck for a long time. Yigu Yutai suddenly looked at Hungry Wolf, and asked curiously, can you sail a boat? Hungry Wolf turned his head and glanced at Yigu Yutai. After a moment of silence, he withdrew his gaze and said calmly, No, I haven't opened such a thing before. Yigu Yutai was a little embarrassed. Neither do I, Mr. Obito. Obito rubbed his chin in thought for a moment, then looked up at the mast sail above. The boat is driven by the wind. Put that thing down and the boat can move. Yigu Yutai and Hungry Wolf heard the words. Soon the sails of the ship were lowered. Boom. As soon as the mast sail was lowered, it was blown inflated by the sea breeze. But several people waited for a long time, but the boat still stayed in place. Otoko Yuta and Hungry Wolf blinked. He couldn't help turning his head to look at Obito curiously. Why is the boat not moving? Obito was lost in thought. It shouldn't be. Logically speaking, that's right. While Obito murmured. Suddenly there was a strong sea breeze blowing. Immediately afterwards, several crisp sounds were heard suddenly from behind the three of them. Clap, clap, crack, crack, crack. The three subconsciously turned their heads to look. I saw three thick hemp ropes firmly pulling the ship to the port, preventing it from leaving. Seeing this, Obito and others suddenly realized. Stepping forward quickly, the 3 hemp ropes were cut off with one blow. Immediately afterwards, the boat moved slowly. Oh, it's moving? It's moving. Hungry Wolf was a little excited. At the same time, in the cabin room, Zhang Jie just fell asleep. Suddenly had a nightmare, the whole person trembled and suddenly woke up. His breathing was a little disturbed. Zhang Jie muttered to himself in an uneasy voice. Why? I have a bad feeling. Is it because you killed too many people this time? Zhang Jie was silent for a while. After calming down for a while, I put aside my distracting thoughts and fell asleep again. Chapter 15. After an unknown amount of time, Zhang Jie woke up leisurely from his sleep. Looking outside the round window, it was not too late, and the vast blue sea was in sight. Some lazily yawned and stretched. Zhang Jie walked out of the direction and walked on the corridor leading to the deck. As soon as he stepped out of the cabin, Zhang Jie heard the sound of arguing on the deck. Huh? Why did I bully him? White Mask, come, judge. Hungry Wolf's annoyed voice came. Zhang Jie looked up and saw 4 figures standing on the deck. Even Lixiang showed up for the first time. Before walking over, Zhang Jie saw Obito and sighed helplessly. What do you want me to say? Hearing Obito's words, Hungry Wolf froze for a moment. And Rika spoke. I hate it. Satoshi hates you? This time the Hungry Wolf became short-tempered, and the veins on his forehead stood out. Huh? Can you guys be reasonable? Lixiang was not afraid at all, looked directly at the Hungry Wolf and replied. The sweetness can't be taken by you. I have never eaten a meal made by Yuta. Li Xiang's absurd reason directly made Hungry Wolf's mouth crooked. UBD. Seeing this, Yi Giaotai hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. Calm down, Mr. Hungry Wolf. Hungry Wolf looked at Yu Guyutai, pointed at Lixiang and refused to accept. It's her who is being unreasonable. What are you kidding? Just arrange personal tasks normally, and she actually said that she bullied Yi Guyutai? That's fine, the quarrel hasn't been won yet. Damn, I've never been so wronged in my life. I thought that with Yi Guyutai to mediate, the matter would come to an end, but I didn't know that Yi Guyutai hadn't spoken yet. Lixiang was the first to speak. You are unreasonable. Lixiang. Yi Giaota felt like crying. Why did he become so stubborn this time? Seeing this scene from a distance, Zhang Jie was stunned. What's the situation? In argument? Why? And what happened to Lixiang? How could she come out? Did he lose control of his emotions and go berserk? No, she doesn't seem to have done anything out of the ordinary. Emotionally stable, just come out to get some air? Not right. How could she still quarrel with the Hungry Wolf? What are you guys doing? We had a great chat. Zhang Jie walked towards them with curiosity and doubts. At the same time, Yi Guyutai and others also noticed Zhang Jie's arrival. Yi Guyutai scratched his head in embarrassment, wanting to say something, but didn't know how to say it for a while. Seeing this, Obito on the side laughed and explained. We are assigning daily tasks. We originally planned to ask Yuta to cook, but Sadoka disagrees. With Obito's explanation in this way, Zhang Jie can guess a lot. Inexplicably feeling a little funny, Zhang Jie looked at the Hungry Wolf and laughed and joked. Can you quarrel over such a small matter? Hungry Wolf felt a little helpless. I didn't intend to quarrel with her at the beginning, it was she who was unreasonable and pestered endlessly. Just as Hungry Wolf finished speaking, Li Xiang suddenly appeared again. Report, villain. As soon as these words came out, Hungry Wolf was so excited that the veins on his forehead popped up. Huh? You guy, what are you talking about here? Yi Giaotai hastily covered Lixiang's mouth, and at the same time apologized to Hungry Wolf. Sorry. Okay, Rika, stop making trouble. Seeing this, Zhang Jie at the side was also a little dumbfounded. For the quarrel among the crew members, Zhang Jie is not disgusted, and even thinks it is good. Perhaps the 2 people who quarreled will not feel that there is anything good. But in the eyes of others, this is the place where the atmosphere is active and the team fits better. It felt almost the same. Zhang Jie immediately mediated. It would be good for you 2 to switch tasks. There is no need to quarrel over such a trivial matter. As soon as he said this, Hungry Wolf turned to look at Zhang Jie. Zhang Jie asked, what's wrong? Hungry Wolf hesitated for a while, then nodded with some erratic eyes. That's fine too. After finishing the matter, Zhang Jie smiled and talked about the topic he talked about before boarding the boat. Speaking of which, what is the name of our pirate group? I haven't figured it out yet. It happens to be free now, let's think about it together. After all, Zhang Jie sat down on the ground. Yu Guyuta, Hungry Wolf, and Obito also sat down. Regarding naming things, Zhang Jie consciously understands that it's not very good, but what he doesn't know is, those 3 are not so good. It wasn't long before Obito made his first suggestion. The strongest pirate group, how about the name? Zhang Jie was stunned when he heard this. The Hungry Wolf on the side spoke. No, I think it's better to call it the strongest weird pirates. Zhang Jie, huh? Obito thought for a moment, then retorted. No, I think the strongest conqueror pirates are better. No, it's better called the super weird pirates. No, the super strongest pirates are even better. Super invincible pirates are even better. Listening to the dispute between the 2, Zhang Jie who was sitting on the side was numb. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but for a while he didn't know what to say. Is Obito someone with this personality? This is not right. Was he taken away by a fae? It was also when the dispute between Obito and Hungry Wolf was fierce. Yiguyutai slowly raised his hand, and tentatively made a suggestion. Well, why don't we call it Mercy Pirates? As soon as these words came out, Obito and Hungry Wolf, who were arguing, suddenly stopped listening. In an instant, there was no sound on the deck. A little stiff, Obito and Hungry turned their heads and looked at Otoko Yuta. What did you say? Yi Gyouta looked at the expressions of Obito and Hungry Wolf, and said cautiously. The Mercy Pirates. Obito and Hungry Wolf looked at each other, and they both bowed their heads and fell silent. After a while, Zhang Jie looked up at Yiguyutai and said, We know you and Lixiang are pure love? Well, we know. Yi Gyoutai was stunned when he heard the words, then quickly waved his hands and smiled. No, I'm not talking about me and Lixiang, I'm talking about the name of the pirates. How about the Mercy Pirates? Zhang Jie, Obito, Hungry Wolf. At this moment, the deck became quiet again. Zhang Jie, Obito and Hungry Wolf fell into silence. After pondering for a moment, Hungry Wolf slowly raised his head, looked at Obito seriously and sincerely and said, Suddenly, I feel that the name you gave seems to be a good name. Obito groaned slightly. I think, you have good taste too. Hungry Wolf sighed in relief. Hey, if that's the case, why don't we combine yours and mine and call it the Super Invincible and Strongest Monster Pirates? Zhang Jie, who was sitting by the side, was numb on the inner and outer floors. Can it still be named like this? Chapter 16 Conquer the Pirates? On the side, Yiguyutai saw that the name he wanted was selectively ignored by others, and he couldn't help but feel a little sad. Anyway, give me some feedback. I don't hear what's going on. Yiguyutai sighed helplessly, looking as if he was about to cry. Hearing this, Zhang Jie and the three fell silent again. After a while, Hungry Wolf opened his mouth to speak. Although the name given by the White Mask is a little bit poor in taste, it's okay anyway. The name you gave will not be on the stage. Hungry Wolf's words were like a critical strike on Ping A, which dealt a heavy blow to Yi Gyoutai on the spot. Is my name so embarrassing? Seemingly harboring a sliver of hope, Obito looked at Obito. Being stared at by Obito Yuta like this, Obito sighed after hesitating for a while. If I use your name, I will die. Crash. Are you a robot? Yi Gyoutai asked back in astonishment. Obito smiled a little embarrassedly. No, it's mainly because I'm too ashamed. Yi Gyoutai fell down on the spot. Seeing this, Obito and Hungry Wolf looked at each other. Super Invincible and Strongest Monster Pirate Group. Hungry Wolf repeated the name. Obito narrowed his eyes and spoke solemnly. I agree. Hungry Wolf immediately stretched out his hand and grinned. Then it's decided. Obito also smiled, and held out his hand to hold the Hungry Wolf. Happy cooperation. After the two talked, it suddenly occurred to them that they hadn't asked Zhang Jie's opinion. In the next second, both of them turned their heads to look at Zhang Jie and asked at the same time. How is it, Captain? Super Invincible and Strongest Monster Pirates, isn't that a good name? How do you feel? Hearing this, Zhang Jie raised his head and looked at Hungry Wolf and Obito. How do I feel? Obito and Wolf nodded. Zhang Jie immediately fell into silence. After thinking for a while, Zhang Jie looked at Obito and Hungry Wolf. If it's called this name, I think I should get off the ship and do good. Obito and Evil Wolf couldn't help but startled when they heard this. Yiguyutai seemed to see hope, and immediately became energetic. Sure enough, the name I gave sounds nice, right? The captain and I have the same idea. Zhang Jie turned his head, looked at Yiguyutai, and waved his hands. No, I don't want the boat if it's named after you. Yiguyutai was listless again, and his whole body became listless. Sure enough, it's more appropriate to use my name. Let's call it Super Invincible Pirates. Hungry Wolf stood up, his tone a little excited. Zhang Jie turned his head and waved his hand. It's better to call it Che. Compared to being called Super Invincible Pirates so and so, it's better to kill me directly and give me a good time. Since everyone's starting is not very good, let's take a compromise as Obito said before, and call it the Battle of Pirates. Hungry Wolf frowned slightly upon hearing this. What a shameful name. As soon as these words came out, Zhang Jie's mouth was twisted in anger. You are not qualified to say that. Hungry Wolf didn't care at all, and continued to make suggestions. Call the Super Battle Pirates. This is good. Zhang Jie, Obito, drag him to the Kamui space. Obito, okay. After a lot of twists and turns, the name of the pirates was finally finalized. Then, there was the painting of the pirate flag. After some discussion, the pattern was finalized as two white Shinigami sickles and a skull. It's a good drawing, Yuta. Looking at the pirate flag drawn by Otoko Yuta, Obito praised without hesitation. Suddenly being praised, Yi Gyouta felt a little embarrassed for a while. Really? I was worried that it would be ugly. Hungry Wolf heard the sound and came over, observed for a while, nodded and said, well, yes, there is still a lot of room for hints. Obito and Yiguyuta looked at each other in silence. Then he turned his head to look at Hungry Wolf's work. After being silent for a while, Obito looked at the Hungry Wolf and said seriously, the paste you drew is quite similar. Huh? What are you talking about, BD? I'm not drawing paste. In the same sea area, a marine warship flying the marine flag, as usual, is performing a cruise mission on the sea. Located in the lookout on the topsail, two sailors in marine costumes are observing the surrounding sea area with binoculars. Huh? What's the situation? Suddenly, a sailor frowned and put down the binoculars with a puzzled expression. Beside him, the sea soldier who was also watching the surrounding sea area also put down his binoculars and asked suspiciously, "What's wrong?" The sailor pointed to a ship way a little farther away. "Look over there." With doubts, the sea soldier on the other side picked up the binoculars and looked. Immediately afterwards, he saw that solitary ship lowering the flag that originally symbolized the belonging of the kingdom in front of him. A pirate flag with a skull painted on it was slowly raised. Witnessing all this, the sailor was stunned on the spot. What's going on here? In front of Marine, lower the flag that symbolizes the belonging of the kingdom and replace it with the pirate flag. It's like turning into a mouse in front of a cat. Chapter 17. I want you to lend us your head. How to deal with it. Putting down the binoculars, Hai Bing looked confused. This is the first time they have encountered this situation. Another sailor hesitated for a moment after hearing the words. Let's report it first? How to deal with it, whether to start the fight directly, or to understand and communicate first, then it depends on the arrangement above. This ship said it was a civilian ship, and it was flying a pirate flag, saying that it was a pirate ship, and it didn't even have naval guns. It's really strange. After that, the sailor quickly left the watchtower on the mast sail. At the same time, on the ship that raised the pirate flag, Zhang Jie, Yu Guyutai, Obito, and Hungry Wolf are standing in front of the bow at the moment, looking at the marine officer who is cruising in a little distance. That should be our enemy. Hungry Wolf clasped his arms around his chest, his voice was peaceful. Zhang Jie nodded, affirming Hungry Wolf's statement. That's right, Marine is one of the strongest forces on this sea. They claim to be righteous and hunt down pirates on the sea. Hearing Zhang Jie's words, Yi Guyutai couldn't help being stunned. Professing to be righteous, Zhang Jie said with a slight smile. Well, they can't go anywhere clean. Of course, there is still some justice, but it is of no use to us. Aside, under the mask, Obito narrowed his eyes slightly. Are you going to start our first battle with them? As soon as he heard that there was going to be a fight, Hungry Wolf immediately showed an excited grin on his face. Then let me deal with them? Just get used to it, this brand new power. However, just after Hungry Wolf finished speaking, Zhang Jie said with a smile. Don't worry, talk to them before starting the fight. Talk to them. Hungry Wolf wondered. Zhang Jie nodded with a smile, said nothing more, and looked quietly at the marine warship slowly approaching in this direction. Soon after, the marine warship approached. A middle-aged man wearing a marine coat and a long knife also slowly came to the bow of the warship and looked at Zhang Jie and others on the deck of the ship below. Who are you? Zhang Jie looked at the middle-aged man, and responded with a gentle smile on his face. Pirates. The middle-aged man was stunned for a moment when he heard the words. His expression was obviously a little stunned. So honest? Could it be a rebellious guy who ran out from some town? Can ordinary pirates be so calm when they see Marine? If they were real pirates, they would have run away long ago when they saw Marine, so why would they dare to wait for Marine to come over? Thinking of this, the middle-aged man took another look at Zhang Jie's boat. As stated in the report, the ship as a whole doesn't even have a single gun, and it's just a newly raised pirate flag. The scene in front of him made the middle-aged man feel that the group in front of him was a group of ignorant and rebellious teenagers. After a moment of silence, the middle-aged man put Zhang Jie's previous answer behind him and asked again. I'm asking for your name. Zhang Jie narrowed his eyes slightly, but the smile remained on his face. Zhang Jie. The middle-aged man asked again. Are you the captain? Yes. Zhang Jie affirmed. Did you run into any trouble? The middle-aged man asked with concern. This made Zhang Jie look at him twice more, and said meaningfully, it's not a trouble, it's just an unkind request. A ruthless request? What a ruthless request? The middle-aged man asked back. Zhang Jie's face remained the same, his smile was still so gentle, and he was still so harmless to humans and animals. Before I make my request, allow me to briefly introduce my crew. My name was already mentioned, so, Hungryu, Obito Yuta, Uchiha Obito. While speaking, Zhang Jie pointed to Hungry Wolf, Yi Guyutai, and Obito in turn. Then he spread his hands politely and bowed slowly. We are all members of the pirates, and we would like to ask you to lend us your heads, so I have to trouble you to go to God's side for a while. Zhang Jie's sudden words stunned the middle-aged man on the spot. Not only the leading middle-aged man, but even the other marines who were listening were also stunned. In the next second, there was a burst of laughter on the marine warship. Ha 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 ha. Boy, do you know what you're talking about? Lend our heads for use? Are you trying to kill us? Not to mention that you only have 4 people, we have more than 200 people here, even if we fight you one by one, you are not our opponents. Ha 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 ha. Laughing one after another, all the sailors felt that Zhang Jie's words were so ridiculous. In their eyes, Zhang Jie was just like that idiot, speaking that inconspicuous big talk. Just the 4 of them? Just want to borrow the heads of all of them? Not to mention whether the naval guns on the warship agree or not, even the 200 or so people of myself can drown them with a single saliva. Boy, where did you come from? What are your parents' names? The middle-aged man in the lead smiled and leaned on the railing of the boat, looking at Zhang Jie with a smile and asking. However, even in the face of everyone's contempt and ridicule, Zhang Jie did not get angry at all. Raising his head slightly, Zhang Jie looked at the middle-aged man and said coldly, except for him not to be killed, none of the others will be left. Be careful, don't hurt him, the news here needs to be passed back. It would be bad if he died on the way back because of his injuries. As soon as these words came out, the overlapping voices of Yu Guyuta, Obito and Hungry Wolf came out at the same time. Clear. It was also at the same moment when the voices of the three fell. Suddenly, an extremely powerful aura erupted from Yi Guyutai's body. Boom. Deafening roar resounded in all directions. Behind Yi Guyutai, the space is turbulent and distorted. In the next second, Lixiang's huge figure suddenly appeared from the distorted space. The huge body up to tens of feet is fully exposed. Lixiang spread her arms and roared to the sky. The sound resounded through the sky. Roar. A huge oppressive feeling that was so strong that it seemed to be suffocating instantly enveloped the surroundings. On the marine warship carrying more than 200 people, the original laughter stopped abruptly. The blood on his face faded away in an instant. Almost in the blink of an eye, the faces of all the sailors turned pale, and only boundless fear was left on their expressions. What is this thing? Is that a lie? This kind of thing, why, how did it appear here? The marines yelled in horror. Zhang Jie, who reacted, was a little annoyed, and at the same time introduced with an apologetic face. Sorry, I forgot to introduce just now, this is also my crew member, named Lixiang. Chapter 18 New Crew, join? It's just that it's such a time now, how can anyone listen to Zhang Jie's introduction there? As soon as she appeared, Li Xiang slapped Marine's warship fiercely. Shua. The huge slap came with the sound of howling and breaking wind. Those marines couldn't even react, and were completely enveloped by black shadows. Then there was a loud bang of bang. The bright red blood splashed out, and the deck of the warship collapsed, and even the whole ship trembled. Boom, boom. Also at the same moment, Hungry Wolf, Obito, and Obito Yudo leaped onto Marine's warship at the same time. Da-da-da. Seeing this, Zhang Jie hurriedly reminded him. Be a little more restrained, don't ruin the boat. After finishing speaking, Zhang Jie also jumped onto the warship. At the same time, Hungry Wolf and the others galloped towards the sailors. Boom. The wind of the fist roared, and Hungry Wolf punched a marine in the face. That terrifying and powerful force caused the marine's entire face to collapse on the spot. Crack. Puff. Even though there were already casualties, the marines still couldn't react. They were all like sandbags, they all stood there in a daze, watching the scene in front of them in horror. It all changed so fast. It was so fast that they were defenseless, and so fast that they couldn't react at all. Or maybe that boundless fear has overshadowed everything. Let them not. Immediately afterwards, the figure of Tiandao Pain came into Zhang Jie's eyes. If the people next to the table changed the table, Tiandao Pain's appearance was still a bit creepy. But for Zhang Jie who knows everything, it's not a problem at all. If the nail sticks on Tiandao Pain's body are removed, Tiandao Pain's appearance is still good. Captain. Somewhat beyond Zhang Jie's expectation, Tiandao Pain took the initiative to say hello. Although the tone sounds a bit deserted, it is full of emotion, even if it is only indifferent. Some distractedly looked at Tiandao Pain for a while. Zhang Jie asked a seemingly nonsensical question. Are you Yahiko or Nagato? Tiandao Pain stared at Zhang Jie in silence for a while, and then responded leisurely. I'm Pain. Although the tone was still so cold, Zhang Jie already had the answer in his heart. With a smile on his face, Zhang Jie spoke. Understood, let's go, I'll take you to meet other members. After finishing speaking, Zhang Jie turned around and walked out of the cabin. Tiandao Pain also looked at Zhang Jie's back, and followed him slowly with a calm expression. Soon after, Zhang Jie and Tiandao Pi walked out of the cabin and came to the place where Obito and others were. The second floor of the ship. Squeak. As soon as the door is opened. Then Zhang Jie saw Obito, Hungry Wolf, and Yi Guyutai, serving plates of fish on the table. This scene obviously surprised Zhang Jie, but Obito, Yi Guyuta, and Hungry Wolf did not see Zhang Jie's arrival, but said with a smile on their faces. Just now we were thinking of calling the captain, you are coming for dinner, it's just in time. Eat. Repeatedly, Zhang Jie subconsciously looked at the meat on the dinner plate. After hesitating for a moment, I sent Zhang Jie to ask, is this fish? Hungry Wolf smiled and said, of course, this is a big fish that Li Xiang went to catch. Zhang Jie nodded and changed the topic to business. This is the new crew member, Tiandao Pain. As for them. With that said, Zhang Jie is going to introduce Yu Guyuta, Obito, and Hungry Wolf to Tiandao Pain. But Tiandao Pain just spoke slowly. I know their names. Zhang Jie was greatly surprised. You know, the conquerors who have just been summoned know the names of other conquerors? System? Thinking about it, Zhang Jie looked at Obito and others again. Unexpectedly, Obito and others nodded their heads. We know that too. Hearing this, Zhang Jie couldn't help but shook his head with a smile. Okay, this will save me a lot and I'll introduce it later. After finishing speaking, Zhang Jie and Tiandao Pain walked towards the dining table. As soon as the two sat down at the dining table, Hungry Wolf brought out 2 plates of fish. After looking at the color and location of the fish, Zhang Jie asked in silence for a moment. This is grilled fish? What kind of fish is so big? The Hungry Wolf took another huge plate of fish. Hearing Zhang Jie's question, he thought for a while and then shook his head. This is grilled fish, but I don't know what kind of fish it is. Li Xiang caught it back. After finishing speaking, Hungry Wolf placed the huge plate of fish in front of Yu Guyutai. Boom. Here, this is for Li Xiang. This fish is due to her. eat more and be full. I will rely on her to catch the prey in the future. After speaking, the hungry wolf turned around and returned to his seat. But Yi Giaotai was a little embarrassed. He hadn't had time to explain it clearly. Li Xiang is a cursed spirit, doesn't need to eat. But Yi Giaotai thought about it carefully. Even though Li Xiang is not necessary to eat, it does not mean that it cannot be eaten. It's always good to eat something delicious, right? Thinking of this, Yi Guyatai smiled and called softly towards the void. Sato. You too. Li Xiang's figure slowly appeared. Mr. Hungry Wolf made grilled fish, do you want some? Yi Giaotai asked. Li Xiang immediately turned to look at the hungry wolf. That appearance seems to reveal this little bit of dislike for hungry wolves. This made hungry wolf, who felt something, also look helpless. Hey, isn't it just a little thing? You don't need to hold grudges until now, right? Rika didn't say anything. After looking at the hungry wolf for a while, he reached out to grab the plate of grilled fish, and then dived back. Immediately afterwards, there was a sound of gnawing in the void. Crack. After two chewing sounds emerged, the void fell silent. A smile appeared on hungry wolf's face. Looks like I have a good appetite, so I'll start it too. As he said that, the hungry wolf was also ready to eat the grilled fish. But at this moment, the void twisted again. With one arm, he grabbed a piece of grilled fish that had been bitten, and put it back into the delivery tray. Boom. This sudden scene attracted the attention of everyone present. Immediately afterwards, Li Xiang's figure poked out from the void again. As soon as he came out, Li Xiang stared at the hungry wolf. Then he turned his head and spit out the grilled fish in his mouth like spitting. Pooh. Boom. The huge force even caused the spit-out grilled fish to smash a small hole in the wooden floor. Although Hungry Wolf felt helpless when he saw this, he didn't really care. Don't take your anger out on food, it's bad behavior to waste food. After that, the Hungry Wolf also took a bite of the grilled fish. But after chewing twice, the Hungry Wolf's body froze for a moment. Immediately afterwards, the mouth opened unconsciously, and the grilled fish inside also fell to the ground. Slap. Li Xiang just stared at the Hungry Wolf like that, without saying anything. Seeing this, Zhang Jie at the side couldn't help but take a bite of the grilled fish. Immediately afterwards, almost like Li Xiang, he spit out the grilled fish in one mouthful. Pooh. Slap. Almost at the same moment, Hungry Wolf and Zhang Jie both lowered their heads. Looking at the fish on the production plate in front of him, he fell into deep thought. Hungry Wolf, what kind of fish is this? Zhang Jie, no, I don't think it's a fish problem. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 20 Huge Bounty, no one is reliable. Soon after, in the kitchen, Zhang Jie started cooking with a pot in one hand and a spatula in the other. One person cooks, 5 people eat, damn it, next time I have to find a cook on board. Zhang Jie muttered in his heart while busy cooking. Outside, Obito, Hungry Wolf, and Tiandao Pain were quietly waiting for the food to be served. And this also made Zhang Jie understand that finding a chef needs to be put on the agenda. It's okay that there are few people at the moment, only 4 or 5. The time spent and the required process will not be too much. When there are more people in the future, I can just stay in the kitchen all day and night without leaving. After lunch, you can start preparing dinner. After working for a long time, Zhang Jie brought the hot meal to the table. Although it's not that delicious, but at least it can be regarded as quite satisfactory, and I won't let myself question what the ingredients are after eating it. The day passed quickly. The next day, early morning, Zhang Jie woke up from his sleep, got up early and washed up, and then came to the deck. I wanted to enjoy some morning sunshine and Heffen scenery, but helplessly, the stomach protested. Zhang Jie had no choice but to swear and make breakfast, and made a copy for the crew by the way. Before breakfast was ready, a group of crew members came over smelling the aroma. It's the smell of meat. Is it time for lunch? Hungry Wolf was a little puzzled. It's so good, I have something to eat when I wake up. Obito exclaimed. On the side, Yu Guyuta also echoed with a smile on his face. Yes. The captain cooked us food early in the morning, that's great. It was Heaven Pain, who just stood aside silently, didn't say anything, just looked at Zhang Jie calmly. He has already noticed that something is wrong with Zhang Jie's face. In the next second, Zhang Jie turned his head, looked at the crowd with a smile and said, Is it good for you? Don't you have to make a few human meals to repay me as a token of gratitude? With breakfast done, the farce ends here. A group of crew members sat around a table and began to eat breakfast. And Zhang Jie also understood that some things had to be planned. For example, the voyage and campaign planning. War and fighting are the main source of Zhang Jie's strength, but he can't beat those stinky fish and shrimp. In that case, the rewards obtained are not cost-effective. What does it mean to kill a chicken with a 40-meter-long knife? I took a day off yesterday, and now it's time to make arrangements for our future plans. As soon as Zhang Jie said this, everyone looked up at Zhang Jie. They understand that this is to talk about business. Glancing at the crew members who were focusing on themselves, Zhang Jie continued. Tell me first, where are you now? Which sea area are we in? Quiet. After Zhang Jie's words fell, the surrounding immediately fell into silence. Yu Guyuta, Obito and Hungry Wolf looked at each other with doubts in their eyes. This scene made Zhang Jie feel bad, and asked again. Which direction did we leave the kingdom of Norake? But Obito and others still looked at each other in blank dismay. This time, Zhang Jie couldn't hold back anymore, and asked anxiously, "Who drives the boat?" "Hungry Wolf, I don't know. When the sail is lowered, it moves by itself." Zhang Jie, "So, the boat has been drifting for 2 days? No one is steering?" Yigia hesitated for a moment and said, "It seems, yes." Hearing this, Zhang Jie couldn't help falling into silence. "Well, lost at sea now. I am unreliable, and the crew is even more unreliable. I blame myself for trusting them too much. Sure enough, there are specialties in the art industry, so if you want to fight them and sail, you have to find professionals." Thinking of this, Zhang Jie silently added in his heart that besides the chef, he also had to find a navigator. As for the helmsman, it depends. After all, it is not impossible for a navigator to also serve as the helmsman. The original plan was forced to be terminated under this oolong. Now, it's just a matter of luck, waiting to readjust the plan after landing. Time passed day by day. When everyone realized that they had lost themselves at sea, life suddenly became dull and boring. It's like there's no hope. Zhang Jie and others just read newspapers and fish every day. At the same time, I look forward to some ships passing by, or encountering islands or something. Unfortunately, things backfired. For several days, Zhang Jie and others did not encounter any ships or islands. The next day, the newspaper delivery goal came. Zhang Jie bought a newspaper skillfully as usual, then sat on the rail of the boat and started fishing. Not long after, Yi Guyuda, Obito, and Hungry Wolf all came over with fishing rods in hand. Sitting next to Zhang Jie, fishing together. "Is there any interesting report today?" Hungry Wolf said casually while looking at the sea with his chin in his hand. "No." Zhang Jie responded as usual. "Wow." Spreading out the newspaper, looking at the news reports on it, Zhang Jie lost interest. "But right now there is nothing else to do except reading newspapers and fishing. Oh, when will this day be the end?" I sighed in my heart. Suddenly, Zhang Jie caught a glimpse of a line of familiar words on the last page of the newspaper from the corner of his eye. "Fighting pirates." Seeing this, Zhang Jie couldn't help being startled, and immediately regained his spirits. After looking carefully, Zhang Jie found that his name was really on it, and then said to Obito and others beside him, "Now there is an interesting thing, we are on the wanted list." While speaking, Zhang Jie shook the newspaper in his hand. As for Zhang Jie's words, Hungry Wolf and the others lifted their spirits and said in surprise, "Really?" Zhang Jie looked at the newspaper in his hand. Impressively, there is a paragraph describing their crimes. Brutal massacre of all soldiers on a marine warship before fleeing, killing 211 Marines and 1 survivor. Just the next day, the surviving officer resigned from Marine and left Marine base. The captain of the battle pirates, Zhang Jie, offers a reward of 6 million baileys. Hungry Wolf, a bounty of 3 million baileys. Uchiha Obito, the bounty is 4 million berries. Yigu Yutai, the bounty is 3.5 million baileys. Everyone, including Zhang Jie, fell silent the moment they saw the amount of the reward offered. After a while, Zhang Jie couldn't help but chuckled softly. This is really a huge bounty. Obito put away the fishing rod, looked at the reward amount of 4 million baileys and couldn't help but said leisurely, "The lives of those Marines are worth this price." Hungry Wolf narrowed his eyes slightly. "I think it's necessary for us to let them get to know us again? Of course, I don't mean self-introduction." Zhang Jie put down the newspaper slowly, with the usual expression on his face. "Yeah? Come and visit me if you have a chance. The bounty offered is too low, so it's a bit untenable." After all, Zhang Jie threw out the bait and started fishing quietly. Chapter 21 White Man, Smoker? The days of peace and nothingness are repeated boring and boring. As time goes by, a few days seem to pass in the blink of an eye. At noon, somewhere above the sea, 2 warships flying the marine flag are escorting a group of pirates on their way back to the base. "Ha, what a beautiful day." A woman with long blonde hair in a white marine coat stretched her waist and exclaimed. Also when her voice fell, beside her, a woman with short black hair and also wearing a white marine coat said with a smile, "Tomorrow will be better." The blonde woman turned her head, nodded with a smile and said, "Yes. When we go back this time, we can usher in the long-awaited vacation. Colonel Jaina." As soon as the voice of the blonde woman named Jaina fell, a shout came from a distance. This made her turn her head subconsciously, and looked towards the source of the sound, the watchtower on the mast sail. But she didn't see the people on the observation deck. And after waiting for a while, there was no further message. This made her yell in confusion. "What's up?" Jaina's voice fell for a while, but there was still no response. At this time, the short-haired woman standing beside Jaina also clearly noticed the abnormality. "It's not right, this is a bit weird." The two looked at each other, and they both walked out, trying to see the situation on the observation deck. It was also after they walked a certain distance. They finally saw the situation on the observation deck. At this moment, standing on the watchtower was no longer the marine soldier they knew well. It was a man wearing a white mask and a long blue trench coat. The original soldier on duty had long since died. The whole body was limp, and the man in the white mask was pinching his neck and holding it in his hand. As if aware of the eyes watching him from below, the masked man slowly turned his head and looked at Jaina and the others below. Before the masked man could speak, Jaina couldn't restrain her anger and shouted, "Who are you?" On the side, the woman with short hair. After seeing the figure of the masked man, a strong uneasiness suddenly emerged in his heart. Wait, Jaina, something is wrong with this guy, how did he get here? Jaina turned her head when she heard the sound, glanced at the short-haired woman and said, how else did you get here? You must have sneaked in secretly, trying to rescue your fellow pirates. Saying that, Jaina turned her head to look at the masked man on the observation deck. No matter what your purpose is, today, you are finished. You will pay the price you deserve for what you have done, my soldier, you will never die in vain. Jaina stared at the masked man on the watchtower, her tone full of anger. But that man didn't care about it at all. Looking at the dead marine soldier in his hand, he casually threw it down. Call out. Seeing this, Jaina's pupils shrank suddenly. In the next second, he quickly jumped up and caught the marine corpse dropped by the masked man. Boom. The figure fell steadily on the deck, and Jaina looked at the masked man on the observation deck with an even more angry expression. You BD. But the masked man just looked in another direction from afar. Jaina and the others were not taken seriously at all. Da-da-da-da. It was at this time that dense footsteps sounded. A large number of marine soldiers who heard the movement ran out with weapons in hand and gathered on the deck. Crack, crack, crack. Almost in the blink of an eye, all the sailors raised their guns. He aimed at the man in the white mask on the observation deck. At Jaina's command, they could beat the man in the white mask into a sieve. Slowly placing the corpse of the soldier in her hand on the ground, Jaina spoke with an extremely serious expression. You are the hero, it was you who discovered his infiltration. Don't worry, I won't let him escape, let alone let him rescue any of his companions. After all, Jaina stood up abruptly, and waved her hand in the direction of the observation deck. Fire. The sailors who heard the order didn't hesitate at all, and they all snapped at the man in the white mask. Bang, 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 bang. For a moment, flames burst out on the deck, and the deafening sound of bullets fired continuously. The dense bullets, like raindrops, flew towards the masked man on the observation deck. SHH, 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 shua, shua. But when the man in the white mask faced the rain of bullets in front of him, the body didn't move at all. He just stood there quietly, letting the bullets fly. Bang, bang, bang. Intensive and continuous hitting sound bursts. The observation deck where the masked man stood was almost sieved by the marines. But the masked man stood there unscathed. All the bullets that came into contact with his body penetrated directly through his body as if they had hit the air. Seeing this sudden scene, everyone present was stunned. The sailors subconsciously put down the spears in their hands, and said with disbelief on their faces, no isn't it? Missed. With such a dense attack, he failed to hit him once? Are you kidding me? Did he avoid it? But I can clearly see that he has been standing in the same place the whole time, and he hasn't moved. Cheat, a lie, right. All the marines swallowed with some difficulty, and their words were a little awkward. This is really weird. So much so that their pupils contracted uncontrollably and sharply, and their faces were full of unbelievable expressions. Even Jaina and the short-haired woman beside her, after seeing this scene, the pupils also contracted for a while, and he opened his mouth with a look of horror. How is this possible? Chapter 22 7 vs 5, the chances of winning are not small. At this time, the masked man also withdrew his gaze from a distance, and looked at Jaina and the others below. He narrowed his eyes slightly, one red and one purple, quietly staring at Jaina and said, rescue your companions? Have you misunderstood something? We are here to solve you. The masked man's voice just fell. On the sea on the side of the two warships, there was a loud noise suddenly. Boom. Huge waves were stirred up in response, and Li Xiang's figure also appeared in response. Roar. A deafening roar resounded throughout the sea area. In the next second, without any hesitation, Li Xiang suddenly punched the marine warship. Shabazz. The huge fist struck with the sound of howling and breaking the wind. Seeing this, all the marines on the warship were shocked, and their pupils shrank uncontrollably. However, they haven't waited for their reaction. Li Xiang's huge fist hit the warship hard. Boom, boom. With just one blow, Li Xiang pierced through the two warships with one punch, and the two warships were interrupted in the middle. Boom. The scorching and dazzling flames emerged with earth-shattering explosions. Countless marines were shrouded in flames on the spot, and many more were directly blown away by the fire waves generated by the explosion. Boom boom. Ugh. All of a sudden, there were wailing sounds. But it was only an instant before it was covered by the sound of flames and explosions. Boom boom boom. The two warships turned into 4 warships. The blazing fire was burning, and countless marines left this world before they even realized what happened. After finishing the work, Li Xiang decisively called off work and returned. Obito, on the other hand, walked through the burning warship, looking for the main target of this operation. This target is not a specific person, but a living person. It doesn't matter what military rank the opponent is, or whether the opponent is male or female, whether the opponent is dead or alive. As long as Obito meets people who are still alive and cannot die, Obito will pull them into the Kamui space and take them away. 5. Shouldn't that be enough? Obito murmured to himself looking at Marine lying on the floor. But after thinking about it, he casually picked up 2 Marines who were still panting and sucked them into the Kamui space. Then he left the sea of flames. On the other side, where the battle pirates are, Zhang Jie and others stood on the deck of the ship, looking at the marine warship with dazzling flames in the distance. Is this the end? Hungry Wolf wondered. As soon as his words fell, Obito's figure suddenly appeared on the deck of the ship. I'm back. Yi Guyutai responded first. Thank you, Mr. Obito. Zhang Jie also asked aloud. Has anyone brought it back? Obito nodded. Of course, not to mention that this is something you specifically ordered, Captain. They are still the key to our way to Kaido. Saying this, the space in front of Obito distorted. Immediately afterwards, the 7 people who were pulled into the Kamui space by Obito were released by him. Plop, plop. The 7 people lay down on the ground in a pile. Hungry Wolf was puzzled. Dead. Zhang Jie responded instead. If you're alive, go fetch buckets of water and wake them up. Snapped. A bucket of water was poured over, and the 7 people who were brought back shuddered immediately. Woke up from a coma. Ha ha ha. They greedily breathed in the air, apparently still a little shocked, or in other words, unable to react to the situation in front of them. At this time, Zhang Jie was already holding a stool, sitting in front of the 7 people, and said, Okay, let's cut the long story short, I'm going to any of your marine bases, it doesn't matter which base it is. It was also Zhang Jie's questioning voice. 5 men and 2 women, and 7 marines also came back to their senses. However, they did not immediately answer Zhang Jie's words. Instead, he took the lead in looking around. Soon, they noticed the pirate flag flying high on the ship. This is a pirate ship. Wearing a white marine coat, the woman with the rank of colonel was shocked. And she is Jaina. After briefly confirming the place, Jaina responded to Zhang Jie's question. Are you a pirate? A pirate goes to marine's base. Are you going to die? After speaking, Jaina began to observe her own state again. They didn't tie us up? So confident in their own strength. Do you think we can't pose a threat to them at all? While Jaina's thoughts were ups and downs, Zhang Jie had responded calmly. Why do you ask so many questions? Take us there, you can live. If you don't take us, then you will die. Choose one of the two. Jaina looked around calmly, then looked at Zhang Jie and said, Are you the boss here? Does what you say count? Quietly watching Jaina's small movements, Zhang Jie smiled meaningfully and narrowed his eyes slightly. Of course, but if you resist and get killed, you can't say that I don't count. Hearing that Zhang Jie admitted that he was the captain, Jaina felt a little relieved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including the captain, there are only 5 people in total. That masked man is a bit dangerous. However, should I say that you are arrogant or confident? Idiotic. Even the overlord of the sea wouldn't be idle to attack Marine's base, would he? On the other side, Zhang Jie checked his property panel again. Host Zhang Jie. Battle value, 402. Item, none. Conqueror, Bonyuda, Uchiha Obito, Hungry Wolf, Pain Tiandeo. Lottery entrance. Looking at the combat value he currently possesses, Zhang Jie is puzzled. In this battle, he only got more than 300 battle points. It is even less than the combat value obtained after the last battle with Marine. This time we fought at once, but 2 marine warships. Well, Zhang Jie couldn't help but sighed softly. I don't understand the reward mechanism. Sometimes it is more than expected, and sometimes it is less. What is the key point? With that said, Zhang Jie opened the lottery page. The price of one lottery draw above has already reached 1,600 once. This is obviously a mechanism where the price will double every time you draw it. However, Zhang Jie didn't feel any annoyance at the system's doubling of prices. Just a little anxious. According to this rate of increase, it won't be long before it will exceed 10,000. Conquest value. War. Indispensable. Chapter 24. There are guests coming? With a few marine prisoners, the life of Zhang Jie and others became easier. Almost all chores can be assigned to marine captives. And this made Zhang Jie understand again the importance of having a handyman on board. With a course, there is a sailor. Zhang Jie and others also got rid of the plight of being lost in the sea, and it is heading towards the marine branch base guided by Jaina and others. The next day, in the morning, on the ship of the pirate group, Jaina and the others stayed silently on the deck, looking at the sea scenery with empty eyes. Of course, this is not Zhang Jie asking them to only stay on deck. On the contrary, they are very free. They can go wherever they want. Zhang Jie will not restrain them. Whether he will die because of this is unknown. It was at this time that a marine's body suddenly froze. Immediately afterwards, he rubbed his eyes vigorously and looked in one direction. After a while, he lowered his voice a little excitedly. Colonel Jaina? Colonel Jaina? Then look over there. Jaina looked up at the sound. Immediately afterwards, she saw a warship flying the marine flag in the distance. This scene immediately cheered Jaina up. Without saying a word, Jaina pressed her hand at the sailor. Don't make a sound, we just pretend we didn't see it. They will find this ship. Marines and pirates are at odds with each other. If Marine discovers the pirate ship, then Marine will undoubtedly come to catch the pirates. At that time, the two sides are bound to have a battle. And this is the hope that they can get rid of control. Thinking of this, Jaina couldn't help but subconsciously look at the watchtower on the ship's mast. The retribution of your blind confidence is coming soon. There isn't even a person on duty. Do you really think we will report to you after we see Marine? Wait. You will also experience the suffering I have experienced. In Jaina's heart, she always felt that the reason why she was captured was entirely caused by her own carelessness. If she could have reacted immediately, she was still a little confident that she could organize her strength to block that monster's fist. Afterwards, relying on his own 2 warships, it was a breeze to deal with this pirate ship that didn't even have a naval gun. At the same time, on a marine warship a little far away, a middle-aged man with short silver-white hair and a big cigarette dangling from his mouth was sitting on the railing of the boat dully. I don't know what I'm thinking about. Also at this time, a woman wearing glasses and a long knife on her waist slowly came to the side of the middle-aged man. After being silent for a while, the woman spoke cautiously. Are you still worried about the Straw Hat Kid? The middle-aged man froze for a moment, turned his head to look, and after seeing the speaker clearly, he reacted. Tashiji. Tashiji smiled, but didn't answer. The middle-aged man with short silver-white hair in front of him is a well-known general in Marine, holder of the Logia smoke fruit, Colonel Marine, Smoker. After a brief silence, Smoker spoke slowly. It's not all right, I'm still thinking about some other things. Tashiji nodded thoughtfully when he heard the words, but didn't ask any further questions. After a long pause, Smoker added another sentence. However, I'm still a bit unwilling to let them escape. Da-da-da. The sound of hurried footsteps suddenly came from behind. Both Smoker and Tashiji turned their heads to look at the same time. Then I saw a sailor coming to the front quickly, saluting and reporting. Colonel Smoker, pirates have been spotted on the right side of the warship. Smoker narrowed his eyes slightly when he heard this, exhaled a puff of thick smoke and asked, which pirate group is it? The sea soldier who reported was silent for a moment, then shook his head. I don't know, let's just say it's a new pirate group. Leaping off the rail, Smoker strode toward the starboard side of the warship. He is going to see what the other party's ship and the other party's pirate group look like. Seeing Smoker move, Tashiji and the sailor quickly followed. How many are there? Smoker asked aloud. The sea soldier replied truthfully, the exact number of people is unknown, only a few figures were seen hurrying past on the deck. Judging from the size of the ship, there may be no less than 20 people on board. Is that so? Smoker replied calmly. At this time, he had come to the right side of the warship, and saw the pirate group a little far away. And that's exactly what Zhangzhe and others are fighting against the pirates. It was also when Smoker discovered Zhangzhe at all. Zhangzhe also sensed their existence, and it is clear that they are rapidly approaching in their direction. Inside the cabin, Zhangzhe raised his head slowly, and spoke calmly with a smile on his face. There are guests coming. At the same moment, Yoda Oto, Tendo Pain, Hungry Wolf, and Obito also sensed something approaching. With Zhangzhe's words, they were even more sure. Is it Marine? Yoda Oto asked. Zhangzhe stood up slowly. If there is no accident, it should be. Although other pirate groups, after discovering other pirate ships, will quickly approach and think about plundering them. But the probability of this kind of thing happening is still not as high as that of Marine. Let's go. Go and greet this guest from afar. Chapter 25 Struck, horrified Jaina? Zhangzhe and others walked out of the cabin and came to the deck of the ship. The marine warship that was approaching them quickly came into their sight. It's really marine, and there are quite a few of them. Hungry Wolf whispered with a smile on his face. In the rear, Jaina and the others no longer hid. He walked out slowly and appeared behind Zhangzhe and the others. As for Zhangzhe, he just turned his head and glanced at them, not caring what they were doing. He knew very well that Jaina and the others avoided it on purpose. I also deliberately didn't tell them that Marine was coming. Because in their view, this warship is a hope that can destroy themselves. How could they bury their hopes with their own hands? In fact, it was exactly what Zhangzhe thought in his heart. Seeing Zhangzhe and others coming out of the cabin, Jaina's eyes were full of regret. It's obviously a group of damned seas, what luck? Since they all happened to come out like this, they happened to discover Marine's approach. Damn it, if I had discovered them earlier, I wouldn't have fallen into this situation, right? Regarding the situation where they knew that Marine was coming, but did not inform Zhangzhe and others, Jaina is not worried at all that Zhangzhe will settle accounts with them. They came out after Zhangzhe came out. Afterwards, Zhangzhe questioned them, and they could also say that they didn't know that Marine was coming. Although this is a bit self-deceiving, ordinary people can spot problems at a glance. But it is undoubtedly a good argument and excuse. On the marine warship, Tashiji held a telescope and observed the situation on the boat of Zhangzhe and others. There seems to be a lot of people. Smoker at the side took a deep puff of the big cigarette, slowly exhaled a burst of thick smoke, and calmly answered. Of course, the size of that ship is not small, how could there be fewer pirates on it? Besides Smoker, an officer wearing marine costume hesitated for a while and asked. The opponent's hull seems to have no naval guns. Now that they have entered the range of the naval guns, should we lean in or directly bombard them? Of course it was shelling. Smoker responded without hesitation, and then added, it would be easier to sink them with their boats. I don't want to have any mishaps in the middle and let them slip away. The officer nodded immediately upon hearing the words and responded, understood. Quickly leaving Smoker's place, the marine officer greeted him loudly. Quick, ready for shelling. The sailors, who had already been prepared, immediately loaded the shells into the barrel after hearing the order. Rumble. The naval guns all turned around and aimed at the ships that locked Zhangzhe and others. Waiting for the naval guns to be ready, the officer raised his voice and waved his hand. Fire. Bang, bang, bang. The continuous loud noise resounded, and the muzzle shot out a dazzling flame. The dense rain-like cannonballs flew towards the boat of Zhangzhe and others with that sharp whistling sound. SHH, 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 SHHH. At the same time, on the ship of the pirate group, seeing that the rain-like shells were about to fall, Jaina was slightly startled, and hurriedly greeted the sea soldiers beside her. Get out of the way. A group of sea soldiers did not dare to delay, hastily spread out towards the surroundings. But soon, Jaina noticed something was wrong. Why are those people not doing anything? Strange thoughts arose in her heart, and Jaina couldn't help but feel the curiosity in her heart, and turned her head to look in the direction of Zhangje and others. When she saw the calm expressions of Zhangje and others, Jaina froze in place. What do they want to do? Such dance shells cannot be intercepted by just 5 people. Avoiding is the wisest choice. What are they trying to do? Jaina felt very puzzled in her heart. But then, she suddenly remembered the idea of going to Marine Base that Zhangje and others had mentioned. Lenovo is now approaching the shells, and they still look calm and motionless. Another ridiculous idea suddenly appeared in Jaina's mind. Could it be that they really looking for death? If this is the case, then what did they do to people like themselves, and for what? Since they are all looking for death, since they are all Marines, so why can't they let themselves kill? Jaina's thoughts kept rising and falling. But in the next second, she found that Zhangje and the others had moved. I saw the man who killed his best friend, wearing a long black windbreaker with red auspicious clouds embroidered on it, slowly raised his head. Those purple eyes with black rings stared at the shells in the sky. After a while, I saw him wave his sleeves. Buzz. A piercing hum suddenly appeared. A powerful and invisible force immediately flew towards the cannonballs that filled the sky. At the same time, there was a strong storm. Boom, boom, boom. Only in the blink of an eye, the cannonballs all over the sky exploded together. There was a loud bang. Boom. The thick smoke engulfed by the dazzling flames diffused. But after the fire dissipated, the thick black smoke still lingered in the air for a long time. Jaina, who witnessed this scene with her own eyes, was stunned at the moment. The pupils are shrinking slightly. At this moment, there was no doubt in her eyes anymore, only the expression of incredible horror. Is that a lie? There are so many such dance shells, and he was knocked out by him with such an easy raising of his hand. This guy, how did he do it? With so many shells, let alone myself, even if there are 2 more. I dare not say that I can take all of them. And that guy, with just a casual lift, destroyed all the shells in an instant? What are you kidding? Chapter 26. The strength is revealed, the power is not at the same level? Glancing at you at the marine warship behind the thick black smoke, Tiandao Pain slowly stepped forward 2 steps, and said in a cold tone, I'll take care of them. But this time, Zhangje stopped Tiandao Pain's actions in an abnormal way, and said slowly, no, I will do it this time. Hearing that Zhangje was going to take action himself, Hungry Wolf and the others were obviously stunned for a moment, and called out with some uncertainty. Boat, Captain. These ant-like guys are not qualified to let you take action, Captain, let me deal with them. Hungry Wolf rolled up his sleeves, looking eager to try. But even so, Zhangje still refused with a smile. No, I need to confirm some conjectures. Hungry Wolf and the others were slightly taken aback when they heard this. Guess. Can't we do it for you? Zhangje shook his head. Then, under the watchful eyes of the crew, he slowly stepped forward to look at it, and at the same time slowly reached out to grab the long knife hanging from his waist. Clang. Accompanied by a crisp buzzing sound. The long knife hanging from his waist was slowly unsheathed. Zhangje stood in front of the bow, holding a long knife in one hand, and looked at the approaching marine warship from a distance. This scene made Jaina and other marines in the rear look puzzled. What does he want to do? Is this going to stop the second round of shelling? A person too. It was also when all the marines were discussing in low voices. The aura around Zhangje suddenly changed. Buzz. A deafening hum reverberated. Waves of rippling airwaves arrived, centered on Zhangje, and spread in all directions. An incomparably powerful aura enveloped the entire sea area in an instant. Boom. From the rear, Jaina's pupils who felt a strong aura suddenly slapped her hand. Breathing subconsciously stopped. Also at the same moment, Smoker is on the marine warship. Smoker's expression changed suddenly when he felt the sudden terrifying aura. This breath, not good, run. Without too much hesitation. Instinctive intuition made Smoker pull up Tashiji who was on the side and sprinted towards the other side. Same moment. Zhangje, who was standing on the bow of the ship with a long knife in his hand, also slowly raised the long knife in his hand at this moment. The top conqueror's haki wraps around the blade in an instant. In the next second, Zhangje's expression turned ferocious. Holding the long knife fiercely, he slashed down at the marine warship in front of him. Clang. The sharp and piercing whistling sound of the long knife exploded, and the dark red crescent light appeared in response. Shoo. At this moment, the sky in the entire sea area seemed to darken. The sea surface, which had some small waves, became calm at this moment. It was as if the flowing time suddenly froze. Clang. There was an ear-piercing buzzing sound, and the dark red crescent blade flashed across the center of the marine warship. Where the sword light passed, the clouds in the sky were divided, and the sea current on the ground was cut off. The entire marine warship was also split in half in a flash of dark red sword light. Boom, boom. There was a violent explosion on the warship, and the sea surface exploded at the same time, stirring up huge waves as high as tens of feet. A huge gully on the sea surface also emerged. Boom boom. But this is not over. The remaining prestige of the dark red sword light set off a strong wave of air visible to the naked eye. Wrapping the sea water stirred up in midair, it swept all directions. Crash! The sea water, like a torrential rain, rushed towards the face with a strong wind. Jaina and the other marines were shocked when they saw this, and quickly raised their hands to resist. But in the next second, they were blown away by the sudden rainstorm and smashed heavily on the wooden wall of the ship. Bang! 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 Plop! 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 Ugh! For a while, the boat wailed again and again. Obviously, they were all thrown hard this time. This power came fast, and the faster it went. Almost in the blink of an eye, the rainstorm receded. Jaina also gritted her teeth, enduring the pain, and slowly got up from the ground. At this time, her clothes were already wet by the sea water, and her hair was also wet. But when she looked up, she saw the scene directly in front of her. She froze in place because of it. His eyes trembled violently like an earthquake. At this moment, Jaina only had the unbelievable boundless horror in her eyes. I can only see the front. The black smoke gathered in midair had already been dispersed by the residual power wave. That huge marine warship was also split in half at this moment. Although the gully on the sea is rapidly closing. But above the sky, there are still traces of Zhang Zhe's knife just now, and from the divided clouds, it is not difficult to see just how terrifying and powerful is the power of Zhang Zhe's knife just now. Her body trembled subconsciously, and Jaina subconsciously looked at Zhang Zhe's back, her voice trembling with fear. Is that a lie? Is it really a power that humans can master? It's not a level of power at all, is it? Chapter 27 There is still hope? It was also at this time that the system's notification sound echoed in Zhang Zhe's mind again. Ding! Congratulations to host for getting plus 200 combat value. Hearing how rich the system rewards were, Zhang Zhe couldn't help but fell into thinking again. Only 200? Is it less? Does the mechanism determine how many rewards I get, and whether I directly participate in the battle or not has nothing to do with it? Why is that? Thinking of this, Zhang Zhe couldn't help but look up at the marine warship that was split in half not far away. Or in other words, what is involved in the judgment of the mechanism is not only the strength of the opponent, but also other aspects. On the other side, among the warships. Clicking. The warship that had been split in half was sinking into the sea little by little. The large tilt also made the warship's wooden hull emit an overwhelmed crisp sound. Boom, boom. As a large plank was overturned and fell to the ground, a loud noise echoed along with it. The two figures that were pressed under the wooden plank also emerged. It was Smoker and Tashiji. What happened? Tashiji asked with a trembling body. Smoker glanced around, and his face immediately became serious. Don't know, but what is certain is that this is not a good thing. After saying that, Smoker stood up slowly. He looked at the warship that was split in half, and then at the pirate ship not far away. We underestimated them. The pirates we met this time may be far stronger and more difficult than we imagined. Listening to Smoker's words, Tashiji looked around subconsciously. It was also at this time that she was shocked to find out. The warship was actually split in half. The scene in front of him obviously had a strong visual impact on Tashiji. So much so that her pupils contracted uncontrollably and sharply at this moment. No, isn't it? Am I dreaming? Military, warship. Smoker took a deep drag on his cigarette, and Union interrupted Tashiji. This is not a dream. If you continue to lie down, you may be able to dream forever. Tashiji came to his senses and quickly got up from the sloping floor. So, sorry, Colonel Smoker. What should we do now? The warship is tilting and sinking. I'm afraid it won't be long before it will completely sink into the sea. Smoker looked at the pirate ship that was slowly approaching, looked at Zhang Zhe standing on the bow of the ship, and said leisurely, I don't know what to do. But one thing is for sure, our fight is not over yet. His eyes swept over the situation of some sailors. Too bad, most of the sailors were lying down at this time, and they didn't know whether they passed out or died. Some of them were not lying down, and they were also staggering, obviously unable to fight anymore in a short period of time. If you want to count on them, you can't count on them. After all, the enemy is right in front of you. On the other side, Zhang Zhe also noticed Smoker and Tashiji. Look at Smoker's short silver hair, wearing a marine coat, carrying a fork-like weapon, and a big cigarette in his mouth. Zhang Zhe couldn't help but narrowed his eyes slightly. This person looks familiar. There are not many middle-aged people with white hair in marine. It was also when Zhang Zhe felt that Smoker looked familiar. Jaina at the rear recognized Smoker on the marine warship at a glance. That's Colonel Smoker? He's here. Although both belong to the colonel, compared with Smoker's strength, Jaina is still a lot worse. You know, even if Smoker is just a colonel, he still has a little bit of fame in marine. After all, there are even several nicknames that have been circulated. And all of this reveals that Smoker has great strength. Moreover, he is also a Lokia smoke fruit-capable user. Thinking of this, Jaina's eyes once again shone with hope. If it's him, then we still have hope. While thinking about it, Jaina clenched her fists nervously. Smoker also greeted Tashiji at this moment. You stay here, I'll deal with them. Hearing this, Tashiji nodded solemnly and took a step back. Smoker, after taking a deep puff of the cigarette, suddenly activated his fruit ability. White smoke, launcher. Buzz. Thick white smoke emerged as Smoker's voice fell. The lower body turned into white smoke, and Smoker flew towards Zhang Zhe by himself. Call out. Seeing this ability, Zhang Jie was slightly taken aback. Immediately afterwards, he knew the identity of the person in front of him. Smoke fruit? It's you, Smoker. On one side, Tiandao Pain, who saw Smoker flying straight towards him, looked calm as usual, but the movements in his hands are not sloppy at all. Watching the coming Smoker, Tiandao Pain made a move with his hand, and he condensed a black stick and held it in his palm. Despair. Chapter 28. The Smoker who was beaten and forced? But that day Dao Pain stepped forward, ready to face Smoker. Zhang Jie at the side spoke slowly before him. I'll deal with him, you don't have to interfere. As he spoke, Zhang Jie didn't wait for the crew's reply. Just like that, I faced the coming Smoker. Seeing that Zhang Jie was unmoved by his own attack, Smoker couldn't help frowning. Are you belittling me? With a low snort, Smoker's figure appeared in front of Zhang Jie in an instant. In the next second, the 10 hands carrying the weapon on his back were pulled out tightly by him, then a blow swung towards Zhang Jie's face. Shoo. Seeing this, Zhang Jie still didn't panic in the slightest, he stood where he was and didn't dodge. Immediately afterwards, Smoker's 10 hands swept across Zhang Jie's head. Call. The whistling sound echoed, but the hitting sound was missing. Feeling the emptiness on the weapon, as if nothing hit it, Smoker's heart tightened. What's going on here? Didn't hit? Was dodged? But I was watching, why didn't I feel the blow? While thinking about it, Smoker suddenly looked up. But what greeted him was Zhang Jie's blow that had been wrapped around Haki. Boom. Boom. Before Smoker could even react, he was hit hard by Zhang Jie's blow that entwined Haki. And his whole body is like a kite with a broken string. He flew upside down and crashed heavily into the half of the warship he was standing on when he came. Call out. Boom. 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 Loud impacts echoed, and countless sawdust flew across. Billows of smoke rose up. Smoker's body was directly inlaid on the wooden floor. Mr. Smoker. Tashiji yelled worriedly. Opposite. Zhang Jie narrowed his eyes slightly, reminding with a smile on his face. It's not a good habit to be distracted even after running in front of the enemy. On the side, Hungry Wolf couldn't help but patted Obito's shoulder with a smile and said, that guy, is he Link Toking? With this strength, he dares to go directly to the captain. Obito looked at the Hungry Wolf, and continued the conversation in a flat tone. I don't know if it's Link Toking, but it, who has the top observation Haki. It is equivalent to telling Zhang Jie where they are going to attack while attacking frontally. Just a little, play with you guys. Thoughts fluctuated. Zhang Jie immediately let go of the long knife in his hand, and at the same time broke away from Smoker's shackles. Just body rotation. With a powerful blow, Tashiji chopped off from Zhang Jie's face, and fell to the floor again. Boom. Isn't it a lie? Tashiji looked up in astonishment. Smoker was even more frightened, and quickly reminded, get out of the way. As he said that, Smoker didn't have time to think about it, and directly threw the long knife bound by Bai Yan at Zhang Jie. Shua. He glanced sideways at the long knife flying towards his head. Zhang Jie was calm and composed, just leaned back slightly, and easily dodged. But this also gave Tashiji a little time to react. Clenching the long knife in his hand, Tashiji gritted his teeth and chopped off Zhang Jie's head with a knife. Shoo. When. An untimely crisp sound echoed. The knife that Tashiji swung vigorously was caught by Zhang Jie lightly with 3 fingers, and his body remained motionless. Got it? This, how is it possible? This scene immediately made Tashiji a little overwhelmed. The pupils shrank uncontrollably and there was an unbelievably horrified expression on his face. You guys really like to start. Zhang Jie said calmly. This inexplicable sentence made Tashiji subconsciously chuckle. But the next second, what greeted her was a straight punch from Zhang Jie. Boom. Wrapped around Haki's fist, hitting the front door, Tashiji felt dizzy, and his mind seemed to go blank. But Zhang Jie didn't stop there. The hand holding the long knife gently pulled. Tashiji's body was thrown forward when he lost his balance. Zhang Jie stepped out and hit Tashiji's abdomen with a blow to the top of his knee. Boom. There was a dull beating sound, Tashiji's pupils bulged slightly, and the pain, like a stabbing knife, instantly conveyed to the nerve center. But before she let out a painful cry, Zhang Jie took advantage of the opportunity to catch the elbow and uppercut. Boom. Bang. 2 dull beating sounds spread, accompanied by the crisp but not loud sound of bone breaking. Catch. Tashiji's ribs and mandible were directly cracked. Immediately afterwards, Zhang Jie hit Tashiji to the ground with another backspin elbow, followed by a split that sent Tashiji all over the floor, and finally a downward punch that hit her in the head. Boom. 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 Facing Zhang Jie's fast and continuous offensive, Tashiji was powerless to resist at all, and the received attack had already turned her eyes white, hovering on the verge of fainting. It was also at the moment when Tashiji was on the verge of passing out, countless thoughts appeared in her mind. At the same time, it also made her clearly aware of the relationship between the two parties. That comes from the huge gap in strength. I can't see his movements at all. The attack didn't work, and the sneak attack didn't work. I couldn't hit him at all. The gap in strength is too great. This kind of monster is not something I can fight against. I'm sorry, Mr. Smoker. I seem to live up to your expectations. Chapter 30. Sufficient and strong enough manpower? With Tashiji completely in a coma, Zhang Jie took the final sweep kick. Boom. Tashiji's body, like a kite with a broken string, flew upside down and hit the other half of the warship heavily. Call out. Boom, 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 boom. Tashiji. Smoker's worried yell echoed. All this happened so fast that he didn't even have time to react. The whole process only takes a few seconds. Hateful. Without staying where he was, Smoker endured the severe pain from his body and used his fruit ability again. Boom. The lower body turned into white smoke again, and Smoker galloped towards Zhang Jie. A hole. With a low shout, Smoker clenched his fist and swung towards Zhang Jie. Zhang Jie glanced sideways, and his body reacted quickly. I saw that he immediately fell back on the ground, supporting the floor with both hands, and the whole person stood upside down, his body arched like a shrimp. Smoker's swinging fist missed again because of this. Shua. Seeing his attack being dodged again, he looked down at Zhang Jie, who looked calm. Smoker only felt a monstrous sense of aggrieved and powerless rising in his heart. Damn guy. It was also when Smoker's body flew over Zhang Jie. Zhang Jie exerted his strength suddenly, and his hands supporting the floor stretched out. Shua. The next moment, the bowed body suddenly collapsed, and his legs kicked Smoker's chest fiercely. Boom. Accompanied by a dull beating sound spread. Smoker coughed out a mouthful of bloody saliva. Ahem. Immediately afterwards, his whole body flew out like a shooting star. Call out. Boom, boom, boom. With continuous loud noises, the smoker hit the warship again, billowing smoke and dust. It's different from previous times. This time, Zhang Jie didn't give him any breathing time. Clatter. After the body landed steadily, Zhang Jie followed closely with his legs, and he rushed out steeply. Boom. The huge explosive force even caused the floor to collapse. Whoosh. Zhang Jie's figure instantly broke through the billowing smoke and came in front of Smoker. Without any nonsense, Zhang Jie raised his hand to charge his strength and punched him directly in the face. Boom, boom. Smoker's body, which was already embedded in the wooden wall, went a little deeper. A cold light flashed in Zhang Jie's eyes, and he opened his hands. In the next moment, his eyes overflowed with light, his whole body changed drastically, and his voice murmured in a low voice. Flowing water. Rockbreaker fist. Sound and fist. Without showing any mercy, Zhang Jie's fist slammed into Smoker's body like a torrential rain. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Every time Zhang Jie punches, Smoker's body sinks deeper into the wall. Under the greeting of Zhang Jie's hundreds of punches, Smoker's whole body was already bloody, and even the walls were smashed through several times. Boom, boom. With Zhang Jie's final punch, the wooden wall collapsed again. Smoker's figure also flew out and fell into the boundless sea. Boom, boom. Zhang Jie did not pursue again. Sea water is fatal to fruit ability users. Of course, it refers to those who swim in the sea. After all, those with fruit abilities are all land lubbers. Staring at the sea, rippled by Smoker's fall, Zhang Jie thought for a moment, then turned and left. Pick up your long knife. Zhang Jie waved it casually for a while, and several sword lights shot out. Shua, shua, shua. The marine warship, which had already been split in half, was once again divided by Zhang Jie's sword light. Boom, boom, boom. Warships that are divided into smaller pieces sink faster. Zhang Jie put his sword back into its sheath and returned to his boat. I don't know if his strength can be used as a standard of measurement. If it's not possible, the battle just now will become meaningless, right? While the thoughts in Zhang Jie's mind were fluctuating, the system's notification tone suddenly came again. Ding! Congratulations to host for getting plus 400 combat value. Zhang Jie's pace stopped immediately. Then he turned his head and looked at the wreckage of the warship that had been divided into several pieces and was sinking rapidly behind him. Now, it won't become meaningless. What's the matter, Captain? Seeing Zhang Jie staring at the wreckage of the warship, Yi Guyutai asked curiously and puzzled. Hearing the sound, Zhang Jie looked back and shook his head calmly. Nothing. Just when he was shaking his head, Zhang Jie suddenly noticed Jaina and the others behind him from the corner of his eye, and their expressions were a little strange. However, Zhang Jie didn't care. After all, whether their faces are ugly or not has nothing to do with Zhang Jie. The battle just now gave Zhang Jie some guesses about the system's reward mechanism in his mind. Moreover, it is different from previous speculations waiting for actual confirmation. Because what I am experiencing now, more or less can match some aspects of the guess. These 400 combat points are the best proof. If you add the 200 at the beginning, then this battle will be 600. Combined with the previous combat value obtained by destroying Jaina's 2 warships, this time it is much more. At the same time, the first conclusion can be drawn. The amount of reward is still related to whether you participate in the battle or not. Second, the strength of the enemy. Third, the intensity of the battle. Fourth, the length of the battle. The above out of the second. The second and third are a bit consistent, but further confirmation is awaited. Fifth, the visibility of the enemy. Sixth, according to the influence. Seventh, so build prestige. 5, 6, and 7 are unfounded, extended guesses that need to be confirmed and ruled out. But this does not prevent the birth of Zhang Jie's plan. That is to summon the crew and recruit the conquerors. Now the number of crew members is still too small, and recruiting crew members is the main direction. For this, wars and battles are necessary. But at the same time, we must maximize the benefits as much as possible. The distribution of forces in this world will be reshuffled because of their arrival. No force is immune, and neither is the celestial dragons. the location of the Void Throne. It's time for another person to sit down. But before that, Zhang Jie still needs manpower, enough and strong enough manpower? Chapter 31. So now, let's go to war. Therefore, Zhang Jie felt more and more that he had to go to this marine base himself. As for whether Jaina and others are happy or sad, it doesn't matter. As long as they can bring themselves to their destination, that's enough. At night, fight on the deck of the pirate group's ship. Colonel Jaina, what should we do now? A sailor asked softly. Jaina couldn't help being silent for a while when she heard the words, and said leisurely, I can only take one step at a time. I couldn't help but recall the scene of Zhang Jie fighting Smoker during the day. Jaina only felt a chill in her body. The strength of the opponent is stronger than what I imagined. No opportunism, and no dirty tricks. That is undeniably powerful. Even Smoker with his Logia smoke fruit ability is no match for him, and he can't even do him a little damage. This kind of terrifying strength is completely different from theirs. Then we can only take them to the base honestly. Another marine said unwillingly. Jaina glanced at him, her tone still calm. We can't stop them. Although I don't know why they went to the base, what is certain is that they are very fancy about this matter, and they have to go to the point. Now although our actions are limited. However, we must believe in the power of marine and the power of justice. What they're going to is our base camp, where a large number of troops are assembled and marine base with super defense. Even if they are very strong, facing the power of an entire base, they can only die. Hearing these words, all the sailors lowered their heads and fell into deep thought. Yes, that's the base. Marine's base. A large number of marine troops are gathered, and the marine base with super high defense power. There are only 5 people on the other side. Will the huge marine base be unstoppable? If even the base can't stop their footsteps, wouldn't they be unstoppable? How is this possible? Thinking of this, everyone settled down for a while, and they stopped talking. The next day, noon. In a certain marine branch base, under the inspection of the sailors on duty, a pirate group that was heading towards the base was also discovered. Hey, am I right? That's a pirate ship, coming towards the base. As soon as these words came out, the guard booth was below. A non-commissioned officer wearing a white marine coat came up upon hearing the sound. What happened? The sailor on duty saluted the sergeant and said solemnly, Report? Off the coast of the base, we found a pirate ship sailing towards the base. The sergeant frowned slightly. Are you sure it's a pirate? The sailor on duty nodded. Yes, Captain. There are pirate flags hanging on their mast sails, and there are a few menacing guys standing on the deck. It can't be marine. The sergeant gave the sailor a blank look. What time is it? How serious is it? The sea soldier smiled and asked a question. Does that require sounding the alarm? The sergeant looked into the distance, saw the skeleton flag fluttering on the mast sail, shook his head slightly and said, No, it's just a pirate ship. If this situation has to sound the alarm and mobilize the entire base to prepare for war, those guys at the base will have gone crazy. Report it, and at the same time order number 1 and number 3 forts to send those pirates who are eager to die to the sea to feed the fish. Hearing the words, Haibing immediately responded loudly. Learn. Clicking. Located on the defense line, the huge fort began to rotate, and bursts of heavy sounds echoed. After a while, the fort stopped turning. The muzzle rose slowly, aiming at the pirate ship sailing towards the base. In front of the fort, the sergeant stared at the pirate ship in the distance for a moment, then shouted in a cold voice, Load the shells. The sailors below acted one after another, loading a large amount of ammunition into the shells. Seeing that everything was ready, the sergeant also waved his hand at this time and shouted, Fire! Bang! 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 Both turrets fired at the same time. The muzzle fire burst out, and the roar was deafening. The cannonball also flew towards the pirate group with a whistling sound of breaking the wind. SHH, 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 SHHH. At the same time, on the ship sailing towards marine base, Zhang Jie, Yuguyutai, Tiandao Pain, Obito, and Hungry Wolf stand proudly on the deck, looking at the shells that hit them in the sky. On Zhang Jie's face, there was a playful smile involuntarily. Then now, let's go to war. Clang. The long knife at his waist was slowly unsheathed. Zhang Jie held a long knife in his hand, and pointed the tip of the knife towards the base of the marine branch. Destroy them. After finishing speaking, a cold light flashed in Zhang Jie's eyes. Without waiting for the crew to make any moves, he himself took the lead and galloped towards the marine base. Boom. Whoosh. When Tiandao Pain and Obito saw this, they immediately followed up without any hesitation. Whizzing. The 3 stepped on the sea and galloped away. Behind, the Hungry Wolf hopped anxiously. Hey, you guys are waiting for me. Mr. Hungry Wolf, I will leave the ship to your protection. I will take a step first. Yiguyutai greeted Hungry Wolf. Before the Hungry Wolf could respond, a big hand reached out from the void, grabbed Otoko Yuta, and took him away from the boat. Seeing this scene, the veins on Hungry Wolf's forehead popped out. Huh? Why didn't you take me? As he said that, Hungry Wolf looked at the flying cannonball in the sky again. Let me stay behind? Are you kidding me? How can I be absent from this kind of battle? As far as shells of this level are concerned, I will deal with them in minutes. As he spoke, Hungry Wolf leaned down steeply. The veins all over his body burst out, and his strength was gathered and mobilized by him at this moment. In the next second, he leaped fiercely and flew towards the speeding cannonball. Boom. Whoosh. relying on his strong physical fitness and ultimate's physical explosive power. After the hungry wolf obstinately destroyed a few shells, changed the trajectory of a few more shells, and while making sure they wouldn't hit the ship, used them as leverage to leap towards the marine base. Boom, boom. On the boat, Jaina and the others watched this sudden scene. Already horrified, his face changed greatly, showing a look of shock. They walked on the surface of the sea? After destroying the shells, there is still time to use other shells as leverage points. What kind of physical explosive power is this? This has surpassed the limit of human beings, right? These guys, what kind of monsters are they? Is this really something humans can do? The pupils of Jaina and the others shrank slightly. His eyes trembled violently like an earthquake. The scene in front of them had an impact on them that was too great. Underscore 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 underscore. The new book sets sail. Please support the flower comments. The third watch is here. In the comment area, some readers reported that the three views are not correct. The first time they met Marine kindly asked the protagonist if he wanted to help, and the protagonist killed everyone else. The author is not good to say anything, personal views are different. But the author will avoid this kind of plot in the future. In fact, in the original plan, the name of the pirate group was not called the Battle Pirate Group. It's called the Evil Pirates. However, due to some reasons, it was finally used to fight the pirates. If you look at the title and introduction of the book, you can probably understand something. Don't be kind because of the enemy. If there are some unreasonable explanations, they're Marine and the protagonist are pirates, and the two are inherently hostile. Either the Marine kills and captures the pirates, or the pirates kill the Marines. There is no room for peace. The protagonist admitted his identity from the very beginning, but they didn't believe it. When the protagonist said that he wanted to kill them, they still didn't believe it, and they even sneered. If they believed the protagonist, then they would draw their swords decisively, which is inevitable. As for making the main character lie, it doesn't make sense at all. They are Marine, and the protagonist is a pirate. The protagonist is stronger than them and needs stepping stones. Why lie to cover up and let them go? If I really write that the protagonist does this, how can I write the protagonist as a pirate? Chapter 32. This is a rare time for me to rest. Boom, boom. The huge roar and trembling sound resounded throughout the marine base. What followed was the loud and long siren. Woo. Inside the marine base, in the cafeteria, a large number of sailors enjoying lunch in the canteen, after hearing the long siren. Immediately, he stood up and looked around in astonishment. This is sirens. What happened? Is there an enemy attack? Isn't it? This is marine base. Who would attack such a place? Is it a pirate? Are you crazy? This is marine base. The pirates saw us running too late. Will they come to die? Don't talk about it. Something must have happened when the alarm sounded. Go and have a look. After finishing speaking, a Marine non-commissioned officer hurriedly ran out of the cafeteria. After seeing this scene, all the Marines around nodded their heads. That's right. That's right. Go out and have a look. Da-da-da. Boom, boom. All of a sudden, all the Marines in the cafeteria ran out of the cafeteria. The resulting movement was like an earthquake. And it's in a dining table in another corner. A tall man with shaggy black curly hair. After hearing this huge roar and loud long siren, he couldn't help but put down the unfinished food in his hand, and turned his head to look at the source of the sound. After watching for a while, with a helpless expression on his face, he picked up the drink beside him and took a few sips. Gulu gulu. The door will be knocked on. Is this really marine base? I'm here to rest. My rare rest time seems to be going to waste. Complaining softly, the tall man slowly stood up. At the same time, he picked up the white marine coat that was placed aside and draped it over his shoulders. Wow. The sleeves of Marine's coat rattled. A group of sailors passing by the man happened to see this scene. At first they didn't feel anything, but when they saw clearly the military rank on the man's white marine coat and the epaulets embroidered with gold silk, all the sailors were immediately taken a breath of fright. Hiss. Big Admiral. Suddenly met a man with such Ongja has another purpose. That is to go to the prison of Marine base to see if there is anyone you are looking for. If so, it would save me a lot of trouble. After all, recruiting navigators is neither difficult nor easy. The main reason is that it is difficult to meet. Under normal circumstances, it is necessary for the captain to spend all his efforts to find, recruit, and persuade the navigator to join. In unusual circumstances, it is difficult to say. Just like Zhangzhe. For navigators, he never thought of spending all his efforts to recruit them. Just kidding. Does he have the time to chat with a navigator about the future? This is the navigator who didn't meet other pirates or other people along the way. Otherwise, he doesn't even need to go to the prison to take a look now. When you meet another pirate group, just grab it and you're done. The navigator himself is unwilling? What does that matter? The sea is so vast, and there is more than one navigator. There will always be a few people who are afraid of death. Chapter 33. Admiral of Headquarters, Aokiji. Da. After walking on the empty road for less than 10 minutes, Zhangzhe's pace suddenly slowed down, and finally stopped slowly. It stopped less than 10 meters away from an intersection. A sound of footsteps coming from far and near came to Zhangzhe's ears. Da. A moment later, a tall man with a white marine coat on his shoulders appeared at the intersection, before Zhangzhe's eyes. And this person is none other than Admiral of Headquarters, Aokiji. Boom, 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 ugh. From time to time, there will be bursts of roars and wailing sounds all around. There are also dazzling and fiery flames soaring into the sky, and thick billowing black smoke rises. But Zhangje and Aokiji, who were on the street, looked at each other, as if they didn't hear or see at all. Looking at Zhangje, who is not very old, but can stand calmly on this kind of environment and on this kind of street, Aokiji couldn't help but said leisurely, "Are you the intruder?" Slowly raising his hand, Aokiji turned his head and blew into his palm. Huh. Crack, crack, crack. Bursts of crisp sounds echoed. But in the blink of an eye, Aokiji had an extra skate in his hand. Seeing this scene, Zhangje raised his eyes and brows, and then a smile appeared on his face. "Yes, I am the intruder. If I'm not mistaken, you should be Admiral of Headquarters, Aokiji." I heard Zhangje say his name. Aokiji scratched his head in confusion. After thinking about it, he looked at Zhangje again and asked, "Who are you?" The name of Admiral of Headquarters is not just a name, still a powerful deterrent. Ordinary pirates heard the prestige of the Admiral of Headquarters and saw the Admiral standing in front of them. Not to mention being scared to the crap. There must be at least some fear and panic. After all, Admiral, known as Marine's strongest combat power, is not just talking. Can be unmoved under the prestige of Admiral. Someone who can remain calm in front of Admiral. Except for those maritime overlords who dominate one side, and the cotters under their banners, there are probably no other people, right? Hearing Aokiji ask about his name, Zhangje's face remained smiling, but his hands were unambiguous. Clang. Accompanied by a crisp sound of the blade being unsheathed. The long knife hanging from Zhangje's waist was slowly unsheathed, and Zhangje, while drawing his knife out of its sheath, briefly introduced himself. "Captain of the battle pirates, Zhangje." Clang buzz. The long knife exuding a sharp breath was completely unsheathed at the same time as Zhangje's words fell. I pondered Zhangje's words for a while. Aokiji thought about it. Fighting the pirates? Never heard of it. Well, but it doesn't matter. After all, I have to trouble you to go to the prison to spend it. Aokiji stepped forward and strode towards Zhangje. As for what Aokiji said earlier, Zhangje just smiled lightly. Then we have to see if you have the ability. I think, compared to the probability of me being imprisoned, the probability of you being killed by me is greater. Did not continue the conversation that no longer had any meaning. Aokiji held the skates in his hand, and disappeared into the spot instantly with a dodge. Whoosh. When it appeared again, it was already behind Zhangje. And without raising the skate in his hand at all, he slashed at Zhangje. Shoo. The ice skates were wrapped in cold air, and bursts of frost and mist roared towards them. Zhangje raised his eyes slightly, and the trajectory of Aokiji's ice skates was locked and predicted by his observation haki. In the next moment, Zhangje turned slightly to the side. Aokiji dodges the ice blade that fell down with ease. Boom. The ice blade that stopped before it was too late slammed heavily on the ground. Seeing this, Aokiji couldn't help but startled. Avoided. At such a close distance, and at such a late hour, there is still action. He escaped so easily. The pupils contracted slightly uncontrollably. Aokiji turned his head suddenly, and looked at Zhangje who was at the side in disbelief. There was a faint smile on Zhangje's face. At the same time, Haki attached a long knife and slashed towards Aokiji. Clang. There was no longer the previous lazy meaning on the face. Aokiji stared at Zhangje with a solemn face, holding the ice blade decisively back in his hand, making a defensive gesture. Boom. There was a deafening buzzing sound, and the two knives collided fiercely. A powerful wave of remaining prestige suddenly set off. Boom. And Aokiji himself took advantage of the opportunity to distance himself from Zhangje again. Clatter. The figure landed steadily on the ground, and Aokiji looked at Zhangje not far away. It seems, things are not as easy as I thought. Zhangje smiled and said nothing. Aokiji also understands that this young guy in front of him is stronger than he previously expected. Just a short moment of fighting. He deeply felt how superb Zhangje's control of Haki was. Now it seems that it is simply unrealistic to solve the opponent in 1 move and a half. Today, it is inevitable to spend some effort. Thinking of this in his heart, the aura around Aokiji also changed abruptly. Wisps of white chill rose from his body. Chapter 34 Fierce Battle. Terrified Aokiji? Sensing the change in Aokiji's breath, he saw wisps of cold air emanating from his body. Zhangje didn't wait any longer, and walked towards Aokiji slowly. There was no verbal exchange of any kind. The moment the two sides made eye contact, they immediately moved. Whoosh. Holding a long knife, Zhangje burst out with strength under his feet, and rushed towards Aokiji with one stride. Aokiji's right hand was icy, and then he waved at Zhangje fiercely. Boom. The crisp sound echoed, and a gust of cold air swept towards Zhangje wrapped in frost. Wherever he went, a thick layer of ice condensed all around him. Crack, click, click. Zhangje frowned, and his running speed did not slow down, but a powerful repulsion erupted from his body. Boom. In an instant, the sweeping cold air, even the frost was scattered away. Faced with this sudden scene, Aokiji couldn't help shrinking his pupils, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Bounced. Not much time to think. The moment Aokiji's thoughts fluctuated, Zhangje had already arrived in front of him and slashed at him with a knife. Shoo. Boom. Aokiji held up the skates with both hands to resist. But under the strong force of Zhang Zhe's saber, his whole body was so shaken that he flew upside down and crashed into the house beside him. Boom. Hit by Aokiji's body and collapsed, the gravel fell, and a thick cloud of smoke was set off by the remaining power. Taking advantage of the victory, Zhang Zhe chased out, and his body was instantly submerged in the thick smoke and dust. Whoosh. In the next second, there was only a huge roar. Another wall in the house exploded. Aokiji's figure flew upside down with countless gravels. Boom. Shhhhhhhhhhh. Damn it, how did this happen? Aokiji, who was flying upside down, gritted his teeth and muttered to himself in concern, with his hands still crossed in front of his chest, maintaining a defensive posture. Also at the same moment, in the collapsed house, there was another loud noise suddenly. Boom. In the next second, the smoke surrounding the house was immediately shaken away. Zhang Zhe chased Aokiji again. Boom. Raising his left hand suddenly, Zhang Zhe faced the flying Aokiji with his palm, and launched the universal pull again. Buzz. Accompanied by a hum, Aokiji immediately felt himself being captured by a huge suction force. The speed of the inverted flight is slowing down. Oops. Aokiji murmured inwardly, and then flew towards Zhang Zhe. Whoosh. Seeing that the distance between the two sides is getting closer, Aokiji immediately activated his fruit ability with all his strength. Ice wall. His cold hands were raised violently. In the next second, a huge wall of ice suddenly rose from the empty street. Boom. Boom. Crack. The crisp icing sound echoed. An ice wall more than 10 meters high traversed the entire street and stood in the middle of Aokiji and Zhang Zhe, separating the two. The suction on his body disappeared, and Aokiji used the ice wall as a force point, and jumped out steeply. Whoosh. Same moment. Looking at the ice wall that suddenly rose in front of him, a cold light flashed in Zhang Zhe's eyes, and his galloping speed did not slow down at all. Click. Clenching the long knife in his hand, Haki attached to it in an instant. Give me, open. With a low snort, Zhang Zhe's eyes brightened. Immediately afterwards, he took a big step steeply and slashed towards the huge ice wall in front of him. Clang! The ear-piercing long knife whizzed through the air. A dark red crescent knife shadow came out in response, across the ice wall. Shoo! In an instant, the huge ice wall, together with the surrounding buildings, was cut in half on the spot. The upper part, even under the power of Zhang Zhe's saber glow, soared 3 meters into the air. Rumble! In midair, Aokiji, who had just retreated and vacated, saw the whole building in front of him, which was cut in half by Zhang Zhe's knife, and he couldn't hold back anymore. The pupils are shrinking sharply, and the eyes are trembling violently like an earthquake. At this moment, he had an expression of disbelief on his face, and that sense of boundless terror. No way. Not only was my ice wall cut open by him, even the surrounding buildings were also implicated, and were cut into 2 halves. What kind of monster-like power is this? It was also at the moment when Aokiji's thoughts fell. All the vacated buildings crashed to the ground, that huge ice wall. But because of the huge power of Zhang Zhe's knife, he was blown apart on the spot, turning into countless ice cubes and splashing out in all directions. Boom, 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 boom. Shhhhhhhh. The dense dust is like a sandstorm in the desert, swept across the entire surrounding area. Chapter 35. Let me mess around a little too. Meanwhile, the other side, where Obito is. Boom, boom. Listening not far away, there were bursts of roaring and loud noises. Obito's eyes under the mask could not help but narrow slightly, and smiled lightly. This movement is really loud. It was also when Obito's voice fell. A burst of dense footsteps suddenly came from one side. Da-da-da-da. Obito turned his head and saw a large group of marines with weapons galloping towards him. Seeing this, Obito could not help but smile and adjust his direction, facing the group of marines rushing towards him. Then, let me mess around a bit too. The distance between the two sides is rapidly shortening, and soon, the distance between Obito and marines. It has come to less than 20 meters. All the marines also clenched their long knives tightly at this moment, preparing to have a life and death contest with the guy in the white mask in front of them. But Obito, at this moment, slowly raised his hand, formed a mudra with one hand, and whispered in a deep voice. Summoning technique. Gadu statue. In an instant, the space behind Obito twisted, and at the same time produced ripples like rippling water. The next second, before Marine could react, a huge giant hand suddenly protruded out of the distorted space. Shoo! A huge black shadow enveloped the marines. At this moment, Marine under the shadows fell into despair. Is that a lie? What is this thing? No, don't, no. Before the Marine's self-talk spread, the huge palm slapped them horizontally. Boom. With one slap, the dozen or so Marines who were running at the front of the team were slapped away on the spot, blood spattered out, and there was continuous pain and wailing. Puff. Ugh. Before the Marines behind could react, then another big hand protruded from the twisted void behind Obito, and a dozen Marines were sent flying with a slap. Boom. Puff. Ugh. The same fate as the first batch of Marines who were photographed flying. The 2 consecutive downsizing also made all the Marines react. Marine, who had a higher military rank, even reminded loudly, "Stop. Stop it, don't go any further." The Marines all stopped. Gadu statue, who was summoned by Obito, also showed his huge body at this moment. Boom. Then came the lower body of Gedu statue. Boom. The huge body of Gedu statue took a step forward. Even the ground paved with stone slabs collapsed in an instant, cracking terrifying cracks like spider webs. Boom. Boom. Immediately afterwards, the huge Gedu statue was seen. Under the watchful eyes of the marines below, he completely stretched his body and roared to the sky. Roar. The deafening roar resounded throughout the marine base and even the entire island. The terrifying sound was clearly visible to the naked eye. Even the clouds floating above the sky were directly dispersed by Gedu statue's roar. It was as if a hole had been pierced through the sky. Below, witnessed the gigantic form of the Gedu statue. All the marines froze in place, motionless. Dangling, dangling, dangling. The continuous sound of falling weapons echoed. Some of the marines who reacted fell apart in an instant. Despair enveloped their bodies and minds, causing them to fall into madness. Some laughed, some cried bitterly. Hey, he, ha ha ha, damn it. This kind of thing, facing this kind of thing, how could we possibly win it? This must be a joke from the heavens, this kind of thing, how should I live in the face of this kind of thing? Damn monster. At this moment, the marines no longer have the will to fight in their hearts. They understand and are well aware of the gap in strength. Facing this kind of behemoth, facing this kind of monster, they have no chance of winning at all, only a dead end. However, Gedu statue will not stop just because they have no fighting spirit and are in despair. No mercy. Gedu statue raised his right leg and stepped towards the marines below. Boom, boom, boom. On the other side, Aokiji, who was in midair, also witnessed the appearance of Gedu statue. Witnessing him sticking out his giant hand, then his body, and then his lower limbs. Then his body suddenly rose tens of feet, as if he wanted to break through the sky. The eyes trembled uncontrollably. Aokiji stared closely at the huge Gedu statue, couldn't hide the horror on his face and said in a voice, This is, the Titan family. When did he come here? Chapter 36. This must be, what a terrifying monster. However, that was the brief moment where Aokiji was distracted. Two sharp whistling sounds suddenly sounded. Clang. In the next moment, two dark red blade lights abruptly broke through the dusty mist below and galloped towards Aokiji. Faced with this sudden scene, Aokiji couldn't help being startled, thinking that something was wrong. Oops. It's just that surprises are surprises. But Aokiji will not be stupid and do nothing. He has rich practical experience and strong strength. The moment he saw the dark red blade light, his body reacted immediately. The power of the fruit motivates. The icy frost covered Aokiji's whole body, and the elementalization unfolded. Boom. Aokiji's elementalization has only just begun. The two dark red sword lights had already hit Aokiji. Aokiji's body also shattered into countless ice cubes and fell downward. Call out. Boom. The ice cubes fell to the ground, and the icy cold air swept across, freezing the surrounding area in an instant. Crack, crack. Soon a humanoid ice sculpture slowly rose. Aokiji's figure once again appeared on the street intact. Without the slightest hesitation, Aokiji raised his hand and used his ability again. Crack, crack. Three harpoon-like ice spears condensed on Aokiji's side amid bursts of crisp sounds. Two thorny spears. There was a low shout. With a big wave of Aokiji's hand, three ice spears shot out suddenly. SHH, SHH, SHHH. Also at the same moment, Zhang Zhe's figure rushed out of the dust and mist. Whoosh. Looking at the three ice spears flying towards him, Zhang Zhe clenched his long knife and swung it continuously. Dang, dang, dang. Accompanied by three crisp sounds, the three ice spears were instantly sent flying by Zhang Zhe, changing their original flight trajectories. The speed of Zhang Zhe's attack also slowed down for a short period of time, and then returned to the original level again, galloping towards Aokiji. Whoosh. Aokiji frowned. At this moment, he also understood that the effect of keeping the distance was not great. You have to find an opportunity to injure or control the opponent from the front. Knowing this, Aokiji no longer retreats. Instead, he just stood there and stimulated the ability of the fruit. Kaka. Terrifying cold air overflowed, and Aokiji's body turned into ice with bursts of crisp sounds. Zhang Zhe also appeared in front of him at the same moment. Buzz. The long knife exuded a terrifying and sharp aura, and Zhang Zhe swung the knife in all directions without hesitation. Aokiji also raised his ice-sculpted hand at the same moment, and reached out to grab Zhang Zhe. Ice time. Ice time. Facing Aokiji's sudden move, Zhang Zhe narrowed his eyes slightly. That hand exuding a terrifying cold air made him feel a little threatened. Aware of this feeling, Zhang Zhe unfolded Kamui immediately without the slightest hesitation. Kamui. Buzz. Also at the same time, the right arm that Aokiji grabbed with his probing hand directly crossed Zhang Zhe's body. The same goes for Zhang Zhe's long knife that slashed at his head. Also at this moment, I passed through his body that turned into an ice sculpture, and crossed over. Aokiji, who witnessed all this with his own eyes, was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out at this moment. Is that a lie? My hand directly passed through his body? Air. After image. His eyes trembled violently like an earthquake. Aokiji's face was full of unbelievable horror. It was just the moment when Aokiji's thoughts rose, the attacks of the two passed by each other, and there was no longer any physical contact between the two sides. The Kamui cast by Zhang Zhe also ends here. But he didn't fall into a brief stagnation like Aokiji. Instead, he raised his leg without any hesitation, and kicked Aokiji's abdomen with a whip kick. Boom. Cough. Aokiji, who was not prepared, was whipped by Zhang Jie abruptly. The huge force even made him cough up a little saliva. It was also after a firm blow to the abdomen that Aokiji woke up instantly. How can this be? It's not an afterimage, and it's not air. He literally hit me. Why? Just now my attack clearly passed through his body, but in the blink of an eye he was able to hit me. Is it fruit power? How did this weird guy, how did he do it? With endless doubts. Like a meteor, Aokiji flew upside down and crashed into a house in the distance. Call out. Boom. Boom boom boom. In an instant, there was continuous roaring sound and thick dust billowing. But this time, Zhang Jie did not pursue the victory. Instead, he directly stored his big move on the spot. Boom. Powerful power surged out in an instant. Zhang Jie's leaking power even condensed into a burst of dark red aura, surrounding Zhang Jie's whole body. Boom. Also at the same moment, on the street, the floor made of stone bricks. Also at this time, because he couldn't bear the powerful force erupted by Zhang Jie, and suddenly collapsed layer by layer. Boom. Boom. Staring at the direction of Aokiji, locked on Aokiji's breath. Zhang Jie slightly raised the long knife in his hand. Top of the line Conqueror's haki wraps around in an instant. Boom. The dark red aura visible to the naked eye is like several red streaks, wrapping around the body of the long knife at this moment. Shhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh The other side. Aokiji, who was kicked by Zhang Jie and crashed into the wall of the house, just got up from the pile of stones. Right in front of him, he felt the terrifying aura that seemed to be going straight to the sky, and that powerful coercion that makes even Admiral feel palpitations, move and fear. This kind of coercion, this kind of oppressive feeling. Conquerors. Aokiji stared at the direction where Zhang Jie was, and couldn't help crying out in shock. At this moment, his pupils couldn't help shrinking sharply. There was also an unprecedented look of horror on his face. This breath, this coercion, this sense of oppression. How could he not know what it was? Only one person in a million owns a Conqueror's haki? If it was Conqueror's haki alone, Aokiji wouldn't be so gaff. But the question is, how old is the other party? You know, Conqueror's haki cannot grow through practice. Such a powerful Conqueror's haki has been mastered at such a young age. This has to be what a horrible monster? Chapter 37 Great God, your followers have increased. Also during the ups and downs of Aokiji's thoughts, Zhang Jie's momentum has also been fully prepared. Don't talk too much nonsense. Holding a long knife in his hand, Zhang Jie took a big step forward. Boom. It seemed to be extremely heavy, but it was only the moment when Zhang Jie's steps fell. The hard stone road collapsed again. Boom. Boom. And at the same time, cracks spread in all directions, and the slate layer either collapsed or vibrated. A strong sense of crisis welled up in my heart. It was also at this moment that Aokiji felt that long-lost fear. Obvious, clear, visceral fear. This guy really wants to kill himself. Moreover, it's not a small grasp. Knowing this, Aokiji's eyes trembled. The terrifying cold air suddenly poured out under his full power. Huh. Crack, crack, crack. There were crisp sounds. Where the snow-white cold air passes, everything is frozen, and everything condenses into ice. And Zhang Jie gritted his teeth at this moment, and swung the long knife that had already been charged. Boom. The moment the long knife was swung, a dark red aura suddenly gushed out like a beam of light. And this also made the long knife seem to weigh 1,000 caddies. Difficult to be swung down by Zhang Jie. Go and meet God. The veins on his arm bulged. Zhang Jie gritted his teeth, and slashed the long knife in his hand while drinking in a low voice. Clang buzz. The ear-piercing whistling sound resounded throughout the marine base. A dark red halo seemed to cover the entire world. Accompanied by it, a huge sword glow flashed by. Boom. But wherever the sword glow passed, even if the sword glow didn't really touch the surrounding buildings, the building will also be destroyed in an instant under the terrifying aftermath of the sword glow. Boom boom boom. Aokiji, who was facing the blade directly, did not dare to be careless in the slightest. At this moment, his whole body was covered with a layer of snow-white frost. Fruit's ability was pushed to the limit by him. Lifting his frenzied and cold hands suddenly, Aokiji yelled with all his might. Ice Age. White icicles rose from the ground, facing the dark red sword light that came from the slash. In almost an instant, the two clashed fiercely together. What followed was that huge roaring sound. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying residual power turned into a wave of air visible to the naked eye, sweeping all directions. Wherever the body went, all buildings were destroyed and collapsed by it in an instant. Boom. This moment, even the entire island where the marine base was located was violently turbulent. And the next second, the dark red sword light split the island, and at the same time split the sea. Even the clouds above the sky were not spared. Until the end of the line of sight, a huge mushroom wave rose. The dark red blade glow completely disappeared. The sky and the earth, which had been illuminated red, were restored to their original appearance. Boom. Located in the underground prison at Marine Base. The criminals being held here are already in a mess at this moment. They frantically knocked on the wall, frantically shook the prison's iron bars, and yelled heart-piercingly. Bang bang bang. Let us out! Let us out! You bloody Marines, you just run for your life? Open the door for us, bastards! Is this the earth getting angry? I can feel that the ground is shaking violently. What the hell happened outside? Damn it, with such a big commotion, is it the end of the world? The voices of the criminals who shouted loudly became hoarse at the moment. But no one responded to them at all. What responded to them was only the clearly observable turbulent ground, the roaring noise from the upper floor of the prison, and some Su-Chen soil that was shaken down by the loud noise. Boom, boom. Suddenly, the turmoil became more intense. Even rocks fell from the ceiling and hit the ground. Boom, boom. Suffered more than 10 minutes of mental torture. Some criminals could no longer suppress the fear in their hearts, and shed 2 lines of tears. How can it be repaired? Are we going to be buried in this damn prison? Damn Marine, even if I'm a ghost, I won't let you go. I don't want to die yet. Wow. And some more criminals. Then he knelt down directly facing the wall, crying, and began to pray devoutly. Great God, please save your devout believer and let him escape this disaster. Great God, although I have only started to believe in you today, I think I will be more devout than those who have always believed in you. Please help me. God, please save me. I am willing to be your most loyal believer, and I am willing to repent for all the evils I have done. Me too, God. Please help me. I am also willing to repent for the evil I have done. Just let me repent in this world. Please don't take me directly to you to repent. Amen. Great God, this damned fellow is blaspheming you, and I will execute him. Chapter 38 New Crew, Join? The criminals spent an uneasy and difficult half an hour in the dark prison. Not long after, the ground stopped trembling, and the movement above gradually disappeared. Stop, stop. It's over? We're still alive? I'm still alive. Very good. Really, really good. For a moment, the criminals all let out a long sigh of relief, and their tense nerves relaxed. Plop, plop. Many criminals sat on the ground paralyzed on the spot. Some even showed the joy of surviving after the catastrophe, with tears streaming from the corners of their eyes. After quietly slowing down for a few minutes, everyone finally recovered. The fear in my heart has almost dissipated. Instead, there is curiosity and doubt in human nature. What the hell happened up there? It's a strange feeling. It's too abnormal. The earthquake is over. With Marine's style, he should check the situation of the prison as soon as possible, right? With this question was initiated. All the criminals were lost in thought. Yeah, there's something wrong with this. Although they may have gone to escape, they will never really ignore us. Now that the earthquake has stopped, they should come back anyway. Otherwise, if we are allowed to escape, they will not feel better than facing the earthquake. A group of criminals chatted and discussed. At the same time, directly above them, in Marine's base, the originally huge base has become dilapidated at this moment, and now there are only less than 1.5 floors left of the towering floors. Part of the first floor doesn't even have a ceiling. Zhang Jie and the others stood on top of the ruins formed by the collapsed base, staring at the ground below. With their keen perception, the people in the prison below have already been noticed by them. The reason they didn't go down immediately was because they hadn't found the entrance to the underground prison for a while. Now, it seems that there is some trouble. The collapse of the building has formed such a large ruin. The entrance to the underground prison may have been buried. It is not easy to find it. Yi Guyutai said a little distressed. Hungry Wolf also looked around when he heard this. After a while, he slowly opened his mouth. Such a large ruin, looking for a small entrance, when will we find it? Since there is no one on the ground, let's open one for him. While speaking, the Hungry Wolf moved his arms and slowly walked over the perceived crowd in the dungeon. And the other side, Zhang Jie didn't care about the crew's actions at all, because he has given this matter to them. And it was explained that at least one navigator and one chef should be caught. Otherwise, they would still have to float in the sea and eat unpalatable meals in the days to come. Now all he cares about, all he has to do is to check and use the spoils. Host Zhang Jie. Battle value, 9,700. Item, none. Conqueror, Bonyuda, Uchiha Obito, Hungry Wolf, Pain Tiandeo. Lottery entrance. Looking at the 9,700 combat value on his panel, Zhang Jie felt that he had made a lot of money after this trip. Just one battle, the battle value obtained is almost 10,000, and there will be a few more battles like this. That feeling is simply not too comfortable. A total of 9,700 battle points. How many times will it take to draw all the prizes? Which world conquerors will be summoned this time? Thinking in his heart, Zhang Jie couldn't help showing a smile on his face. There was nothing to hesitate. Zhang Jie immediately entered the lottery page and drew a prize. Conquest value -1,600. Ding! Congratulations to host for summoning the conqueror from Demon Slayer world, Jiguo Yuanyi. Ding! Congratulations to the conqueror Jiguo Yuanyi for winning the battle blessing, the top armament haki, and the top observation haki. Ding! Jigu Yuan 1 conqueror's ability was successfully extracted. Ding! Congratulations to host for gaining the ability transparent world. Ding! Congratulations to host for obtaining the sword skill breath of the sun. It was also at the moment when the system voice fell. Zhang Jie immediately noticed the changes in his body. His understanding of swordsmanship also seemed to have risen a big level at this moment. In addition to its own changes, and the superb swordsmanship, Zhang Jie also noticed another thing, a big one. That was drawn by a lottery. It seems that something is not quite right. After just drawing a prize once, Zhang Jie only has 8,100 battle points left. However, on the lottery page, the conquest points required for a single draw have doubled. Came to 3,200 points once. This growth momentum is not good. At first, I thought that with more than 9,000 battle points, I could draw several times. Counting now, it's only twice at most. By the third time, the battle value is not enough. Chapter 39 The Strongest Swordsman? The Fourth Blade? This is really a terrible discovery. According to the growth rate of the system, it will become very difficult to recruit a conqueror in the future. Thinking of this in his heart, Zhang Jie's mood is not much better. Even in this battle, the combat value obtained, and that little appointment, all were diluted a lot by this discovery. However, it is not enough to make people unhappy, although it has now risen to 3,200 points. But if there is a lottery, there is still a lottery. Conquest value 3200. Ding! Congratulations to host for summoning the conqueror from Shinigami world, Alquiera Sifur. As the system's voice fell, the moment that name echoed in Zhang Jie's mind, Zhang Jie was taken aback. Did I hear you right? Doubtful thoughts just surfaced in my mind. The system's prompt sound came to Zhang Jie's ears again. Ding! Alquiera Sifur Conqueror ability extraction completed. Ding! Congratulations to host for obtaining the ability, high-speed regeneration. Ding! Congratulations to host for gaining the ability to probe nerves. Ding! Congratulations to host for gaining the ability, shared vision. Ding! Congratulations to host for gaining the ability, Steel Skin. Ding! Congratulations to host for acquiring the skill, Release Space. Ding! Congratulations to host for acquiring the skill, Zero. Ding! Congratulations to host for acquiring the skill, False Bullet. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring the skill, Speeding. Ding! Congratulations to host for getting an extra reward, Power. With the system's voice down, Zhang Jie immediately felt a huge force gushing out from his limbs. Buzz! In an instant, the power leaked out. The rocks and slabs under Zhang Jie's feet turned into foundation powder in an instant. Boom! A dark red aura visible to the naked eye rose from Zhang Jie's body. Ahead, Hungry Wolf and the others who were about to make a hole in the ground felt the aura emanating from Zhang Jie. They were all startled, and turned their heads to look at Zhang Jie. The captain's breath is stronger? Is this my illusion? Hungry Wolf looked shocked. Yu Guyuta standing not far from Hungry Wolf. At this moment, my heart was also greatly shocked, and my eyes trembled uncontrollably like an earthquake. This is not an illusion, Mr. Hungry Wolf? The captain's current power is so rich that it can be clearly seen by the naked eye. Whispering, the space behind Yu Guyutai distorted, revealing a black shadow. In the next second, Lixiang's figure slowly appeared. Where I am, can clearly feel the horror of this force. When Yi Guyutai heard this, a smile appeared on his face. Then he leaned against Lixiang lightly and comforted him softly. Don't be afraid, Lixiang. This is a good thing, he is our captain. On the other side, Obito didn't say anything though, but there was already a storm in my heart. Is this fear? The pupils contracted slightly uncontrollably. At this moment, Obito felt a great sense of oppression on Zhang Jie. On the contrary, Tiandao Pain, who was closest to Zhang Jie, didn't respond at all. The expression on his face was still the same cold one. Just stood quietly, silent. And Zhang Jie, after feeling the changes in his own body, suppressed the leaking power. Looking up at Hungry Wolf and the others, Zhang Jie said with a smile on his face. Don't worry about it, just keep doing what you do. With a simple explanation, Zhang Jie took care of his own business again. Originally, he was also depressed about the system increasing the battle value of the lottery. But now, this depression has been swept away. The strength and value of these two fighters are definitely worth the money. The current overall strength is even better than facing the Emperor-level pirates, right? Zhang Jie thought so in his heart. Suddenly, a sudden change occurred. Not far from Zhang Jie, the void suddenly shattered. Dang clang. The broken object like a mirror fell to the ground, but it didn't make any sound. At the same time, with the shattering of the void, an irregular, nearly 3 meter high, nearly 2 meter wide black passage emerged. What followed was the sound of crisp footsteps coming from the mouth of the clump of black passages. Da. Soon, a silver-white long knife hung from his waist. He had short black hair, pale complexion, and emerald green eyes. The tall man with 2 green tear stains under his eyes slowly walked out from the black passageway. And he is also the Shinigami world conqueror summoned by Zhang Jie, the fourth blade in the espada of the empty night palace. Alquiera Sifur? After Alquiera Sifur comes out of the passageway, another man with a long knife hanging from his waist, a high ponytail, black and rosy hair, dark red eyes, sunflower paper earrings on his earlobes, and a dark red flame Madara pattern on his left forehead, also quietly then walked out of the passage. And he is also the conqueror summoned by Zhang Jie. From the roof of Ghost Slayer world, the strongest swordsman who masters the top sword technique Breath of the Sun and was born with the flame Madara pattern of penetrating the world. Chapter 40 Navigator. The black passageway slowly closed as Yuanyi and Sifur walked out. The two also turned their heads to look at Zhang Jie the next second after they walked out of the passage, and bowed their heads respectfully. Captain. Hearing this, Zhang Jie nodded with a smile. On the other side, Yi Giaotai looked at Sifur and Yuan together. It's the new crew. The Hungry Wolf on the side nodded. These two guys are very strong? They have this level of oppression in their restrained breaths, they are incredible guys. Obito at the side couldn't help but joked with a smile when he heard the words. If you face one of them, how likely are you to win? Hungry Wolf smiled. If you want to say how sure you are of winning, it's really hard to say. I'm not even sure of being undefeated. Of course, I have to fight to know how it will be. As he spoke, Hungry Wolf gave Obito a meaningful sideways glance. After all, there are not many simple members called by the captain. If you were to face them, how sure are you that you will win? Hearing Hungry Wolf's rhetorical question, Obito smiled slightly. You're right. None of the captain's members are simple, and I'm not sure. Of course, unbeaten is also included. Hungry Wolf, the top priority is to get through the prison entrance. After finishing speaking, the Hungry Wolf walked to the top of the underground prison. Then he clenched his fist and raised his hand, and punched the ground with a powerful punch. Boom, boom. The loud noise echoed, and the hard ground collapsed several meters down. Boom. Bursts of roaring sound echoed, and thick smoke and dust were lifted up by Yue. However, even if the Hungry Wolf punched the ground a few meters deep, it still couldn't directly connect the underground prison with the ground. However, it was within Hungry Wolf's expectation that he failed to punch through this point. Because in perception, even if it is a straight line distance, the location of the underground prison is still very deep. Boom. Another loud noise echoed. The Hungry Wolf began to punch the ground again and again. The goal is to penetrate through the prison and the ground. At the same time, in the underground prison. Bang, bang, bang. Listening to the movement that was louder than the sound, I felt the earth trembling more and more every time. The prisoners who were held in the prison panicked again. What is this? It seems that something is coming down towards us. Damn it, what happened up there? Seemingly sensing the crisis, the criminals leaned back subconsciously. It was also at this time that an extremely loud roar spread. Boom. The ceiling of the underground prison collapsed. Large and small gravel and dust, like a sandstorm, swept the password to the entire prison. There were bursts of violent coughing in the huge prison. Cough cough cough. Cough cough cough. Also at the same moment, a slightly surprised voice spread. Oh, it works? It works. Hey, come down too. With the sound of the Hungry Wolf came out. Obito Yuta and Obito, who were above, also jumped down. Didier. Landing steadily beside the Hungry Wolf, Yigu Yutai raised his hand and waved it. A big cloud of dust. Hungry Wolf grinned. That's how rough methods are, bear with it. It's the business to settle what the captain told us. Saying that, Hungry Wolf walked out. There are still a lot of people. Obito scanned the situation in the underground prison and whispered to himself. At this time, the criminals in the prison. Look at the ceiling with a big hole pierced through it, and the sunlight shining in from above. He looked at the three blurred figures outside the prison and in the corridor, all dumbfounded. However, before they could react, the voice of the Hungry Wolf spread throughout the prison. Are there navigators among you? Hungry Wolf's question fell. The navigators who were detained in the prison were taken aback for a moment. The female navigator who was the first to react immediately stood up and ran to the iron bars of the prison, and responded loudly. I am a navigator, I am a navigator. It was her shouting that made all the navigators react. Here's to getting out hope. In the next second, they spoke one after another. I am also a navigator. However, Hungry Wolf didn't even look at them, and said with a smile. It seems that our luck is good, there are really navigators here. Obito smiled and walked towards the navigator who spoke first. And there are quite a few. It would be even better if we can find them all at once. In that prison, the first navigator to speak. Seeing Obito walking in front of him, he couldn't help asking. You. However, she hadn't finished speaking yet. Obito directly reached out his hand through the gap in the iron bars, grabbed her by the collar, and pulled her out. Buzz. Seeing that he suddenly passed through the iron fence and came outside, the navigator was completely dumbfounded. I came out. Turning his head in disbelief, the navigator looked at the iron bars of the prison, full of horror in his heart. You came out like this. I didn't even realize what was going on, and suddenly went outside. How did he do that? These guys, who are they? The navigator looked up at Obito wearing a white mask, his pupils trembling slightly. And those criminals who were held in the prison, after seeing Obito pull the navigator out of the cell, they were completely overwhelmed. This is Hope Out? Chapter 41 I don't serve you, please? Almost at the same time, the people in the prison were all crowded on the iron bars of the prison. He begged loudly to Obito, Hungry Wolf and others. Save us. Let us out. Brother, please, open the door of the cell and let us out. For a while, there were pleadings in the prison one after another. The navigator who was just pulled out by Obito was stunned in place. Obito on the side ignored it. Yigio was too silent. The Hungry Wolf picked his ears impatiently and said, Give me some peace. The Hungry Wolf's voice was not loud, but it seemed to have magical power at the moment, making the noisy prison quiet in an instant. All the criminals knew very well that the people outside the prison had the final say on whether they could go out or not. Obedience is one of the prerequisites for going out. No one jokes about his freedom unless he doesn't want to go out. Seeing everyone quiet down, Hungry Wolf spoke again. I don't have the key to open the cell door, and I'm too lazy to do the extra work. We only take away those we need. Listen honestly. After hearing these words, the criminals understood the seriousness of the matter. Only take the people they need, which means places are limited, maybe even very few. Knowing this, the criminals couldn't help but look at each other. His eyes were full of guard. The other side. Zhang Jie is still summarizing the harvest this time and feeling the power of his own growth. Host Zhang Jie. Battle value, 4,900. Item, none. Conqueror, Obito Yuta, Uchiha Obito, Hungry Wolf, Pain Tiandeo. Jiguo Yuanyi, Alquira Sefer. Lottery entrance. Today's lottery draw requires a battle value that has risen to 6,400 once. Fortunately, there are still 4,900 points left, so it is not too difficult to get together for the next lottery draw. Withdrawing his attention from the system panel, Zhang Jie's eyes fell on reality. Sefer, Yuanyi, and Tiandeo Pain. At this time, they were standing beside Zhang Jie, waiting for the return of the three hungry wolves. The three hungry wolves did not delay too long. After a while, the three of them jumped up from the hole leading to the prison with 6 criminals in their hands. Boom. Plop. As soon as they reached the ground, the three hungry wolves threw the criminal in their hands to the ground. The sudden jump, coupled with the sudden fall, the 6 criminals, who hadn't realized what was going on, were thrown on the spot, grinning and crying out in pain. Ugh. Hiss. It hurts, it hurts. Looking at the number of people brought up by the hungry wolf, Zhang Jie couldn't help but wondered. 6. Hungry wolf grinned and explained. 1 navigator, and the other 5 are cooks, sailors, and helmsmen, but they know a little bit. I think there are a few more people, and it will be easier to distribute. Hearing this explanation, Zhang Jie nodded and didn't say anything more on this topic. If someone brings it up, let's go. After that, Zhang Jie turned around and walked towards the port. Hungry Wolf and others followed closely behind. The 6 criminals were left alone in a daze, not knowing whether to keep up or what to do. It wasn't until the Hungry Wolf's displeased cries came that the 6 criminals came back to their senses. What are you still doing there? Hurry up and follow. Seeing the arrogance of Hungry Wolf and others, dissatisfaction suddenly rose in the hearts of the 6 criminals. Tisk. These arrogant guys don't even say hello, don't even ask their names, how rude. That is this their attitude towards future partners? Humph. With their attitude, whoever wants to be their partner can do it. I don't care about it anyway. TCH, don't even look where this is, do you think we are locked in that damn prison? A middle-aged man with a thin figure and wicked eyebrows said disdainfully, and what he said successfully attracted the attention of the surrounding companions. Before they could speak, the middle-aged man with wicked eyebrows continued to speak. Let me follow and I will follow. Who do they think they are? Now that I'm outside, it's what I say. Follow whoever wants to. I don't want to serve you. Please. After finishing speaking, the middle-aged man with mischievous eyebrows waved his hands and shook his head under the astonished gazes of his companions, then turned and left. But it was the moment he turned around. A man with a long silver knife hanging from his waist, wearing a white windbreaker, with emerald green eyes and a green tear stain under each eye appeared in front of him in an instant. Indifference looked down at him. And this person is Alquira Sefer? Looking at Sefer's sudden appearance, the man with sly eyebrows and mouse eyes couldn't help being taken aback. In the next moment, a flattering smile appeared on the face of the man with sly eyebrows and mouse eyes. It's just that the man with sly eyebrows and mouse eyes hadn't waited for something to explain. Sefer stabbed out with a hand knife. Shua. Puff. Bright red blood spurted out. A big hole was pierced by Sefer's hand knife on the lower part of the neck of the man with the evil eyebrows and mouse eyes. Cough. Big mouthfuls of bright red blood were coughed up by the man with the wicked eyebrows and mouse eyes. He looked at Sefer, his pupils trembling violently like an earthquake. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't, and after a while, he was completely silent. And Sefer's expression didn't change at all from the beginning to the end. Only that indifference overlooks. On the sidelines, the 5 people who witnessed the murder of the sly-eyed man by Sefer were not well. We can even say, their souls were almost scared out of Sefer. This guy, didn't he follow those people just now? Why did it suddenly appear here? Die, 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 has he heard it all? Are you going to be killed? Damn it, what did I just say? Without exception, the 5 criminals all curled up their necks, head down, trembling. Facing Sefer right in front of them, they didn't dare to look up, and they didn't even dare to breathe. He even held his breath directly. At this moment, there is only boundless fear left in their hearts. It is as if the fear of death is at hand. Chapter 42 Frightened Navigator? After a while, a criminal came to his senses and said in a panic. Follow up, keep up, I'll keep up now. After that, he slowly stood up. I didn't dare to get up too fast, for fear that a misunderstanding by Sefer would kill him. When he got up safely, he quickly chased after Zhang Jie and the others. The other 4 also stood up one after another and followed. As for Sefer, he watched quietly the whole time without saying any more nonsense. Soon, he also took steps to follow. He could feel Sefer's footsteps behind him. The 5 people in the middle only felt like a thorn in their backs and a thorn in their throats. Damn it, what did that guy say? People are standing behind him, and he dares to say it so presumptuously. One person complained angrily in a low voice. Another man heard the words and echoed. That's right, it almost got us involved. The man with a beard on one side also clenched his fists at this time and said, but that guy in white clothes is too much. He even killed people without making a sound. I'm just a weapon that I don't have at hand. Otherwise, this matter will definitely not be left alone. Hearing the conversation of the companions, the navigator also spoke after pondering for a while. They should have heard what we said. The reason why they didn't treat us should be that we still have value to use. The man who spoke first looked sideways at the navigator, and said nervously, "So we're in danger now." Hearing this, the navigator nodded solemnly. However, just when she was about to speak, an inappropriate, trembling voice suddenly reached their ears. "Hey, hey, hey, compared to that, you should raise your heads and look around." As soon as these words came out, the other four were also stunned for a moment. Subconsciously raised his head and looked around. Seeing this, the four of them gasped on the spot, and the hairs all over their bodies stood on end. Such a long time in the dark underground prison. He was rescued from the prison, and met the young captain on the ground, followed by the dead. All of this happened so suddenly, so much so that they all forgot. Where is this prison located? Also at this moment, they suddenly realized that something was wrong with the surrounding environment. Where is this place? Isn't it a lie? Here, isn't Marine Base. How did it become like this? What happened here? Marine Base. Gone. The pupils of the four people trembled, looking at the surrounding environment. Their faces were full of unbelievable horror. At this time, the surroundings are full of broken bricks and tiles, ruined walls, and ruined wells. What an awe-inspiring scene of ruins! You can't see a complete building at all, even the huge marine base looks like this. You know, before they were imprisoned in an underground prison. But I have seen the scene here. Although this place is not prosperous, it is still lively, and there are many private houses and other houses. But right now, everything turned into ruins? Are you kidding? Here, what happened? Why is there no one left? Why are the houses collapsed? Is it caused by the huge movement just now? Is it an earthquake? What kind of earthquake is it that can destroy this island like this? The more people looked around, the more frightened they became. Not a single marine was seen, not a single resident was seen. It's as if, all evaporated. You know, they were in prison, and they saw Marine not long ago. Now, no one is missing. It was difficult to suppress the fear in their hearts, and everyone's faces turned pale. The navigator on the side subconsciously turned his attention to Zhangzhe and others in front. Could it be, they did all of this? Thoughts arose in his mind, and the navigator couldn't help but feel terrified. But soon, she threw away this thought, and whispered to herself with a forced smile. Hihi, how is it possible? It is impossible for them to do it. There are only 7 of them in total. The marine base is so big and heavily guarded. With their numbers, they can't even fight in, let alone destroy it like this. Here, it should be caused by an earthquake. They just happened to pass by and take advantage of a loophole. It's really scary. I came to a conclusion in my heart. The navigator couldn't help sighing in his heart. The power of this earthquake is really terrifying. As for these houses, they were destroyed by the group in front of them. She didn't believe it at all. Just these 7 people, not to mention Marine guarding them. Just relying on the 7 of them, give them 3 heads and 6 arms, plus 1 person with 9 hammers. Let them knock on these houses and buildings alone, and they can't knock them like this. The funny picture of Zhangzhe and others with 3 heads and 6 arms, holding 9 hammers and knocking on the wall instinctively emerged in my mind. The navigator couldn't help grinning. Cross a ruin piled up into a hill. Everyone's eyes suddenly opened up. A huge Haihe river leading directly to the center of the town came into view. The navigator couldn't help being stunned for a moment, and murmured with a look of astonishment on his face. Here, when did there come an extra Haihe river? She remembers it clearly. When she was caught and taken to the underground prison, she had never seen the Haihe river on this island. This Haihe river is more than 10 meters wide, and its depth is not known for the time being. It can be more than 100 meters long, and it leads directly to the boundless sea. It is also at the same time as seeing this Haihe river. The navigator finally saw a figure. However, it was the figure of a dead man. As far as the eye can see, there are corpses all over the place, some of which look like Marines, and some that look like civilians. This sudden scene caused the navigator's pupils to shrink sharply, his delicate body trembled, and he took a step back subconsciously. The body trembled violently like sifting chaff, and the navigator's face was full of horror. Pointing at the corpses all over the place, he spoke in a trembling voice. Dead, dead. All dead. Chapter 43 Sudden fight against the invaders on the pirate group. The 4 people beside the navigator heard the trembling voice of the navigator. She also subconsciously looked in the direction she was looking at. When they saw the 100-meter-long Haihe river and the corpses everywhere, their pupils suddenly shrank uncontrollably. Are you kidding? Marine, civilians, are all dead. The blood is still flowing. Are these people who died not long ago? What happened here? The casualties are so serious. Just now, was it really an earthquake? Thinking of this, a middle-aged man couldn't help swallowing hard. Curiosity and incomprehension enveloped his body and mind. So much so that after mustering up his courage, he spoke to Sifur behind him. Hey, what happened here just now? Why are these people dead? As soon as these words came out, the rest of the people around the middle-aged man also turned their heads to look at Sifur. But Sifur turned a deaf ear to this, and said calmly and indifferently, "Go faster." The middle-aged man who asked this question was stunned when he heard this. What I originally wanted to say was also abruptly suppressed by Sifur's indifferent attitude. Subconsciously glanced at the saber on Sifur's waist. The middle-aged man resisted the impulse, and after cursing secretly in his heart, he took a step to catch up with Zhang Jie and the others. Damn, what an arrogant guy. No one else dared to find Sifur unhappy. Also followed up. What they didn't know, however, was that Sifur had turned a deaf ear to their inquiries. One reason is because of his calm and cold personality. Secondly, in his eyes, these weak guys were also so arrogant and conceited that it was unpleasant. If they were not the people the captain needed, Sifur would have slaughtered them all before they opened their mouths to slander the captain. Walking on the way back to the ship, the navigator and others were observing the surrounding environment all the way, but the more they looked carefully, the more frightened they became. A series of questions came to their minds, but they had no way of knowing the answers. Subconsciously looked up at the backs of Zhang Jie and others. After staring at it for a long time, the navigator shook his head with a self-deprecating face and smiled secretly. Hehe, what the hell am I thinking about? What can the 7 of them do? Soon after, everyone returned to the boat. Zhang Jie evoked the 5 people who had just boarded the boat and let them sail. There was a buzzing sound. The sails that were put down were immediately inflated by the sea wind. As a result, the ship moved slowly and left the port of Marine Base, conquering the pirate group, and embarked on the journey again. The navigator looked curiously at the environment on board. Looking at the sail, the skull logo unique to pirates. Look at the sickle and skull pattern that belongs to the pirates. The war pirate flag hanging on the top of the mast sail. If there is no accident, she will be a member of this pirate group in the future. It was also at this time that Zhang Jie, Obito, Sifur, and others suddenly noticed something strange. In the next second, they all lowered their heads in unison and looked below the deck. They stared straight at one place, their eyes seemed to penetrate the deck, and saw the breath below the deck. Under the mask, Obito frowned slightly. Intruder. Yuguyuta, although the breath is weak, it should be correct. 2 intruders have boarded the ship. Hearing this, Hungry Wolf immediately showed a playful smile. Interesting. It even came to our boat. Captain, what should we do with them? Zhang Jie raised his head upon hearing the sound, and withdrew his gaze from staring below the deck. Let's take it and have a look first, and leave it alive. Hungry Wolf jokingly responded, and strode out. Learn. Yuguyuta also stepped out of the road at this time. I'll go with you, Mr. Hungry Wolf. On the side, 5 navigators who just appeared on the stage. Listening to the conversation of Zhang Jie and others, it was a fog. A few people stared wide-eyed. You looked at me, I looked at you, completely unaware of what Zhang Jie and others were talking about. Did I hear wrong? Intruder. Aren't we the only ones here? Where did they come from? Are they hallucinating, or are they hallucinating? The 5 raised their eyebrows and looked around, their faces full of doubts and incomprehension. In the cabin, Yuguyutai and Hungry Wolf walked together on the corridor, heading for the cabin warehouse. Those 2 breaths are hiding in the warehouse. Boom. The Hungry Wolf kicked open the door of the warehouse and strode in. Without any unnecessary looking around, Hungry Wolf and Yuguyutai looked directly at the intruder's hiding place. Come out, you 2 little mice. After the Hungry Wolf shouted, there was no movement in the warehouse full of wooden boxes. This also made Hungry Wolf couldn't help but sneer. Can't you come out? Then I will help you. After all, the Hungry Wolf moved its tibia and walked towards the intruder's hiding place. Crack click. The crisp sound of tibia activity spread throughout every corner of the warehouse at this moment. I don't know if I was frightened by the words of the Hungry Wolf. I was still startled by the sound of the Hungry Wolf moving its tibia. Before the Hungry Wolf took a few steps, a petite figure pushed open the lid of the wooden box and stood up, speaking in a trembling voice with a crying voice. Wait. I come out by myself. Facing this sudden scene, looking at the petite figure, Hungry Wolf and Yiguyutai, who were about to pull them out just now, were all taken aback, and said with a look of astonishment. Child. Chapter 44. It's a big joke? Another place, above the sea. Crack click click. The crisp sound spread from time to time. On the boundless sea, a piece of floating ice suddenly appeared. The area of the ice floes is small, with a diameter of about 5 meters, which is still irregular. On the ice floe, there was a tall and embarrassed figure. His clothes were torn and stained, and there were many dark red bloodlines. Leaning against a low wall of ice, he sat on the ice floe. His pale face was in stark contrast to the bright red flowing down from his forehead. And he is also the admiral of headquarters, Aokiji, who fought with Zhang Jie before. Adjusting his breath, Aokiji slowed down for a long time before he regained his energy. At this time, the irregular ice floe, which was originally only 5 meters in diameter, had spread to 7 or 8 meters. Flow spread slowly. If there were no crisp and clear sounds, it would be difficult for the naked eye to catch them. This is really a big joke on me. Looking at the injuries on his body, Aokiji seemed to be enjoying himself while suffering. But in his heart, he was full of unwillingness. As one of Marine's top fighters, one of Admiral's headquarters, not to mention failing to protect the people and failing to protect the base, even himself was almost beaten to death in a small place by an unknown pirate. This is a great shame. Holding his breath, Aokiji stood up with some difficulty. Looking into the distance, he took a step and walked back in the direction of Marine Base. Even at this time, he is above the sea. There was nothing around except the ice floes under his feet, and he still took steps and moved forward. Just when his steps were about to fall towards the flowing sea, a terrible chill overflowed. The flowing sea level freezes in an instant. Crack, crack. And Aokiji walked back towards the base step by step. I don't know how long it took before Aokiji finally returned to Marine Base. Looking at the island that has turned into ruins, Aokiji had a complicated look on his face. The emotion of self-blame was constantly amplified in his heart. So much so that he stood where he was, looking at the ruins for a long time. Even if there are surviving Marines and civilians to ask about his situation, he just stood there without saying a word. Also at this moment, the ruins have already become a mark in Aokiji's heart. It can never be erased, and will always be alert to his mark. We'll meet again. Next time, it won't happen again. A sea area. Where the battle pirates are, on the deck of the ship. Whether it's a member of the Conquest Pirates, a rescued criminal, or an intruder. They are all gathered here at this moment. Strangely, there was no voice on deck. Only the sound of the boat riding the wind and breaking the waves surrounds my ears. Zhang Jie watched indifferently, and the two intruders kneeling in front of him were silent. Speaking up, these two intruders were actually two young girls. The older ones don't look more than 11 or 12 years old. The younger one looks like 7 or 8 years old. They were dirty, their clothes were torn, and they smelled sour. From this appearance, one could tell that they were two vagrants. Look at the slightly older girl. Pointing to the skull on the sail, Zhang Jie asked calmly, "Do you know what that pattern symbolizes?" The girl looked sideways, then looked at Zhang Jie and nodded firmly. "I know. You are pirates." Looking at the girl's appearance and hearing her tone, Zhang Jie couldn't help narrowing his eyes slightly. Immediately afterwards, he was seen smiling and nodding his head, looking at Heavenly Dao Pain beside him. "Throw it into the sea and feed the fish." Tian Dao Pain immediately stepped forward. But the two little girls shivered from fright. Wait a minute. Let us join you," the older girl hurriedly said. The younger one was already trembling with fright, unable to speak. "I don't need any burden on my boat." Zhang Jie refused with a flat tone, with the same expression as usual. Tian Dao Pain also came to the two girls and picked them up. This time, the girl was crying anxiously. She hurriedly turned her head to look at Zhang Jie, her voice was crying and trembling. We won't be a burden. We can do chores and eat less, just 1 bowl of rice a day. So, please, don't feed us to the fish. I have strength and I can do chores. Please, woo woo woo." Chapter 45 Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral, Hero Garp? Although he picked up the two girls, Tian Dao Pain was not in a hurry to make the next move. Those purple eyes looked at Zhang Jie calmly, waiting for Zhang Jie further instructions after listening to the girl. It was also at this moment that the navigator who was rescued from the prison couldn't stand it anymore. She wanted to come forward and save the two girls. But right now she can't keep the situation, but it makes her a little afraid to be the early bird. On one side are the two girls who are in danger, and on the other side is myself who may be in danger. This made the navigator hesitate in a dilemma. It was also at this moment of her hesitation. Zhang Jie spoke again. Looking at the two little girls, his tone was still so calm and he smiled lightly. "I haven't fallen to the point where I need a brat to do things for me. The next time the ship docks, let the two of them disembark." Hear Zhang Jie's words. Tian Dao Pain also took a look at the two girls, and let them go. Plop. The two girls fell heavily on the deck. It hurts a bit. But they were still in shock, but after hearing Zhang Jie's words, they couldn't react to the pain for a while. And Zhang Jie didn't explain too much, and just walked back to the cabin like that. On the way, he also inexplicably had an idea. It's against the law to employ child labor. When he reacted, I felt a little funny and shook my head. Looking at the two girls who were temporarily out of danger, the navigator couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. It's okay. But when she thought about Zhang Jie saying earlier that he would throw the two girls into the sea to feed the fish, she suddenly became a little depressed again. Even at the end Zhang Jie changed his mind. But the navigator still gritted his teeth angrily, staring at Zhang Jie's back and cursed secretly in his heart. Evil guy. In another sea area, Aokiji is riding a bicycle on the sea. Crack click click. On the surface of the sea, the crisp sound of freezing echoed. It's just that Aokiji's unrestrained and carefree behavior is somewhat incompatible with his embarrassed appearance. At this time, he was still wearing the same tattered clothes. There are also many wounds and bloodline on the body. Even the front wheel of his bicycle is made of ice. All these scenes revealed his embarrassment. Clang. The screech of brakes suddenly sounded. Aokiji stopped the bicycle, and the range of ice flow below spread immediately. Crack click. Lifting his head slowly, Aokiji looked southeast. A warship with the marine flag flying high and a huge dog's head on its prow also came into his sight. After looking at the spot for a while, Aokiji started to ride the bicycle again. Only this time, he turned around and rode towards the dog-headed warship. Over time, soon, the sailors on duty on the Koto warship also saw Aokiji's whereabouts from a distance. With a light snort, the sailor on duty looked puzzled. Is someone riding a bicycle at sea? Hehehe, it must be because I didn't sleep well last night and my eyes were dazzled. Whispering to himself, Haibing rubbed his eyes. After a while, I picked up the binoculars again to check. This time, he not only confirmed that someone was riding a bicycle on the sea, and saw the face of the cyclist clearly, and see the bloodline and injuries on the cyclist. Hiss. The sea soldier gasped, and unconsciously took a step back. That is, Aokiji Admiral. He got hurt. At this moment, his face was full of unbelievable horror. This is one of the 3 admirals in the headquarters, known as Marine's top combat power? Injured? No, this must be my misreading. He really couldn't imagine that in this kind of place, who could hurt a Marine admiral with the ability of Logia fruit like this? With some difficulty, he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The sailor on duty didn't dare to delay, so he turned around and ran to report. Located in a room on the 2nd floor of the warship, an old man wearing a dog hat, holding a donut in his hand, and still chewing in his mouth, couldn't help squinting his eyes slightly after hearing the duty report. Yu said in a deep voice. Kuzan, he's here too, injured. The sea soldier who reported hesitated for a while, and added, looks like it's hurt. Hearing this, the old man wearing a dog's head hat slowly walked out the door. I see. While talking, the old man wearing a dog hat. He also threw the last donut in his hand into his mouth. Chapter 46 Comparable to the red-haired conquerors, is this a genius or a monster? Go forward in the corridor leading to the deck. But when they met this old man wearing a dog's head hat, there was no one who would not salute him respectfully. Master Vice Admiral. Vice Admiral Garp. Vice Admiral Garp. Facing the greetings from the subordinate officials, Garp also nodded with a smile, walked out of the shipbuilding, went down the deck, and came to the side of the ship. Garp also saw Aokiji, who was driving towards this side on a bicycle. After careful observation, Garp found out that Aokiji was really injured, and judging from his face, it seemed that it was not serious. Garp couldn't help frowning at this scene. Not long after this, Aokiji rode a bicycle to the dog-headed warship. Before he could say hello first, on the deck of the warship, Garp's deep voice came. Kuzan. Aokiji looked up and saw Garp's frown and gloomy expression. Mr. Garp. Garp's head lifted slightly. Overlooking Aokiji below, Garp's tone was still low and muddy. What's the matter with your injury? However, Garp's serious look didn't last long. In the next second, he broke the power directly, and laughed out loud. What happened? You must have been cleaned up by someone, right? Ha 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 ha. Hearing this, Aokiji also showed a little helpless expression. After getting off the bicycle, Aokiji stood on the ice floe and pondered for a moment. Well, a lot of things happened. In short, I was beaten up by someone. Garp folded his arms, a smile on his lips. Who did it? Red hair? Or other cotters? Kaido, Whitebeard, Big Mo is unlikely to appear in this kind of place. Aokiji didn't answer right away. Instead, he picked up his bicycle, jumped into the middle of the warship. After that, he leisurely replied. Neither. It's an unknown little pirate named Zhangzhe. Hearing Aokiji's answer like this, Garp was visibly taken aback. Are you joking with the old man? A majestic admiral, let an unknown little pirate make this look, and knocked off the wheels of the bicycle. Obviously, Garp doesn't believe Aokiji's explanation. Is Admiral a joke? Perhaps the strongest one may not be Admiral, but Admiral's strength is undoubtedly top-notch. Therefore, the 3 admirals in the headquarters will be known as Marine's top combat power. But now Aokiji actually said, he let a little pirate with no ranking be beaten into this appearance. This is even more unconvincing than the red hair appearing here and injuring him. Being teased by Garp, Aokiji couldn't help but look at his bicycle, the wheels condensed by ice. With a bit of embarrassment on his face, Aokiji thought for a while and explained. Well, it was an accident, the wheel was thrown crooked by a stone. Simply explain the wheel thing. Aokiji's face also became serious. However, what I just said is true, it's not a joke. Although that guy is a little pirate, he looks very young, he looks about 20 years old. But his strength is very strong. The time I played against him was not too long, but it was also a short while. I just discovered his mastery of haki use. And he still has it. Only one person in a million will have the Conqueror's haki. And the degree of control over it is equally astonishingly exquisite. Seeing Aokiji say these words with such a serious expression, Garp's complexion finally changed. The smile subsided unconsciously. Garp repeated for confirmation. Even conquerors can be used superbly? How far is his conquerors? Aokiji thought for a moment, then spoke solemnly. He's really masterful with haki, I've experienced that firsthand. As for how conquerors he is, I don't know, if you have to say it, except red hair. I haven't felt the similar degree of oppression from anyone's body, that kind of breath oppression that makes people feel as if they are about to be suffocated. As soon as Aokiji said these words, even Garp, who has seen the big world, also set off turbulent waves in his heart at this moment. Other than the red hair, who has not felt a similar degree of breath oppression. What does this mean? Kuzan is one of the 3 admirals at naval headquarters. How many strong men have you seen? It is the 4 emperors who are now ruling the hegemony, known as the emperors of the sea. Among them, which one would have the conqueror's haki without this overlord? Even some of their crew, the cotters, have conqueror's haki. The red-haired conqueror's haki is recognized as the strongest? But even so, Aokiji said anyway, except for the red-haired conquerors, he hasn't felt the oppression of someone's conquerors, which is similar to that called Zhangzhe. Doesn't that mean, on conqueror's haki, he's the first man under red hair? Even on par with redheads? Thinking of this possibility, Garp's pupils contracted sharply uncontrollably. The expression of unbelievable horror is fully displayed on the surface at this moment. At the age of 20, the level of conquerors is comparable to that guy with red hair. Conquerors are not the kind of people who can become stronger through training. Is this a genius? Or a monster? Even Aokiji was hurt like this by him. The pupils trembled unconsciously. Garp still couldn't believe it. But he also understood that Aokiji would not joke with him about this kind of thing. Just when the horror in Garp's heart was not out of date, Aokiji spoke again. Mr. Garp, if you meet that guy one day, be careful. Garp was slightly taken aback, and looked up subconsciously. Immediately afterwards, he grinned and said, "Brat, do you think this old man is old and useless, and can't even deal with a brat?" As he spoke, Garp raised his sandbag-sized fist. However, Aokiji shook his head with a calm face. "No, Mr. Garp. I just want to tell you that the guy named Zhangja who claims to be the captain of the battle pirates is very dangerous and needs to be on guard." While talking, Aokiji scratched his cheek in embarrassment again. Although he looks young, he is very strong. After all, this time, I almost died in his hands. Hear this. Garp's pupils shrank suddenly, and his pupils trembled violently like an earthquake. Even you almost died in his hands. Are you joking with the old man? At this moment, Garp showed an unprecedented look of horror on his face. Aokiji's words and this news were like a blockbuster, stirring up waves in Garp's heart. One of the 3 admirals in this part? Marine's top combat power. He almost died in this paradise, almost died in the hands of an unknown little pirate? What the hell, are you kidding? This is not funny. Chapter 47. Am I letting him beat you, stupid? This time Aokiji didn't answer, but looked at Garp seriously. And Garp also took Aokiji's advice seriously in his heart. Also at this time, a man with bandages all over his body, like a mummy, with a big cigarette dangling from his mouth. A woman with a saber hanging from her waist slowly appeared on the deck. "Is the pattern of the flag and sail of their ship a skull with 2 sides on it?" came the man's somewhat hoarse voice. The sudden words made Aokiji look up. It also made Garp turn around and look over. Looking at the man whose body was covered in bandages and who couldn't make out his face, Aokiji was obviously taken aback. Then he turned his head to look at Garp beside him, and asked with a puzzled expression, "Mr. Garp, who is this?" Garp picks his nostrils. "Oh, him? It's a kid named Smoker." Smoker, whose whole body was bandaged like a mummy, couldn't help but twitched the corners of his mouth when he heard Garp introduce himself like this. Even Tashiji, who followed Smoker. At this moment, he also smiled a little awkwardly. Aokiji nodded. "That's it." Garp flicked the thing he picked out casually, and said lightly, "When he got on the boat, he was just like you. He was also cleaned up by others. It seems that he was also cleaned up by an unknown little pirate. It's just that Aokiji doesn't care about these." Turning his back to Garp and waving his hands, Aokiji greeted Garp in a calm tone. "Really? Then I'll go and treat the injury first. The doctor should be in the cabin, right?" Hearing this, Garp reprimanded Aokiji angrily. "This old man is not a rescue station, you bastards." Aokiji turned and walked towards the cabin of the warship. "Is there no other way? I met Mr. Garp and your warship along the way." Garp froze for a moment, thinking thoughtfully. "Really? That's really impossible." On the side, Smoker looked helpless. "Well, can you ignore what I said earlier?" Garp looked away, blinking. "Did you just say something?" When the words came to his lips, Smoker was at a loss for words, and suddenly didn't know what to say. After a moment of silence, he had no choice but to sigh helplessly, and spoke again. "I just... Haki." However, before he could say anything, there was a sudden snoring sound in front of him. Looking up, Garp was already blowing snot, and fell asleep standing up. Smoker looked stunned. Tashiji in the rear is also a little ashamed. Asleep? Vice Admiral Garp. Even Smoker, at the moment, is also a little angry. Vice Admiral Garp. But it was also at this moment that Aokiji's voice suddenly came over. "Oh, I remembered. I don't know what his flag sail pattern looks like. I didn't see their ships at the time." After speaking, Aokiji waved his hand. And Smoker only reacted at this time. "The person I want to ask is never Garp, but Admiral Aokiji of the headquarters." Thinking of this, Smoker couldn't help complaining to himself in his heart. "Am I letting him make a fool of me? I can't tell the difference between this kind of thing. Time flies." In a blink of an eye, it was already night. In a certain sea area, on the ship of the pirate group. Is this how these damn guys treat their companions? Unacceptable. Are they using us like livestock? These guys don't treat us as human beings at all. The 4 chefs, sailors, and helmsmen cursed with angry faces. At this time, they were all so angry that the veins on their foreheads were bulging. Navigator on the side of the room. Hearing everyone's cursing, he slowly opened his eyes and looked at the 4 people. "It's all up to now, don't you still know the difference?" As soon as the navigator said this, the guys who were already full of anger raised their heads immediately, and said in a deep voice with a hint of anger, "What are you talking about? BCH. Distinguish what? Distinguish that the young captain has taken a fancy to you, so he doesn't order you." The 2 middle-aged men directly insulted the navigator. The other 2 slightly younger men didn't speak. But the face is also full of dissatisfaction and dissatisfaction. They had a bad day. In other words, the 4 of them had a bad time. Because everything on the ship was taken care of by them. Cleaning, tidying up the room, organizing the warehouse, counting materials, stacking and sorting, etc. There are light and heavy. They resisted, protested. but the only response to them was violence. They were forced to do a day's work, and tomorrow, they will face the same situation again. Only the 4 of them tidy up this huge ship. When will it be tidied up? How many days will it take to sort it out? But the navigators who boarded the ship with them were treated very differently from them. Apart from planning the route, but paying attention to the sky and the sea, there is basically nothing to do. Who can change it? Who can stand this anger? However, although he was insulted, the navigator was not angry. She calmly watched the complaining 4 people, and spoke in a calm tone. Be sober? What companion? Can't you see it? From the very beginning, they never thought of us as their companions. Didn't you find out? Whether it was when we were in prison, when we were just rescued, or now, they never asked for our names. From this point, it is not difficult to see that they have never thought of us as companions. Navigator's words of analysis and explanation. The pupils of all the people present couldn't help constricting for a while. Soon, someone stood up and refuted the navigator's words. If it's really like what you said, they never regarded us as companions, then why did they take so much trouble to rescue us? The navigator gave him a cold look and said mercilessly, "Are you really stupid or fake? Why do we come out with so much trouble? Because they lack navigators, cooks, sailors, and us handymen." The words of the navigator left the person who spoke immediately speechless. The navigator also continued to speak. They never took our own needs seriously. What they pay attention to is only how valuable this matter is to them. So, no matter how hard and tired you are, any request you make with them will be ignored. We are captives, prisoners. In their eyes, we are just tools. Handymen? That's all. Find out the situation in front of you. After all, the navigator stopped talking and slowly closed his eyes to rest his mind. And the 4 handymen also became silent at this moment. After a long while, suddenly a person showed a fierce look, slapped the table viciously and said angrily, "Boom! Back to them." Chapter 48. Loyalty or not, it doesn't matter at all. As soon as these words came out, the eyes of the people around them all turned to the middle-aged man who spoke. Hey, you, are you serious?" a man said with some astonishment. The middle-aged man turned his head, with an unabated expression of anger on his face. "Otherwise, do you think I'm joking?" Another middle-aged man heard this. Finally, he no longer suppressed the dissatisfaction and anger in his heart, and agreed. "I agree with your decision. Those guys treat us like livestock. I can't bear it, and I can't bear it." As they spoke, the 2 middle-aged men looked up at the navigator not far away at the same time. The navigator only glanced at them both. He said lightly, "Don't look at me, don't count me, I don't need to take this risk. Similarly, I will pretend that I didn't hear what you said today." After speaking, the navigator left the room without looking back. Seeing this, the 2 middle-aged men only narrowed their eyes slightly, but did not do anything else. After a while, the 2 of them turned to look at the other 2 men. "What about the 2 of you? Do you want to work for them like an animal, or join us?" Hearing what the 2 middle-aged men said, they hesitated a little. After hesitating for a while, a man raised his concerns. "However, we don't have an advantage in numbers, and we don't even have weapons." The middle-aged man's face turned cold when he heard this. "What about the number of people? The whole ship's food needs to pass through our hands. We just need to poison the food directly, as many of them will die." The man asked again suspiciously. "But where did we get the poison?" The middle-aged man's expression changed, and he said angrily, "You." Before he finished speaking, another middle-aged man interrupted him by raising his hand. "There is no rush for this matter. Observe for a day or 2 first, find out their bottom line, and then make plans." Seeing that the words have reached this point, the people around stopped arguing and became quiet. After all, what he said did make sense. However, what none of the 4 handymen knew was, the topic of discussion between them is in the eyes of Zhangzhe and others. It is tantamount to plotting loudly in their presence. In Zhangzhe's room, "Do you need me to deal with them?" Sifur stood by the door, looked at Zhangzhe and asked indifferently. Zhangzhe shook his head with a smile. "Don't bother, just pretend you didn't hear it." Sifur was a little puzzled when he heard this, but the expression on his face didn't change at all, even his tone was still so cold. "Why?" Zhangzhe smiled and looked at Sifur. "I actually don't care what they think, and I don't care what they say about me behind my back. None of these are harmless to me. I just look at what they do and what I want them to do. It's just planning some impossible things behind the scenes. There is no need to kill them immediately. At least not now. When they can't help but really take action that day, or there are no more people on board, it won't be too late to deal with a few of them to make an example of others." While speaking, the smile on Zhangzhe's face gradually faded. It returned to its original calm appearance. "I never cared if they were loyal to me or not. I just need them to fear me. Fear me, so that you dare not disobey me? This is enough. It doesn't matter to me what they think." After listening to Zhangzhe's words, Sifur nodded slightly. Without saying anything, he turned around and left Zhangzhe's room. And Zhangzhe then lay down on the bed and entered the dreamland. Boom boom boom. Next morning, there was a knock on Zhangzhe's door early in the morning. Zhangzhe, who was on the bed, also slowly opened his eyes amidst the knock on the door. Looking sideways at the door, Zhangzhe frowned slightly. Immediately afterwards, he stood up and walked towards the door. Squeak! Echoed with a piercing sound. The wooden door of the room was slowly opened by Zhangzhe. A short figure also came into Zhangzhe's eyes. and she was also one of yesterday's intruders. The little girl who was about 7 or 8 years old. What are you doing here? Zhang Zhe's tone was calm, and no emotional fluctuations could be heard. The visiting little girl looked at Zhang Zhe. Some lowered their heads in fear, their voice trembling with fear. I'm sorry. Did I interrupt your rest? What's the matter? Zhang Zhe asked again. Listen to Zhang Zhe's indifferent inquiry. The little girl immediately picked up the water basin that was almost bigger than half of her body, and gritted her teeth with some difficulty. I called you water for washing. He looked at the water basin in the little girl's hand, and then at her face that was gradually flushing from suffocation. Zhang Zhe was silent for a moment, took the basin with one hand and put it aside. The little girl let out a long breath of relief, with a slight smile on her face, just about to say something. But Zhang Zhe asked her again one step ahead of her. Who asked you to bring me the washing water? Suddenly being asked by Zhang Zhe, the little girl couldn't help showing a trace of panic on her face. Unconsciously lowering her head, the little girl grabbed the corner of her clothes nervously, and said in a faltering way, Yes, I want to deliver it myself. Looking at the appearance of the little girl, Zhang Zhe lost the idea of continuing to ask. Immediately afterwards, he waved his hand casually and dismissed. The water has been delivered, so let's go. Seeing that it was time to go, the little girl's joy showed on her face. Thank you, then I'll go first. The task my sister entrusted to me has been successfully completed. The little girl was happy in her heart, and walked briskly, haven't gone far yet. She couldn't help herself, and jumped up and down happily. And Zhang Zhe just stared at it for a moment. He went back to the room and slowly closed the door. Click. Chapter 49 Fight against the pirates and launch a rebellion? After washing, Zhang Zhe's eyes fell on the sea outside the round window on the other side. Looking at the seagulls flying in the blue sky, looking at the calm blue sea, Zhang Zhe's thoughts drifted to other places involuntarily. Will the arrest warrant come out today? Sifer and Yuanyi will probably be left behind, right? On the other side, the little girl just jumped out of the cabin and came to the deck. I met the navigator who was about to go to the second floor of the ship head-on. At the first sight of the navigator, the little girl seemed frightened. The smile on his face turned into astonishment and fear in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the little girl lowered her head and obediently stepped aside. Faced with this sudden scene, the navigator couldn't help being slightly taken aback. Immediately after seeing a smile on her face, she beckoned to the little girl with a smile. Come over. The little girl raised her head. Although she was a little scared, after hesitating for a while, she obediently walked towards the navigator. What's your name? The navigator asked gently. Mona. The little girl responded in a low voice. What are you doing down there? The navigator asked again. Meng Na also answered honestly. Go and deliver water for the captain's washing. Hearing this, the navigator couldn't help looking at the door leading to the cabin below. Is that so? Then tell me, what is the captain's expression when he sees you delivering water to him? It seems a little unhappy. Meng Na thought for a while. The navigator nodded thoughtfully, and didn't ask any more questions. Soon, she let Mona leave. And she also walked to the second floor of the ship. The day was uneventful, and the sea level was calm. The arrest warrant that Zhang Zhe had in mind has not yet been released. Time flies too. As if in a blink of an eye, night had already fallen. In a small room where the navigator is. The navigator who was just about to go to bed suddenly heard a knock on the door. Boom, boom, boom. This surprised Hna Shang, sat up and asked with a frown. Who? There was a moment of silence outside the room. Then came a hoarse voice that was deliberately suppressed. This is not suitable for talking, come to the place last night. I believe that this time, even you will be very interested. The hoarse voice fell, before the navigator could reply. The figure outside the door had already stepped away. The navigator sat on the bed and frowned in thought, but he didn't get out of bed immediately. What do these guys want to do? Another place. The handyman also returned to their rooms once after a hard day's work. The three of them sat around a wooden table, all of them listless from exhaustion. I really have had enough of this kind of life. Those damned guys, if they really don't do anything, they know how to direct us to do things. Oh, don't complain, I'm patient, as long as the time comes, all this will be over. As he spoke, the room fell into silence. At this time, the three handymen also noticed something was wrong, raised their heads, and frowned suspiciously. Huh? Why is there one person missing? Where did Tabor go? While speaking, the three handymen looked at each other. In the next second, they all stood up. But just as they were about to go out to find Tabor, the wooden door of the room was indeed suddenly opened. Squeak. The figure of a middle-aged man also caught the eyes of the three handymen. And he is Tabor. Where are you going? Looking at the three handymen who stood up, Tabor asked with a smile. The three handymen were all taken aback by Tabor's sudden question. Immediately afterwards, the three of them looked at each other and said, No, we actually want to find you. That's right, we found that you were not here, and we still wondered where you went. Having said that, one of the younger handymen noticed Tabor's smiling face. This can't help but make him ask with some doubts. What's wrong with you? Did something good happen to you? You seem to be in a good mood. Tabor smiled, and let it go meaningfully. It's not just a good thing, it's a great thing. However, allow me to keep a secret now. There is still one person who hasn't arrived. Who? The three handymen asked in confusion. But at this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind Tabor. I should have said earlier that you don't need to count me in the incident of rebellion. What the hell are you calling me this time? As the voice fell, the navigator's figure also appeared behind Tabor. Tabor smiled. I was talking about you, and you came, so I won't continue to play tricks. After finishing speaking, Tabor took out a newspaper and threw it on the wooden table. Snapped. Seeing this, the navigator and the three handymen were taken aback. Newspaper? What's this for? Tabor smiled and explained. This is the newspaper I accidentally found while cleaning today. It's dated just a few days ago. Coincidentally, the news about those guys is recorded here. Hearing Tabor's words, the faces of all the people present changed, and the eyes that looked at the newspaper seemed to be full of enthusiasm. You can open it and have a look, it's on the tail column of this newspaper, Tabor reminded with a smile. Immediately afterwards, the middle-aged man among the three handymen. He grabbed the newspaper and opened it, and set his sights on the last column of the newspaper. The captain of the battle pirates, Zhang Zhe, offers a bounty of 6 million Baileys. The guy with the silver hair. His bounty is 3 million Baileys. White Mask. 4 million Baileys. Another brat, 3.5 million Baileys. Seeing this series of reward amounts, the three handymen raised their heads in disbelief. At this moment, their pupils were shrinking sharply, and their eyes were trembling violently. Even the navigator on one side couldn't help but widen their eyes after hearing the reward amount. Seeing such great reactions from his companions, Tabor nodded in satisfaction and asked with a smile. Surprised. To be honest, I was surprised when I discovered this. Having said that, Tabor's face suddenly became extremely angry. We let this group of garbage, like ants, drive and enslave. 2 days? For 2 full days, we were driven like cattle. Driven by this bunch of garbage. I'm the pirate Tabor with a bounty of 23 million Baileys. This group of rubbish, the bounty offered by all members is not as high as mine, and I am afraid of them. After all, Tabor looked up at the three handymen. Does any of you have a bounty that is less than 6 million Baileys? At this moment, the expressions of the three handymen all changed. They became stiffer, and all the haze on their faces was swept away. Put on that vicious expression. An ant with 6 million Baileys can also be the captain? My reward is Ferguson with 13 million Baileys. Another middle-aged man said angrily. The 2 younger men also reported their bounties after hearing this. 10 million Baileys, Gro. 9 million Baileys, Augustus. As the last handyman reported his bounty, the rest of the people also turned their attention to the navigator. After hesitating for a while, the navigator announced his bounty and name. 7 million Baileys, Lucini. Hearing this, Tabor also showed a ferocious smile on his face. Spreading his hands slowly, Tabor glanced around and said, Look, look. If we randomly pick anyone out here, the bounty offered is higher than that of that little devil's captain. Why does he stand on our heads and shit and pee? Why? Do you really think that he is the captain of this ship, and everyone on the ship will listen to him? Chapter 50 Stop being merciful, come and kill me. When I think of my man with 23 million Baileys being used like an animal by that scum with a reward of only 6 million, I can't wait to tear him to pieces. Tabor gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and the veins on his forehead bulged. At this moment, he was very angry, and Ferguson seemed to be exaggerated by Tabor's anger. In the next second, he slammed the table and said angrily, Boom, go and kill that kid now, cut his body into pieces and throw him into the sea to feed the fish. Tabor raised his hand and stopped Ferguson. At the same time, he turned his head and looked at Lucy Nideo. How? Now you should also understand that we and them are not on the same level, right? Don't tell me that after you know their strength and details, you are still willing to serve these little kids. At the end of the conversation, Tabor looked at Lucini's eyes and couldn't help but narrowed his eyes slightly. He hoped that Lucini would change her mind and join their camp. In this way, if it is 5 vs 7, even if the opponent has a weapon and they don't, the chance of winning is as high as 90%. But if Lucy and I was against them, it would become 4 versus 8. With the double disadvantage of numbers and weapons, their chances of winning would be greatly reduced. Besides, they have been working hard all day, and their condition is not very good. Working for them is not really counted, it can only be regarded as mutual use. They need navigators, and I need to get out of that ghostly place. Lucy and I responded with a smile on her face. At this time, her heart is complicated. From the very beginning, she felt a faint sense of uneasiness. It always feels like something bad is going to happen. But now that I know so much, I definitely can't just pat my A and leave like this. If you join them, once the uneasiness becomes a reality, then you will suffer. But if they don't join, once they succeed in rebelling, then they have to finish the game. As for neutrality, such an option would not exist. Choosing neutrality is tantamount to choosing to be settled by the Fall Queen. That is when Tabor and the others were discussing fiercely how to execute Zhang Zhe. What they don't know is, almost all the members of the pirates' battle are dispatched at this moment. At this time, it was Tabor and the others. The closest moment to Shinigami. Da-da-da-da. The dense and heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor of the cabin. The members of the battle pirates are all heading towards the end of the corridor, the door leading to the deck of the ship. Obito took the lead and walked at the front of the line. Although I can't see the expression on his face at the moment, but it is not difficult to see from the eyes under his white mask that there is killing intent in it. Beside him, Ji Kuyuan held the handle of the knife with one hand, with a cold expression on his face. On the side of the hungry wolf's forehead, there were already bulging veins. With his hands in his trouser pockets, he was trying his best to suppress the anger in his heart. Yu Guyutai, who was behind Hungry Wolf, no longer had that harmless and kind face. Instead, it was the obvious gloomy face. Even Tiandao Pain, a cold-faced man, had a rare coldness in his eyes. Those ants-like fellows dare to slander the captain and us in this way? They should be damned. They should be damned. Hungry Wolf said in a low voice with anger on his face. Heavenly Dao Pain seldom speaks at ordinary times, and at this moment, he rarely speaks out of the blue. We have to teach these ignorant monkeys a painful lesson, so that they can see themselves clearly. Squeak. In front of the team, the sound of the wooden door on the side of the corridor being pushed open spread. Wearing a white dress, with a long knife hanging from his waist, Sifur with emerald green eyes walked out slowly. Immediately afterwards, the wooden door further ahead was pushed open. Squeak. Holding a fishing rod in one hand, Zhang Jia came out of the room yawning. In the room where Tabor and others are located. Although Lucini vaguely said that she would help herself when the time came. But in Tabor's view, things have stabilized. Seeing this, the impatient Ferguson immediately proposed. Since we have decided, let's take advantage of the night and kill them all at once. As soon as I heard that this is the rhythm that is about to start, Jero and Augustus couldn't help but startled. Why are you in a hurry? Do you want to plan first? What's the plan? How many plans do we need to deal with this group of youngsters? Ferguson frowned, and the more he talked, the more excited he became. Fortunately, Tabor on the side spoke in time to stop it. Calm down, Ferguson. Although dark night is a good time, it also depends on the time. We have worked hard for 2 days and need a good rest. Although our strength is stronger than them, our disadvantages in numbers and equipment will undoubtedly make this battle a protracted one. So, raising the spirit is what we have to do now. As for those brats, even if we show mercy, let them live one more night. Hearing Tabor's words, Ferguson also fell into deep thought. After weighing it up, he also felt that what Tabor said was very reasonable, so he nodded in agreement with Tabor's point of view. But it was also at this time. A joking voice full of jokes suddenly came from outside the room. Don't be merciful and let us live another night. Come. If you are capable. Come and kill us now. Hear the sudden words. Everyone in the room was startled, and turned their heads to look outside the door with a look of astonishment. Tabor's pupils trembled even more, and he said with an unbelievable astonishment on his face. This, how could it be? Why are they here?